This is it. We are here. The Cheltenham Festival, day one, Racing Post live in conjunction with the Betfair Exchange, where you're going to get all the real-time action each day this week. It doesn't get any better than this. You'll be watching us watching the races. We'll be looking at all the market moves as they happen. What will the ground or race times be like after race one? You won't get it anywhere quicker than here. Myself, Dave Orton, delighted to be with you in the chair, hosting three wise men for the day. Delighted to say two-time festival winning jockey Andrew Tinkler joins us in the studio. Andrew.
Welcome, thank you very much.
Graham Rodway, Trading Post. Naps are plenty, pearls are plenty.
Let's hope that we have a few winners, Dave, because it could be a very, very expensive day if I don't.
There's every chance of that, G-Rod. There's every chance of having seen your selections. Neil Hubbard joins us from Betfair.
Hi Dave, how's
You're going to keep us abreast?
Yep, that's the plan throughout the whole
Teach
week.
us a few things about the exchange. I mean, I'm still a little bit green on that front. Tinks has got literally no idea, so he's going to be our layman. G-Rod, you are probably the most accomplished, I'd imagine, out of us. Is that right?
No pressure. Yeah, don't just put the pressure on.
But
me,
you
Dave.
love an in-running play, don't you? I mean, I don't do it. I'm too emotional.
Yeah, I do like a bet. Yeah, in running particularly. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't like a bet?
And
Especially at Cheltenham.
Neil, are you greened up already, or are you going to...
Not quite yet, but hopefully we'll showcase some of those little ways of playing the exchange as we go through the day, for sure.
OK, then. We're not too far away from the Supreme. Alistair Down, the great Alistair Down. Great to have Alistair back, isn't it? On the front page of the Post, he starts his article with, "O come all ye faithful." And I have to say, this morning, as I was walking on the way to the tube, I was like, "Merry Cheltenham, happy Cheltenham" to people. They thought I was absolutely mad, of course. But people, you can see people picking up the Post. It's just one of these days, isn't it, Andrew? Your second festival not riding.
Second festival not riding, yeah. Last year was my first festival riding, but I didn't get a ride last year, but it'll be a weird experience. I'm going to go tomorrow on the social, have a good day and see it from the other side. So,
having seen you on the social, thank God I'm in here. G-Rod, you've written so many words about it now. You've put up all your anti-post picks. I've seen some of your selections. We're going head-to-head in a couple of them. So when you said you better have a few winners, on some of them I'm with you on. Neil,
Yeah.
anti-post portfolio?
I've got one dart that's running today, which is Super Sunday in the Champion. So fingers crossed on him. There's been a bit of money for him,
isn't there?
Yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
of love for him.
Yeah, probably more your sort of win and place angle to the race, but it's wide open, isn't it? So you couldn't really put anybody off anything that they fancy in it.
It's the big race of the day, so let's have a quick market update of the Champion Hurdle. What sort of price is Epatante to JP McManus? It's JP McManus' birthday today, we should say, and he's got some massive arrows. You can see him. He's going to have a big punt, isn't he? It's going to happen. Is this it?
Yeah, well, she was around 7-2 this time yesterday, so 4.5 on the exchange, but she's much shorter than that now. She's trading at about 5-2, so the money's come for her. And then next in the market is Silas Emery, 9.4, so that's around the 8-1 mark. And then Pentland Hills is the one that nobody wants in this market. He was around 7.0, so 6-1 this time yesterday.
Yeah.
But he's out double figures now, so he's like a 10-1 poke on the exchange.
So we're looking at your screen there. We're going to be doing that throughout the show. We're going to see exactly where Neil is going. We're going to also be putting up a few team punts, I think, aren't we, throughout the week?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to play it. I mean, like, in any exchange market, there are people in there, backing things because they think it will happen. There'll be people the other side of that backing things because they don't think it will happen. So we'll go through the races, hopefully highlight a few angles, and then put them into action on the screen.
It's going to get raucous in here today, let me tell you. I hope you're ready for this out here. It's been a little bit of banter going on already. Andrew, from a jockey's perspective, we can't wait to see. And I mean, it's heavy ground in places now, we should say. That was a bit of a bombshell. Andrew will be telling us where he thinks it's going to be most testing, where you want to be. Do you want that stand side rail? The markets in running are going to be carnage today, aren't they? Let's face it. So let's have a look at some market action for you right now, in fact. We can get there. And as if by magic, up on the screen. Whoa, there it is. 130, the Supreme. Now, we're going to have our own roar, I think, in here, chaps. As the tapes go up, we get it in the office, don't we? So why can't we have it here? Asterion Phalange, then. He's found his way into favouritism, is he? And Neil, roughly, is that 3-1 under pressure?
It's been a really interesting market since around this time yesterday, because the one horse that nobody wants is Shishkin. So this time yesterday, if you were looking at this market, Shishkin was favourite. So he was around the same price as what Asterion Phalange is now at 3-1. Overnight, though, well, back end of yesterday, overnight this morning, as you can see now, he's out to near 9 on the exchange. So that's 8-1. And if you think that yesterday he was 3,
yeah,
and on the exchange in general, around 25% of all anti-post money has been on Shishkin as well. And yet in the last 12 hours, he's been totally friendless.
Now, we'll all have our ideas as to about what that is, but listen, let's remind you, and we want to hear from you out there. Don't forget that. You can do it. We know you're watching. Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are. Twitter, we're out there. Let's have your comments. Let's have your social selections as well. We're going to give you a big shout out all the way. And let's face it, this is the market that the bookmakers use on track. We're going to see if a horse goes loony on the way to the start, could be Notebook, couldn't it? A little bit later on, we are going to know first. Happy days. So, Shishkin. Let's go there first. Andrew, you like a Henderson horse. I like a Henderson horse. It's not Shishkin.
It's not Shishkin, no. It's Santry House for me.
Why is Shishkin so weak?
Don't know why it's so weak, but it is concerning. It'd be fascinating to hear how right the market is right close to the off with these events like these, because obviously the drift is concerning. You'd love to see if he was in better form, etc. The money should be coming for him. I'm mad keen on his stablemate Chantry House.
Yeah, so am I.
He's just done nothing wrong for me. I think he's been winning races with lots in hand. He's already got proven form around the course. He's handled soft ground. Yes, he's a chaser in the making, but I think today he's sort of like the slightly forgotten horse.
So when we're watching the first race live, you're going to be watching us, of course. There's a slight angle there. You're going to see our reactions as it happens. If you go up and hit your head on the roof, it's going to be Chantry for you.
I think so.
As stable jockey to Nicky Henderson, which you were for many, many a year, your 2 festival winners came from Hendo. Is that down to the ground? Did you sort of buy into that? A lot of people are thinking it's soft ground, it's heavy in place. I'll come to you, G1, in a minute on that from a tipster angle. But as a jockey, did you think, where's this rain coming from? Because he trains fast horses, doesn't he?
Of course, and he tends to have his best form on the likes of Kemptons, Huntingdons. That's where he introduces his good novice hurdlers. For some reason, the way he trains his horses, they act better on better ground, but they're also a very, very high-class animal, and I think the likes of Chantry House won't mind any cut at all.
G-Rod, Shishkin, with him, not with him?
I'm not with him. I think the reason on the drift is because he just got to the wrong price.
No graded form?
No, he was 5-2 favourite, 3-1 favourite, really, with no obvious reason as to why. I know he was impressive when he won at Newbury, but that form doesn't stack up anywhere near of what the Willie Mullins horse is bringing in. Asterion Falange, who absolutely bolted up in the Grade 1.
Is that where you're going on this?
Had Leopardstown last time, and I'm going to stick with the favourite. It's so boring, I know, but it's just simple, isn't it? This is Willie Mullins. This is the Supreme Novices Hurdle. This is the Tuesday at Cheltenham. He's won 4 of the last 7. And he's got such a strong ammunition to choose from.
First stat from G-Rod. We should ring a bell for that, shouldn't we? The first stat, which we've been piling out. We've got loads of them for you.
But it's interesting. Like the one thing I like about horses at Cheltenham, and Tinks might be able to bring us in on this, is like when you see those horses, they're sort of dead keen. When they're sort of dead keen, they're raring to go. They're the sort of horses that I'm looking to back at Cheltenham, because they're going to go a good pace. They're going to be going fast. So it's going to make those horses that can sometimes really, really go for the bridle. It's going to make them settle a little bit better, can bring improvement from them. And this is one thing that I always think about the Nicky Henderson horses in particular. Something that I notice more about the Henderson horses than anyone else really, is they always seem to be like champing at the bit to go.
Well, they travel very well. He trains them, when he does his fast work, he trains them over 1 mile on the grass, so they're taught to travel into the bridle really well. Hence why they're such good jumpers. He schools them very well, but because they're travelling, they're taking you down to the hurdles. Just today would be interesting. Obviously, they've put heavy in the ground recently from today. To me, they'll still go quick in the first. The times of the races will be massive.
Neil Hubbard from Betfair, let's bring you in. What price? Here's a question about Shishkin, seeing as he's got such a topical horse, Marmite now. What price would you be not wanting to lay him at? I mean, loads of people would have got stuck in, I'm assuming, on Betfair about 5-2 last week. Looked skinny, didn't it?
Yeah, it looks skinny. Actually, just in the time we've been talking, he's back into 7s from 8s already.
Sevens?
I reckon probably now. He's almost backable now for me. Like, I totally agree with what G-Rod was saying in terms of like 5-2 is short, is skinny. 3s, yeah, fair enough. 4s, fair enough. But every horse has its price, right? And we're sort of hitting that point now where you can back him at 7-1 on the exchange win. I mean, that's totally fair now, I think.
Neil Hubbard, who wins the Supreme? Who wins?
I'm an Asterion Falange guy. I'm in the same camp as G-Rod here. I just think he's got the same sort of profile as your Champagne Fever, Classical Dream, get on the front end and and make them get at it early doors, really.
Okay.
Just one question with the drift on Shishkin initially, and now obviously Chantry House has shortened.
Yeah.
Being stablemates, has that happened as one? Has that happened because Shishkin's drifted, the other money's coming? How does it work on that?
Actually, like the main beneficiary, if you want to call it that, for the Shishkin drift has been Abracadabras. That's where the money's come. So this time yesterday, he was around 8.0, so he was a 7-to-1 shot. He's into 4-to-1 now. So actually, the drift and the backing has sort of been mirrored between Shishkin and Abracadabras.
Well, the horses are just starting to come out onto the track now, Neil, as we speak. And Abracadabras is a really, really interesting horse because he is wearing a hood in the preliminaries. He's obviously got a little bit of a quirk about him. If you remember him in the bumper last year, if you watch back that replay now in your Racing Post Members Club, check it out. You're going to be thinking, please settle, please settle. He's really green.
This is very interesting footage here. Usually for the Supreme, you turn up and you canter up a furlong, up past the stand, circle at the top, then come back down. Today they're letting them go out the paddock and go straight to the start. That's unusual. That will keep horses that usually boil over, i.e. Shishkin possibly in this race, definitely Notebook in the Arkle if they follow the same protocol.
Yeah.
It will help keep a lid on them.
Let's look away from the market leaders then. We've got a couple coming in from social. I'm hearing in my ear who this is. Josh Taylor, you like Edwardstone out there. Ties in interestingly, doesn't he, G-Rod, with Chantry House beaten by him in a bumper at Warwick. Then he came out at Wincanton. Was that Badger Ales Day? It probably was, wasn't it? And he beat Fiddler on the Roof, who was shorter than him in the betting. Why?
Yes, but I think we've seen Fiddler on the Roof improve significantly.
Why did he get beaten that day? I seem to remember he went on the inside, didn't he? And Edwardstone, who likes the better ground, we should say, maybe got the best of it. I don't know.
The one thing that caught my eye about Edwardstone is, like we were saying just a minute ago about the hard pullers. I mean, he can take a tug, you know, and that was the worry for him when he got turned over, wasn't it? A short price. He just pulled his chance away. He needs to come back to the sort of form where he beat Fiddler on the Roof. But I mean, Fiddler on the Roof has made a massive jump since, and I'm not convinced that Fiddler on the Roof is good enough to win anyway. Although, of the British contenders, that win at Sandown.
Yeah, it was a quick time as well, wasn't it, that day? Let's go to Neil then. Is there any love for Edwardstone on the exchange? Is there any love for Fiddlers? He's held his price quite well.
Yeah, so Edwardstone is around 40 on the exchange, so you can get 39-1 in the win market for there. On Fiddler on the Roof, yeah, there has been money for him, so he's into 11-2 on the exchange in the win market. Yeah, so he's into 11-2, so there has been support this morning for him.
It's always very interesting on the Betfair market like that. When you see a horse like Fiddler on the Roof, who's like fifth down, but he's actually 6.2, whereas the two above him are significantly bigger prices. You can almost immediately gauge the sort of support that might have been coming for him.
I'm getting worried about Chantry now, looking at that. Why is he drifting so much? They're coming back in for Shishkin. I mean, actually, Nicky Henderson's horse is not love for anyone. I quite like Allard as well. He's done absolutely nothing wrong in his
If you
races.
take that Allard, though, like he won at Doncaster last time. The horse that he beat into second there was the same horse that, well, he beat him the same distance as Chancery House beat him at Newbury.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I think this is a deep Supreme. Can we agree on that?
It is. Allard needs to settle better. When he fell at Ascot, he was pulling turbo hard before he fell.
Yeah, but in those two races since, he's done pretty well, hasn't he? And on some of the horses he beat, it does bring him close to Chantry House.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting on the exchange here, because like we're talking about Asteria, Phalange, Abracadabra, Shishkin, whatever, a lot of the activity on this market is really based around those big five. If you look at those big five, the next price after them is Captain Guinness at 17.5. So it's quite a leap from, it's quite a leap from Chantry House at around 8-1, leap into Captain Guinness at 17-1.
Something I want to touch on here, chaps. It's the first race at Cheltenham Fest. We've got an awful long way to go, massively long week. Have you backed more than one horse in the race, first of all? I have. I've backed 2 Hendos. I've backed Chantry. I've backed Allard at a bit, and I've had a bit on Fiddlers as well. So they're my arrows against the likes of Shishkin, Asterian. Graham, I think he's going to jump right all the way. Tinks, have you backed... What's going to finish second to Chantry? If you were looking at that market, then I've got to keep him on side.
Asterian Phalange.
Asterian Phalange.
I haven't had more than one bet, but I was tempted to back Elixir Danae each way.
There's another one.
Because he ran well behind Envoy Lane a couple of starts ago, and then last time out they run him over 2 miles 6 on really testing ground at Leopardstown. He pulled too hard and didn't get home. So this is quite an interesting move, drop back in trip, isn't it, to 2 miles?
Could we see a boil over here, Neil?
I think there's actually quite a lot of money last minute for Asteria Phalange here. He's getting very close to 2-1
As
on the
they
exchange
are
now.
at the post. They're just circling at the minute for the first. And Supreme is nearly here.
The money.
Wow, we can feel the roar from here. Happy days. I'll tell you what, lads, when I started writing about the Cheltenham Festival in October, I didn't think I'd be sitting here with the three of you. I'm delighted I am. The gloves can come off today, can't they? Come on. Absolutely fantastic. So look, I'm having a look at them going, man. Edwardstone looks a little bit lit up to me, actually.
He does. Very interesting. Paul Townend has taken up a very prominent role on the steering for Longe. He's probably going to try and control the race from the front, a little bit like Ruby Walsh has in previous years.
Tinks, tell me at this point, you're walking round, your governor's probably told you exactly where he wants you to be over the first couple of hurdles.
And everybody else wants that same position, so you've got to muscle for it a little bit. The starting protocols have changed. This is a tense time for the jockeys, and you've got to keep your horse relaxed.
Right, we are revving up now. We're 5 seconds away to the start. They're going to be late. It started with a standing start, the Supreme last year. Let's hope we don't see too many of them. At the moment, it looks like the jocks are behaving themselves. Asterion right up there. Soviet Pimpernel right up there as well. Is he going to get an easy lead, Asterion? From a market perspective, Neil, what sort of price could he go over the first couple? Just should say that Abracadabra's taken a right pull as well, just on the inside.
But he's into 11 to 4 now, Abracadabra's, and Stereo Falange is around the 5 to 2 mark. So I think if we see him get an easy lead, then he's going to be sub 2 to 1.
We're going to find out literally in seconds. They're rushing
false
the tape.
False start, that'll be.
He's given a full start. Boo. Just as I was going to give the roar.
Unfortunately, the rules are now that they have to be.
It's got to be standing start again.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that should change. I think they should go back and have one more go at a pace, because it can inconvenience so many horses that haven't done anything wrong. There, it was very interesting. The likes of Barry Garrity.
Whose fault was that?
It's just all the horses rev, like I said about the position, everybody's wanting to get a good start.
It's a massive anticlimax.
It is.
G-Rod, come on.
As a punter, I absolutely hate this, because I have seen this happen before where I've had a lot of money on a horse, and then they all line up and stand up, and then the horse, it's hard sometimes, I don't know what you think, but it's hard to get some horses to get the go.
Some horses, you just don't do that. You don't start on a scudding ground from a standing start.
Imagine a flat race without stalls. Yeah. You know, they get trained to go from the bell, go
this
from
will
the
be carnage now, because he's going to have to come back off the tape and then come back again.
Edwardstone is not enjoying this. Neil, has the market reacted at all to anything in here? Have we seen any drifts about this? I mean,
no, absolutely no. That was going to be the point that I was going to make. You know, if we're looking at Stereo Falange trying to get on the front end there, and now he's got to go from a standing start, what impact's that going to have? But in truth, it hasn't really had any impact whatsoever.
Fiddler's is drifting out a little bit now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's gone the other way. And look at Shishkin now. He's hit 9 to 1 for the win on the Betfair exchange.
Gee, I want to come into you here. We know, don't we, that markets 10 minutes, but at Cheltenham, the couple of minutes leading in, that's where the big players start to hit, isn't it?
Yeah, and the two that have been really strong are the front two in the market.
Off.
Oh, they're off. Who was away well and who wasn't, basically. So it's not bad. Berkshire Royal, obviously madness having his first race in this. He wasn't too well away. Again, Edwardstone looking up there.
Interesting for Asterion Fallon, already out to his right.
Yeah, he jumped right at the first.
Oh, G-Rod, he's already gone out to his right. So, Asterion Fallon, Soviet Pimpernel pulling for Hez. Fiddlers on the roof. Lovely position on the inside.
Shishkin's keen behind him.
Shishkin is keen. Chantry House got a lovely. Barry Garrity, you know what you're going to get from Barry, don't you? Absolutely fantastic. Andrew?
Very interesting. Barry's got another JP run on his outside who will look after him to a point. He's not going to tighten up too much. Chantry House obviously the number one, so Barry will probably be asking Mark Walsh.
That's Elixir Denay, of course, isn't it?
Yeah, he may just be asking him. Don't worry, he'll make it aware that it's Barry there, not someone else.
So I'm a bit surprised. Oh, out he goes again over the second to his right, G. I'm surprised, G, that he has got a couple of lengths advantage already, Asterion.
Well, this is absolutely beautiful from my perspective, having back to Asterion and Falange. This is exactly the way I wanted the race to go.
That, he is sub 2 to 1 now to win this race.
Okay,
already.
so wow. All right, so let's have a look at some of the others. Shishkin, what sort of price are we talking now?
He's the same sort of price. He's into 8 to 1. So
he's actually settled quite nicely now after a couple of hurdles, Tinks, hasn't he?
So nice and interesting. Barry's just moving a little bit on Chantry House, which means they're obviously going a good gallop.
Okay, now that's exactly what we want to know. If you remember Classical Dream last year, he got such an easy lead, didn't he?
Yeah.
You could not come from off the pace. And we're getting an idea about the ground. I mean, they're not kicking up. I mean, look, it's Cheltenham. You're expecting a bowling green of sorts, but all the fresh ground. But they're not kicking it up too badly.
I don't think they're going crazy pace either.
Okay, there was a little mistake there. A couple, actually. I think Chantry and Shishkin went great. Let's talk about Abracadabras, G. He's settled a lot better than he did in the Champion Bumper.
He seems to be travelling very well in the midfield there. Obviously, he has got a few lengths to make up on his main market rival already, though. All
right, come on, lads. Let's call this. You're happy, G, with
I'm more than happy with my position.
I'm pretty happy with Chantry, Andrew. I don't know about you.
I think he's just flat out. He just needs to jump this well. Yeah, and he did, thank God.
Neil?
I was going to say I was quite happy with Fiddler on the Roof there, but he was a bit slow and sticky over that one. But the market hasn't changed massively other than Shishkin, who's gone right out to bigger than 20s.
The pace looks like it's slacked a little bit here, Tinks, to me.
Shishkin got murdered down the back straight. Paul Townend obviously just steadied it a little bit, and Allard actually tried to get up his inner. This is a very interesting part of the race now. Oh, Chantry House is messy there.
He's given away so much ground in front, isn't he?
Yeah,
jumping to the right.
Chantry, here comes Captain Guinness. There's been a lot of preview love for this horse, isn't there? Henry de Bromhead's horse, who ran Andy Dufresne very, very close last time. He's been kept for this. He's going really, really well at the moment. A couple of the rags are starting to struggle now. Looking for Edward Stone. Josh, he's still going well for you out there, actually. Edward Stone, he's coming back into it. Has he been that little bit too keen?
I think Alexia Dane's going okay there in second.
Come on, this is it then. We're going to 3 out. Soviet Pimpernel still going well. Chantry's coming back onto the bridle here, Tinks.
He is, and Barry will just be at pains to just give him a breather here now if he can, because it's going to be a long way home.
Asterian's gone right out to his right, didn't help Elixir at all. Abracadabra's still on the bridle. Look at Fiddler on the Roof, he's absolutely flat out. It just shows you that January heavy ground is not the same as March heavy ground.
Abracadabra's is cruising.
Yeah, he's favourite on the exchange now.
What implications would this have for Envoy Allen's prize tomorrow if he goes and wins? You do not want to be on the outside. Carnage Elixir's gone, brought down Captain Guinness. I'll tell you what, Paul Tannen's in for a hell of a ban. I'll tell you what, he's going absolutely right, left and centre. So we're going over the home turn.
The big two.
Asterian's there. Abracadabras has got him covered. Alart's running a big one. Come on, Alart. Come on, get him up. Picking up. Here comes Shishkin. Chantry House there as well. We're coming up to the last. Abracadabras has not been asked a thing. Here comes Shishkin. He's one of my lays of the week. I can't be having this. Asterian's absolutely gone. G, big up. Come on, Abracadabras. I cannot have Shishkin at all on my mind. 2 going clear. Abracadabras and Shishkin. And it looks like... Oh, it's neck and neck. Shishkin's pulling it out. Abracadabras hasn't quite got it. It's on the nod. It's on the nod.
Very close.
Mother of pearl.
Very close.
What a start to the Supreme. Abracadabras and Shishkin, the 2 long-time anti-post favourites, have come clear in a bobber. If we had to call it, far side?
I think Shishkin, but if he has got beat, he's very unlucky because he got killed down the back straight.
Unbelievable. G, call it.
I think Shishkin's just won.
Shishkin looks like he's got it on the bob. Neil Hubbard, please tell us the market is not saying Shishkin.
Yeah, it is Shishkin who's saying the market at the minute. He's favourite. You can back Abracadabras at 28, out to 42s now.
Wow, looks like just running on into third there was Chantry. Did you back him each way, Tinks?
I don't bet still.
Okay, if you believe that, you'll believe that. If you believe that, I backed him each way, thankfully, but I had put up the lay in all previews of Shishkin. It looks like he's done it. Shishkin has got Nicky Henderson's festival and a loads of anti-post players off to an absolute flyer. Just as the dust settling, Shishkin has won. It's been cool. Shishkin beats Abracadabras, Chantry House, Asterian. It just all went wrong, didn't it? He caused carnage through the race, G.
He did, yeah, out in front, jumping to his right, and badly so in the last couple of hurdles as well. Really, really threw away his chance, and maybe he just went too hard as well. I mean, he really weakened badly up the
Story of the race, that.
I just think it's very interesting that Shishkin, when we watched it back, he got badly impeded halfway down the back straight. That means obviously slow ground because Nico was brilliant on him because he didn't panic and he's had to take his medicine. Even then coming down the hill, it had been very easy to press every single button on the dashboard and he waited and he's got the result.
Nico de Boinville, we should say, going for a second year in the running, top rider. He's at 6-1, G. This was 9-4 in places last week.
Yeah, and what a good rider he's turned into as well, Nico, and so patient there with Shishkin because coming off the home turn, it certainly looked like it was going to be a big matchup between the front 2 in the market, Asterian Furlonge pressing on and Abracadabra's travelling all over him, but Nico was able to wait behind them and pick them off.
He just, if anything, it was a really, really clever ride. He just waited for Abracadabras to go. Risky move that, wasn't it? But there was worries about Abracadabras getting up the hill. You can't say he hasn't got up the hill. That would be ridiculous.
No, he finished quite well, but he certainly appeared to be travelling better than Shishkin coming into the straight.
Did Abracadabras get hampered? Right, we're just watching it back in the studio now from about 2 to 3 out, basically. The story again. I don't really think that Chantry enjoyed...
Chantry House has ran unbelievable because the hustle and bustle of this race has just found him out. He was flat out from an early stage and to still pitch in there. Shishkin nearly got brought down there.
Mother of pearl, he did just that. I mean, if you watch, that's absolutely incredible. In running, Neil.
Yeah, some interesting ones. So Abracadabras hit 7-1 on in the run, but Shishkin really interesting. And I'm guessing it was down the back straight, Andrew. When you said he got shuffled back a bit for £4, he hit 100 in running.
I'll tell you what, Edward Stone's run a blinder as well. We should just say he hasn't hit the money for you, Josh, out there, but considering he was so keen, we might look at him at someone like Aintree or Air or something like that. Henderson's done really, really well here, hasn't he? He's got what, 3 of the top 5.
Yeah.
He'll be over the moon with
they've
that.
pulled miles clear as well, haven't they? Those
that surely is great for Epatante and Pentland in the champion.
Yes. Can we just quickly go to the champion?
Yeah,
we won't get a graphic for this, but we'll just, Neil, what is that saying? Because this is we are looking at potentially one of the hot pots of the day, aren't we?
Yeah, 5-2. So I guess
still
it's
5-2.
Yeah, so that was pretty similar to what we spoke about right at the top of the show, wasn't it? Yeah. So,
I'd love to know whether Nico wanted to come
There we
outside down the hill intentionally to see the ground. Obviously, it's a route that they take when it's soft.
I think that'll go that 5-2. I've got to say, G, what do you reckon about that
It
champion?
certainly
mark?
looks tight, doesn't it, at the price at the moment? But
still remarkable price about Pentland when you think about it, really, who has had the wind operation. Absolutely remarkable. Well, the dust settles then on the first race. It's already been the Supreme Novice Hurdle. We'll get you the race time. We'll have a look at the ground. We'll give you an idea of the form. The guys are just getting their heads around that right now. Tactics of the race. Shishkin, hampered, still managed to put his head in front, despite the fact he didn't have that graded experience. He has come good. Could he be the real star of the fences in the making? The other story of the race, guys, Henderson obviously filling a lot of the frame. 2 of the first 3. Abracadabras, if you're Gordon Elliott, you're happy with that now, G?
yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of talk before the start of the day about Gordon Elliott going maybe a bit quiet last week and in the run-up to... Now, I know this has happened before and then he comes in and bangs in loads and loads of winners for the week, but, I mean, that would allay your fears, wouldn't it, of any worries about the Elliott stable form. I mean, Abracadabras has run an absolute stormer to be beaten absolutely nothing by Shishkin, and they've pulled well through the third. I think the interesting thing is, like, what does Abracadabra's run say about Envoy Hélène
for
the big one tomorrow on Wednesday? I mean, the only horse to have beaten Abracadabras is Envoy Hélène up until when Shishkin's beat him. Envoy Hélène obviously beat him a lot easier than Shishkin has beaten him there. So that's quite a frank for Envoy Hélène.
He did. I'm just going to have a look at the time of the race when it comes up, because we'll get an idea. Because we don't think it wasn't like last year, was it, when Classical Dream just messy, sprinted and went up. We should get a handle on what the ground's like now, shouldn't we, from a race like that? The pace looked even, Tinks.
I thought the pace was even enough. Assyrian Fallon was jumping out to his right, but he wasn't sacrificing the lead. The other jockeys were quite content with the pace, otherwise they would have taken it off him.
Let's talk about some disappointments then, chaps, because proper point there, G. It is the narrative of the week that Willie has a good Tuesday, Gordon has a good Wednesday, Paul Nicholls has a good Friday. Paul, if you're watching in the pub, of course, have one for us. And disappointments. Asterion Fallonge, we've mentioned him. Jumping Right went too hard. If you're writing this up now as an analyst, that's where you're going, surely, isn't it?
I think you there's only one way you start, and that jumping to the right killed him, didn't it?
I don't think he went too hard.
How many times did he jump to the right? Every single hurdle, and it got progressively worse as the time went on. And the only thing I would say is I was very disappointed with the way he finished. You know, having seen the way that he ran at Leopardstown last time out, he come off that bend, and you thought, oh, there's going to be a better one here, and then he really powered away. So to come home and come up the hill so weakly, I was very disappointed.
We could have been talking about a really unlucky loser, couldn't we, in Shishkin, having seen that back before 3 out when Abracadabras went, bringing down Elixir Dane, one of your fancies, G. That brings us on to the Mullins camp. They'll now have their heads on the floor a little bit. It's always the way after the first race, exactly how it goes there. Another camp that will be thinking what happened there is surely Colin Tizard, Neil Hubbard, fiddling on the roof.
Yeah, just watching it back there, he weakened quite a lot. I think
he was off the bottom miles out.
Yeah, and then when they turned for home, he just wasn't involved at all. I think it's such a flat effort.
You have to start asking yourself the question: is he an absolute mudlark? I mean, his wins of best performances have come round Sandown on really deep ground, and Sandown it gets really deep, doesn't it?
You also have to ask sometimes whether those performances, even to the eye, they look visually easy, whether they're actually emptying the tank more than you think.
To me, that it looked a case of a horse that he'd almost looked like a little bit like he needed it. We haven't seen him since the Tolworth, have we? Is this going to be an angle that we could be seeing through the week? We've been seeing horses given a much more extended break now, haven't we, G? There used to be this thing, if you remember. It always changed for me with Bobsworth when I put that up as one of my lays at the festival in the Gold Cup, because no winner since the old King died had run since the King George, and not had that prep and gone on and won the Gold Cup. Of course, that knocked that on the head, and I got absolute pelters for that, quite rightly so. But are you going to be? I mean, let's have a look at this, right? So Asterion Fallonge, 37-day break. He finished 4th. Abracadabra, 74-day break. Okay, so he's obviously kept fresh. I don't know. if you're Colin Tizard now, you've got some big guns, haven't you? Big breakaway. We haven't seen him for a long time. What's going to happen with him? Let's just check the result then for you out there, confirming it. It is official. There we go. You can see it on your screen. Shishkin. Wow, 6-1. That's just madness, isn't it? What happened?
He actually returned a Betfair SP of 10.5, so you would have got closer to 9-1. So just bigger than 9-1 on Shishkin on the machine at the off.
That's actually that's nearly unbelievable, isn't it? If you think about all the hype about him going in, we thought it was a good Supreme, but
and that's the beauty of us meeting the Irish and the English meeting the Irish for the first time. Them two horses, clearly superstars in the making, superstars today. But today, Cheltenham, that's why it makes it so special, because they come over, they meet, they clash, and you have a race like that.
And you're talking about a horse, Graham, that won the future champions novice at Leopardstown over Christmas. So theoretically, the best of the Irish 2-milers. Theoretically, Shishkin, the best of the English 2-milers, British 2-milers. They couldn't be separated. So what does that say about the form going forward?
Yeah, well, it's hard to make too many firm judgments, isn't it, from that first race, because not only that, they've come well clear of the third, but it just shows you that the market isn't always right on these things, because if you were watching Betfair just before the off, the Betfair market only wanted 2 horses, and that was the front two in the market, Asterion Phalange and Abracadabras, and that's why you've ended up with such a huge Betfair SP on the winner.
Wasn't massively wrong on Abracadabras, of course.
No.
10.5. Honestly, if you'd have told me that, even when we were doing, I think even middle of this, even this time last week, you know what I mean?
Happy days for the guy who had £4 on at 100s down the back straight.
Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of in-running touch that you
could we call
today.
that in-running carnage? I get excited by the word carnage
maybe,
when it comes to in-running.
Yeah, maybe.
Could we call it? Okay. So what was the height on him? Sorry, Neil, just remind us of that.
There was £4 matched on Shishkin at 100, so 99-1 on the exchange. Whereas the runner-up hit 7s on.
So someone's dancing a jig. People like G over here. We need to get it back already. You're staring down the barrel of the gun, G.
Well, that was my best bet of the day. So
that was your nap, of course, wasn't it? You've got
Shishkin here on the replay has actually got almost the best position, because Asterion Phalange jumping out to his right. So then all Nico has to worry about is following Fiddler on the Roof. Fiddler on the Roof is an experienced campaigner, a Grade 1 winner, so he's going to get a good lead off an experienced, good horse.
If you're on Elixir Danae here, and the one right behind him, I'm not sure what is it, Soviet Pimpernel. Should you be a bit more aware of maybe the fact that he is jumping to the right and he is calling? Is there anything you can do?
You can be aware of it, but there's only so many places to Paul Townend's in there, and everybody wants them, and the other lads have got them, and it is the unwritten rule. You just can't knock the ones over on your inside. You'd be spending a long time on holiday if you were. But Asterion Phalange can't win already, jumping out to the right like this.
Well, it's just so interesting. It's so pronounced though, because I know we sort of spoke about it before we came on air, and we were saying about how he's got that habit to sort of jump to the right and stuff. But nothing like that. That was really pronounced.
When they're so pronounced like that, the others can often follow and leave an absolute golden highway and open doors down the inside, which is quite interesting. But obviously, like I said, the lads were obviously feeling that they were going quick enough on the ground. Otherwise, they'd have pressed for his inner. They're quite happy to let him jump out to his right and not go forward.
I'm just waiting for the time on this. Just while you're chatting, guys, I was trying to find a bit. It's looking like it's nearly 4 minutes dead. Would be interesting. So we'll just see what that means. I think that pretty much suggests it's just soft. Actually, I don't think that suggests they went a fair gallop, but we'll get that for you. 4 minutes and 8 seconds. I'm hearing in my ear. 4 minutes 8 seconds. All right, we'll get some historical references for you there. But just to tell you that the RP standard for the 2 mile is 3 minutes 51. But so that just shows you. So we're basically we're the best part of 15, 16 seconds over standard. So
we're looking at fairly testing ground, aren't we?
Very soft ground.
All right, very soft ground. Whether it's quite heavy or not, I'm not sure, having looked at that. But we are at that time of year, aren't we, lads, where we're going to, of course, switch to the chase course any second now for the Arkle. But on the hurdles course, it's funny old ground to look at, isn't it, this time of year? Because it looks like it's all crusty and nice on top, like it's been drying with the wind, as it should have been. And it's still obviously pretty gluey.
And for punters watching, that is visually the most concerning thing sometimes, because it can look nice ground, and because it's puddingy and it's holding, it's more gluey, so the kickback is less severe. The jockeys aren't getting anywhere near as dirty, and people think that's better ground. It can often be a lot harder work, things like that.
Just watching this race back, Shishkin's actually quite hard at work, isn't he? At the top of the hill here. And
he was back in trip, wasn't he? We should say that. It was 2 mile 3 when he won it.
For a horse that
Maybe.
you think is like I was saying, a Nicky Henderson traveller kind of.
Probably covered a lot of ground as well. If you think that down the home straight and where he was behind Fiddler on the Roof.
Let's get
and
a
look
big
where he's
call
coming
from you.
wide here.
Let's get a big call from you each. I'd be amazed if they don't have a crack at the Champion Hurdle, having looked at that next year. I think they might just. I think they'll think. We'll see what he does at Aintree. Arkle or Champion Hurdle next year?
I think Nicky will wait an hour and a half and then decide, see how he gets on this year.
Oh yeah, of course. Did he look like a chaser to you there, or do you think with the Champion Hurdle being at the mercy?
I would be thinking that he is a chaser in the making, and I would be thinking that we might see him in the Racing Post Arkle next year with any luck. But as you say, it's a very weak Champion Hurdle this year, so maybe Nicky will be thinking, well, we'll keep him over hurdles and have a go next year.
Neil Hubbard, quickly.
I'd be inclined to think they'll send him chasing, but he's got 3 in the picture there, Henderson,
Yes, indeed.
to choose from.
But what about Chantry House? Is he going to go chasing, or is he going to stay over hurdles?
Yeah, I'd be amazed if. Well, he looks a bit racier almost, doesn't he? A little bit. Chantry House is. I mean,
he's finished third.
Shishkin, they're both bred to go over fences. Okay, so look, we're talking about fences. It's time to start moving on. The dust has settled. We'll go back and give you an absolute on the ground once we start getting it. Listen, you're watching the Racing Post live here. We're going to give you all the updates as they come from the ground and the Racing Post times. Standard, how testing is it? We'll get you all the quotes from the jockeys coming through as well. It's time, however, to start concentrating on the Racing Post Arkle. Is this one of the races of the festival? That's the big question. A lot of people thinking it probably is. Neil Hubbard, we'll go to you because we can see, as if by magic, the Racing Post Arkle. The market is on the screen.
Yeah, so Notebook's your favourite at around 11 to 4 at the minute. Fakir Duderie at 5, so that's 4 to 1. Brewing Up a Storm at 7.8, so that's around 7 to 1. And then Cashback at 8.2, so around 7 to 1. The sort of mover in this market, it's actually been a very different market to the compared to the Supreme, when there's sort of like a big 5 and there's a couple drifting, couple being backed. In this race, it seems like punters are a little bit less sure about exactly how it's going to play out, really.
How much is that match so far then, Neil?
So in total on the market here, we've got 1.1 million has been matched in total on the Arkle so far. I think just before the off on Supreme,
with
we were
20
minutes
minutes
like
still to
7
go, just
million.
shows you the amount of money that's being gambled out there. Okay, don't forget, of course, throughout this week we are encouraging responsible gambling. If you're like G and you've been sunk in the first, don't worry, long way to go. Marathon, not a sprint. Gamble responsibly is the message. Okay, Arkle time. Are we all good to move on? Are we all good? We'll, like I say, as the quotes come in from the jockeys about the ground, we'll be giving it to you. But we're thinking on the on the chase course that this. I'm thinking that Fakir Duderies is going to love the ground. I was a little bit worried, if I can be honest, over the weekend when it started to dry a little bit, because we saw him at Leopardstown, didn't we, when he came unstuck, behind Notebook. I think it was the ground that they want a proper test. If you look back at your racing replays on your members' site, get involved there. Replays are so important, aren't they? Last year's Supreme, he was in a terrible position 3 out, and he stormed up the hill. I want it to be testing under foot.
He had multiple entries over 2.5 this week as well, didn't he? Which means that they obviously feel that the trip is. This is obviously his minimum, and it is his minimum. They obviously feel like he'll be better over further, but given the ground and there's so much pace in the race today is crazy. It could just set up for him.
Well, look, we've kind of beaten those two with our picks so far, haven't we? Are you agreeing with me on this? Are you Fakir?
I am Fakir from a jockey's point of view if you're to choose one to ride, because I think he's the most solid. However,
electric jumper, isn't it?
He's a very good jumper. He got Samco on the floor. To me, he's the pick if you would choose one to ride. From a betting point of view, I think something like Esprit de Large will keep his powder dry out the back.
Yeah.
Adam Wedge, very good patient rider, got form on soft ground.
And it should set up nice for him,
Should set up nice for him. Has got form on a Grade 1 track with trappy fences in Sandown. To me, he ticks a lot of boxes, and I think he's a class horse to come from the back.
Yeah, so he's 14.5 on the exchange at the minute, so around 13 to 1. So
Yeah.
I'd be in agreement with that. I'm actually quite a fan of this Esprit de Large. I mean, he was okay as a hurdler, but like most of the horses that his owners have, he was always going to improve.
Of course, and surely
fences.
if you're a punter, if you're gonna back a horse each way, you're going to want in your jockey to keep his powder dry early, not get involved with 6 of the 11 runners that want to make the money.
Interesting. G-Rod selection.
Is that going to be a big problem for Fakir Duderies as well? Because I really love this horse when he won. Was it at when he slammed Sam Crow? Or Sam Crow ended up on the
Fairyhouse, wasn't it? It
floor,
was
and
a
he won
dribble.
by a million miles. And I just thought he looked so good going from the front and being allowed to attack his fences and really going at it. Then next time at Leopardstown, he was kind of taken on for the lead a little bit. Wasn't able to get the same sort of attacking mentality.
I
as
don't know
fences
about that, G. I think that they held him back a little bit. I wanted them to go. Was it a case of Notebook stole the lead off him?
I wanted them to go, but I just
Did you back
always,
him that day again to beat Notebook?
Yeah, I was very strong on him that day. I just thought that he looked top class, but I'm worried that they're not going to just really go for him.
It depends on
which
whichever, because Cashback goes, Global Citizen goes a million. He's a flat track bully. He'll probably go too fast.
He's a massive price Global Citizen, isn't he?
I think he's a flat track bully. I think he'll go too quick. Put the kettle on that's got a screw loose. A Notebook
Rouge Vif can go for it in the Kingmaker.
Yeah, they're going to go hard, and that's
I think
my
Moira
play.
Bannery could probably get on with it as well. There's absolutely tons of pace.
From a jockey's point of view, tactically, it'd be interesting now how many of these go. Hang on a minute, they're going to go turbo fast. Let's go to Plan B.
Well, that's what I think we might see Notebook do here. I think that Rachel might look at this and go, "There's plenty of pace in here.
Yeah.
We don't need to go chasing it." Like she did with Cashback last time. Cashback really went a good pace at Leopardstown, and he really set him alight. Turn him home. You thought, well, she's bringing Notebook to come through. But Cashback actually made a good race of it.
Let's address the elephant in the room with Notebook, the start. We were chatting off air beforehand. You were expecting him, maybe there were rumours of him maybe wearing a hood in the preliminaries. He's not. He's wearing earplugs through the race now.
Yeah.
What Henderson's horses often wear.
It just blocks out the noise.
If you're a jockey, you're happy to hear that.
Yeah, they're helpful. They just blocks out the noise, and when you're racing, they'll have the adrenaline up. But the noise at Cheltenham can be very, very intense from the crowd, and if they're going to overheat or boil over, earplugs are just a plus. And rarely, sometimes a horse wouldn't face a hood because it can be a bit intimidating. I've never ridden a horse not to face earplugs.
So let's just have a quick word with Neil about this. What price is he now? Then we're still skirting around the.
Yeah, still the same price. He's probably around 3.9, so he's just shy of
just
3
under
to 1,
threes.
really.
Okay, so this could dramatically change as he gets into the preliminaries.
Yeah.
All eyes will be on him for bookmakers going down to the start. You're going to see it here on the exchange before you see it anywhere if it's going. Brewing Up a Storm looks like he's getting a bit of love now. Could this be on the back of our tactical chat? A lot of people are seeing him as the one that will pick up the pieces, G, aren't they?
Yeah, and he is the stayer in the field, I think. He does shape to me like he will get a bit further than this 2 miles and maybe even be slightly better over 2.5, maybe.
Fourth in the Ballymore, of course, over 2 mile 5, and that's what made him think to come back to a stiff 2.
Yeah, he'll be suited by a strong gallop, which he should get. Richard Johnson rates him as pretty much his best chance of the week, as I understand it. So I just wonder if he is going to be quick enough. I mean, I just think that they are going to go fast, but I think he might be at it early.
He's a horse, though, you'd again, with the unrunning, it'd be the horse that people will surely be watching. If he gets out over the first 2 fences in rhythm, it depends on how quick they go, whether to take him out of his rhythm. Obviously, he's only ran twice over fences, 117 days since he went round Taunton in basically a nothing race.
Yeah.
So he achieved less than probably his numerical form says. But if he can get into a rhythm early, and he's going to finish well like he did at Carlisle.
He's also one of the better hurdlers in here, and normally, people who carry in, or the horses that carry in, the better hurdle form into this race tend to stack up quite well. And as you said, he was 4th in the Ballymore, he was 2nd in an Aintree Grade 1 as well. So he's clearly, talented, but this is obviously a big step up over fences for him.
Just going back to the time of the first, jockey's saying it does feel testing out there. They look like it looks like the heavy in places. I think that is borne out, isn't it? I think from that first time. I just wonder whether that pace lap might have had something to do with it in the middle. I'm not sure. I want to see in the Champion the time of that before we start really saying. But I think the heavy in places. You were saying that you had a call from Gerard Delamere earlier.
Yes.
Of course, Racing Post doyen of the trends and tips, doing this job a lot longer than we have. What did he phone you up and ask you?
Yeah, no, he just said, Graham, how does it go from being good to soft in places to soft heavy in places without there being any appreciable rain?
It just seems a bit mental, doesn't it? It makes you wonder. I don't know. Look, Clark's of the courses are desperate not to start anything on heavy, aren't they? He's got as close as he can to heavy without starting at Simon Clace. He's put that little bit of soft in there. If after the Champion Hurdle we've got a similar time or a slower time, if they can go a little bit slow in these Champion Hurdles, even though there's pacemakers in there, will he then be forced to go heavy ground, G?
Possibly, but I think, you might be able to back me up on this, but I always think sort of soft, heavy Cheltenham is not like soft heavy at Chepstow or Sandown or Haydock or
As
somewhere that's really, really deep.
We have what we call Foss-Lass heavy is bottomless. This won't be too bad. And Cheltenham drains unbelievably well. It could be this today. It could be just good to soft all over tomorrow. So be careful for the people that are now lumping onto horses tomorrow that want real heavy ground.
There's a horse running later on called Lord May-Neil who runs in the last race, the 5:30, and he's been running around on heavy ground at Haydock. And if you saw that first time, and you might get carried away thinking, looking for heavy ground horse, because it's really testing. But it's not going to be Haydock heavy.
No, the wind is there, isn't it? Okay, listen, you've heard from us. Let's go to Paul Keeley. He's actually down at the Racing Post Farm. See what he thinks. His tip in the Arkle.
2 Irish runners dominate the betting for the Racing Post Arkle, but I have a little bit of a feeling that they're not quite as good as they cracked up to be. Notebook has a little bit of a worry about his temperament as he bolted with Rachel Blackmore down to the start at Leopardstown last time. And, he did well to win, but at the end of the day, he's going to have a far more difficult task in keeping the lid on things at Cheltenham when there's going to be a massive crowd and a big roar. So I would take him on, and Fakir Duderis was getting a £7 weight for age when beaten by him earlier in the season. He doesn't get that here. The British contingent is stronger than it looked like it was going to be at the start of the season, and there are quite a few to think about. Brewing Up a Storm would be one of those. He's third favourite. My only worry with him is he can take a little bit of time to warm up, and whether he'll get himself out of his ground early. They will go hard, and that will help. But at a much bigger price, I like the claims of Dan Skelton's Moira Banrai. She has not looked back since having a wind operation in January 2018. She's now won 6 on the spin. They include 4 chases this season. She's never looked like being beaten in any of them, and she stays well. Her jumping is absolutely superb. As long as the ground doesn't get too deep, and we haven't had that much rain at the moment, I would think she has to go very, very well.
Paul Keeley looking outside of the box, one for the Skeltons. He thinks, I tell you what, it looks like he's in a diary room there, didn't he? They even put flowers in to make him feel a bit better. And pour it out, Paul. Pour it out.
To seeing more of these all week as they go on. And
where is Rioja?
He's got that lovely.
He's so laid back. He looks like he's going to fall off the back of the chair there.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, Kills. We will have a little bit of a giggle with Kills all through the week. So, Moira Banrai, as he quite rightly called it. Let's go to you, Neil. We're going to first of all talk about her position in the market, and I've got a feeling you might be placing a bet for us.
Yeah, so Moira Banrai is around the 16-1 mark on the exchange, so pretty much where we'd probably expect her to be in the market. There's only really been one proper market move in that in this race, really, and that's Rouge Vif. So he was around 20s on the exchange this time yesterday, and he's into 15, so 14-1. But other than that, it seems I don't know, it seems a heat
stagnant.
where... Yeah. I mean, there's £1.5 million that have been bet into it.
Well,
so there's plenty of money knocking around
Neil,
in it, but...
now is the bet time.
Yeah.
You're going to put a bet on for us, right?
Yeah, well, what do we think then? So I'm an Esprit de Large person.
Listen, I'd be quite happy to go that way, actually, to be honest. I put him up as my dark horse for this when I did the preview in the Racing Post guide.
So in the place market, he's like 11-4 to be... around 5-2 to be placed. He is. 3 places, that is.
I think with six front runners out of 11 runners, and he's going to keep his powder dry. He's a good place bet.
Should we back him to be placed then, yeah?
Do you think that's just ridiculous? Or
well, I made the race between 3. I thought it was between Notebook, Cashback and Esprit de Large.
Well, that's it then. Come on.
So I'm happy for that
for my picking up the pieces place bet.
Okay, so on the exchange here, under the blue, in the blue column, that's the numbers we want to be, or that's the column we want to be focusing on if we're placing a back bet. So we'll go down to Esprit de Large here, 3.7. So we'll go across to our stake. I'm not sure how we want to be sitted here in terms of the RG, so we'll just go for £5 into the stake box on here. Oh, no, we don't want to be going that far, sorry.
We're all on tenterhooks as to the amount of the stake, aren't we?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. It's obviously like the numbers aren't working. So we'll take this back down to 5 from an RG perspective, and we'll be backing him to be placed. So this is to finish in the first 3. So as you can see here, if he doesn't finish in the first 3, then we'll lose our £5. If he finishes anywhere in the first 3, we'll be winning £13.75.
Fiver?
Well, it's as easy as that, Dave. Come on.
Fiver? I mean, we're talking about Betfair. It's like the Lord Snooty of bookmakers. They've got all the dough, haven't they? They're putting a fiver on. Unbelievable. I'm going to have a word with the paymasters down there. That'll be 500 come the end of the week, let me tell you. But I guess this is starting us off our little pot.
Yeah, exactly. And This is to kickstart the week. We're all in agreement that he's a horse who could pick up the pieces in this race. So let's start small and see where we get to.
So how are we going to end the week? Is the week going to end with a huge pot of winnings?
Well, again, it comes back to being responsible, Graham. I'm being reminded that in my ear, of course, absolutely, 100%. It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's what we're saying, absolutely. Yeah, quite right. Listen, okay, all right, fair enough. We're going to try and nick a bit, and then we might look for maybe playing that up somewhere a little bit later down the line.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do here is just showcase the different ways that you can bet on the exchange. So instead of us backing each way here, what we've done is just place a place bet. So we've got 3 chances of winning here. And I guess that's the point we're making.
Before we get into the prelims about our selection, I've gone pretty heavy here on Fakir from a talk-up point of view. I think I did the assessor piece in the Post. They stupidly asked me to do that one day when G-Rob wasn't in the office. I think that must have been what it was. And I suggested after he won on his chasing debut, he beat Mellon that day, if you remember. I thought he looked Arkle all the way. I wasn't sure if he'd get his ground on the day. Looks like he has. A lot of time experts are now saying it's definitely heavy in the first, so... All right, we'll go with that. Andrew, remind us.
For Key Dudery as a win option, I think he should be the same price as Notebook, if not shorter. And like we've just touched on, Esprit de Large from a place.
G.
I think that Notebook will win. I like the way that he jumps. He just floats over those fences and he's so fluent. I think Cashback will be his main danger. I expect a rerun of the race at the Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival.
You think that might be the key form?
I think that is the form, and hopefully Esprit de Large will reward our place support. I am impressed with the way Esprit de Large jumps. I mean, he is a very fluent jumper.
Williams has been talking about like something mental. Listen, we've got some social tips coming in as well. Have a look at your screen. We're going to see exactly what we've got coming up. I think Mr. Brains tips. The Arkle, my favourite race at Cheltenham. Listen, I'm with you there, Brainsy. Really fancy put the kettle on. I think you need to go and do that during the race, don't you? If you're expecting that to come in. Best of luck, Henry de Bromhead, notepad with the favourite Very too. Put the kettle on. Let's give her a bit of love then, because we're talking about 1121. It's owned by a great syndicate out there as well, I should say. She was mounted on the chute. That was something we read from the steward's notes earlier. They are just coming out onto the course. We should say that. We're watching in the studio Rouge Vif coming out. It looks a bit monster. He's well up for it. Put the kettle on. I mean, look, she's got bundles to find, hasn't she? What sort of price, Neil, first of all?
Yeah, and bundles to find would be reflected in the price. She's 32 on the exchange now. But she did win the Arkle trial at the track earlier in the year, didn't she?
Yes, she did, and never be afraid of a price at Cheltenham. That's something I keep watching. So listen, I'm poo-pooing that a little bit, but that might not be a bad thing the way I got on in the first.
If you were on just with the exchanges like we've discussed, if you were a fan of Notebook, would you be, like you guys, if you backed him, you'd be happier to back him at a shorter price, surely, knowing he's got to start in one piece and be taking the preliminaries well?
We're just watching him go down as you're saying that, Tink. So he's taking a bit of a keen hold. You can see why he's got the earplugs on.
And that's downhill for the guts of 4 furlongs down to that 2 mile start. It's a long way. Once you get past where the last fence was, on a normal day it goes very quiet. There's hospitality all the way down there.
Let's check him out on the market. Then you're right. All the temporary boxes that they put up. People are screaming at them.
Lots going on. Now he's actually gone past the speed of large. He's actually settled a little bit.
Yeah, it looks okay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And as we said, expect that to contract. That's exactly what he's doing. Was there a little jink there,
just jinxed it. Spooked something on the inside.
Gee, come on! Yeah.
Look at that. Look, he just jinxed at something on the inside, spooked, and it immediately for another 20 yards just set him off again. It doesn't take much to sort of just light him up and just get him the wrong side of keen.
Let's have a look then. So Cashback, we haven't really spoken too much about Cashback, have we? As an individual, Willie Mullins, plenty of Arkle success for him. And just looking at, of course, you think Footpad a couple of years ago, he's holding his price pretty well, isn't he, Neil?
Yeah, and he wasn't beaten far by Notebook at Leopardstown. You could argue that maybe, the small margins there, you're probably only talking like one fence, one decent jump, one bad jump, and you're going quite close to reversing that form. But, yeah, I don't know.
Do you think he might be softened up potentially, G, by he wears a hood, doesn't he, and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's possible. I like the way he jumps.
He's an 8-year-old too. Do 8-year-olds win Arkles?
He's exuberant.
Last 8-year-old to win the Arkle, I know it.
Not sure, actually.
Sizing Europe. I'm pretty sure he was the last 8-year-old. Yeah. Someone out there will be screaming on their keyboard.
One of the final fences
I'm
there.
pretty sure it was Sizing who went off. Of course, he was like champion chase class. From a historical point of view, we should also say the last 10 winners have all had a win next to their name. The only 2 horses in the lineup not to have that, both from Ireland, Cashback and Fakir, of course. So something's got to be done. The last 5-year-old to win an Arkle, seeing as we're doing this. I think you hate people in racing that ask questions and already know the answer. One of those hateful characters.
Who's done their homework?
It's all coming out. We should know all this by now, shouldn't we? But this was something I put up on the Betfair preview the other night, and we had a couple of people from the audience shout it out. It was Martin Pipe's 2004, if that helps you, golden year.
Well, Chief.
Well, Chief. Well, Chief.
Got a good horse.
So it can be done. That, but you've got to go back to 2004 to someone of Fakir Duderi's age.
Here's the start. They're milling around and the pace looks strong. Like you can see from the jockey's body language that they're all wanting a prominent role, and Global Citizen looks like the one who's going to take them along early if he can.
Now listen, I had a feeling that I was the most vocal in the last race. I don't know if that's because I just couldn't have Shishkin on my mind, having put him up as the lay on all the previews. It was only when he was around about 94. However, come on, lads, I want to hear a bit of Welly and a bit of Booty here. You've got a raw back here, G, because you are having an absolute shocker. Not only did your selection cause all the carnage in the first race, he also finished at the front.
And not only is it bad to go off with 2 losers, but to go off with 2 losing favourites is even worse for someone like me, because I don't usually back favourites. The only reason I back favourites is if I can't find an alternative to beat them. So I looked at these first 2 races and just thought these first two favourites will win. Now, if they both go and get beat, it couldn't be a worse start to the week.
And again, that will have implications going on for the other races. If the layers are thinking happy days, we didn't fill our Shishkin boots, then Epatante might get back out to that 3 to 172 mark. Neil, going round at the start, put your kettle on. You can see why she was mounted in the chute. She's planted herself somewhat.
There's been a bit of money for her now, though, because I mean, like a minute ago we were saying she was, a minute ago we were saying she was 30 odd, and she's into 20s now.
Mr. Brains is potentially about to do them, but he's okay, fair enough. Cashback looks like he's throwing his head up a little bit.
He's going to go. He's definitely going to go forward. Harry Skelton's doing a sensible thing. He's going to follow the pace on Maria Banrai. But the likelihood of 4 or 5 dueling for the lead early over the first 2 is very high.
So the closers at this point look to be Marie Banrai. Marie Banrai's Keel's quite right. Is it Al Dancer? It's interesting. He's a horse that has liked to get on with it. He's settled a lot better over fences, isn't he? Flag is up. Should say that Al Dancer was another one that finished second on his other start as well. So flag is up. Nearly time for the first race over fences at the Cheltenham Festival. They're jockeying for position. I tell you what, not another one. No. Oh, no. Do you know what? That was...
And she might struggle to get him back.
That was Cashback has taken off. Notebook has also taken off. Oh, Cashback's really taken off. This is not good.
They've only just missed the fence. What's the crack on the exchanges now?
Yeah,
they
Notebook's drifting now. So Notebook's bigger than...
I mean, he's almost in the car park.
Notebook's out to 7 to 2 now, having been 5 to 2.
Wow! Off. He's almost in Tewkesbury having his breakfast. Let's have a look at the. So there we can see that it's reflected in the market. Who's prospering from this? Surely it's got to be Fakir. He's now into.
Yeah, it hasn't made much difference to Cashback at all. And actually, Notebook is coming back a little bit now. So there was a spike on Notebook, but it's sort of stabilised a little bit now, and it's sort of like as you were, really.
What about Rouge Vif, Neil?
Yeah, so there has been more money for him. So as I say, he was 20s this time yesterday, but he's into 11 to 1 now.
Gav Sheehan came on What a Shout a couple of weeks ago, told us that he needed decent ground. Gav, have you put us away? Because it looks, Graham, like he's been nibbled at left, right and centre, isn't he?
Yeah, there's been a bit of money around, hasn't there? That's for sure.
One of them that's sort of holding its price okay at a bigger price is Al Dancer, who you just talked about.
It's just an interesting one, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't got the hood on today, has he?
A lot of people critical of Sam Tristan-Davis's ride.
And to be fair, he did admit, he said he thinks he's got it wrong on the last 2 runs.
Because he didn't really see him coming, Fisher, did he? And he looked... It was interesting just whether he might want to trip, but they have obviously... There's no pressure on them now going in, is there? Okay, standing start.
Oh, terrible start for Notebook.
No, well, this is what you wanted though, G, wasn't it, for him to take a lead? So Cashback's going to take the first in front, running around like a lunatic. I mean, what price has he gone now, Neil? Cashback. Surely he's gone well up, hasn't he?
No, pretty much the same price as he is now. He's around 7 to 1.
I'd be laying the life out of him now, I think, at that price. Fakir's up there. That was a guess he jumped from him, but he's over it fine. Okay, let's get some race positions. Cashback, Fakir, stalking, put the kettle on. Henry's other horse. Now, that is interesting for Notebook. It looks like Notebook's trying to take a lead, G, doesn't it, from put the kettle on.
I think she wanted to be a lot closer than she was. You can tell that by the full start.
Yeah,
whether she didn't have any control over the false start, they're not going as turbo fast as I thought they would. And Fakir Duderi is probably in the prime position at the moment.
Bit of a slow jump from Global Citizen is a bit further back than we
well,
thought
he usually
might
makes running. Whether he missed a break or not, I didn't see initially, but he's an outsider now, and whether they think they might just be trying to what we call nick a place. But I'm very happy with Adam's position on Esprit de Large.
You can tell that he's learnt from Paul Maloney, can't you? Almost the backside up in the air. Looks like Paul Maloney.
Maloney was placed in numerous Grand Nationals. He was the greediest man ever to nick a bit of prize money. So he learned from the best.
Is that right? Well, if he's watching, I think he's just turned you off. So look, Notebook's in midfield. Marie Banrai, however we say, it's going to really annoy me, isn't it? She's a little bit closer, G, than I thought she would be on the inside.
A lovely position there, isn't she? Just behind the leader, Cashback, alongside Fakir Dideris and Notebook just on the outside. Those three, you would say at this point. If I was playing this race from an in-running perspective, I would certainly be looking at the three just behind the three leaders. Notebook on the outside, Fakir Dideris and Banrai on the inside. Appears to have the box seat.
Error at the fourth there, I thought, from Al Dancer. I just would be ticking that down if I was writing it. They don't look like they're going to breakneck pace, Tinks.
No, they've settled down a little bit, and Cashback's jumping off to his right a little bit, giving Harry a lovely sight of his fences on Mia Banrai. If Cashback continues to do that, he will slightly inconvenience Fakadouleri.
Okay, Neil, give me a word on brewing up the storm, because I don't think they'd be over the moon, Richard Johnson, with his jumping at the minute. He's just been a little bit guessy at a couple.
Yeah, and that's reflected in his price. He's out to 12-1 in running at the minute.
Who's fav now then? Still Notebook?
It's still Notebook at 5-2. Yeah, there hasn't been like a massive change. I guess Rouge Viv is into 8-1 now.
Come on, halfway stage of the Racing Post Arkle. Come on, Fakir's in a lovely stalking position. I think if you're Adam Wedge, you're quite happy. If I had to say the best jumper so far, maybe Esprit could be it. We're starting to warm up from a pace perspective now. Put the kettle on, putting it up to Cashback. Oh, Marie
Brunner gone.
And Brunner Storm's
gone.
Brewing Up's gone, hampered Rouge Vif, hampered Al Dancer on the outside. Fakir Dideris got really lucky there. He's just having a little squeeze of Esprit de Large now. We are really shaping up. Rouge Vif is right out the back. He's not been asked any sorts of questions.
No, Rouge Viv is into 11-2 on the exchange at the minute.
If I had to call it at the moment, I think we're not too far off, lads. Fakir on the inside, not been asked a question at all by Mark Walsh.
Sam Tristan-Davies is giving Al Dancer an absolute peach of a ride as well. He's just keeping his powder dry enough and following.
Here we go. We're getting very close now. Over they go.
Go on, Wedgie.
Really starting to get up. We're getting the home screen. Now put the kettle on. Mr. Brains, he's just had a little look there, Aidan Coleman, at what is going on. You'd have to be very happy with Fakir here. There's a bit of barging going on. Esprit de Large coming on the outside. Notebook finally starting to come off the bridle. Fakir is back on the bridle. He's absolutely cruising. Rouge Vif struggling. Could Global Citizen Neil get in? He's finishing now.
Fakir must be very short now.
Come on, Fakir. Come on. It's one of me lazy. It's one of me naps sort of sit. Come on, boy. Come on. You've got to pick this up. Come on then. Coming to 2 out. Oh! He's got in tight, Fakir.
Oh no, Esprit de Large is gone.
Esprit de Large is gone. Drama at the second last. Put the kettle on. She's getting weight all round. Come on, Fakir. Get him up the hill. Come on, Fakir. You got it, boy. Come on, you can pick her up. Come on, Walshy, get it stuck in. Here he comes. Come on, Fakir.
Oh
my God. The kettle on's getting there. Come on, Fakir. The way, they're going to lose out and finish again.
Mr. Brains.
Unbelievable.
Mr.
Brains has
done it.
absolutely done. Oh.
What a race.
Okay. Decorum, please, Dave Orton. I thought Fakir was going to have it there. Unbelievable.
Whether that mistake cost him would be interesting.
Mr. Brains tips, social selections. We'll have to give him an absolute massive nod there. Put the kettle on. I poo-pooed it, and he's gone and done me 16-1. He's returning SP. What a finish. It only concerned 2 off the home bend. Real surprising Arkle. I think we have to say that. The mare has got the weight all round. Aidan Coleman, he had a look turning in, Tinks, didn't he?
And he's a class rider, a class bloke, and he rode that filly with extreme confidence. He had a good look, and he saved a bit for the end. What a tough mare.
I tell you, I'm absolutely on the floor about that. I thought he was certain Fakir to pick him up, G.
Yeah, I thought turning for home there was only one winner because we know that Fakir Dideris stays so well. And when
He's
he
given
comes
him
there on
everything,
that
isn't he?
bridle, but just to maybe that second last, he just didn't seem to hit it on the right stride. He didn't make a mistake, but he just didn't wing it. And Put the Kettle On really did wing it, and then he had to pick up again coming out of that one, and he just wasn't able to peg it back.
But she didn't.
Neil Hubbard, come on, we've not heard a lot from you. Come on, what's the story of the race on the exchange? I'm absolutely on the floor with that.
Yeah, and you will be when you know that he hit 1.55, so two's on in running.
See, I'm too emotional.
Too emotional, Dave. So he hit two's on in running. The winner, Put the Kettle On, was actually matched at 42s.
Wow.
On that for over £200 as well.
Put the Kettle On, as you said, made all in the Racing Post Arkle trial. G. Andrew, from a historical point of view, that used to be Azertiot won the race. Yeah. It had gone out of fashion a little bit. Tinks?
Looked a good race. I mean, looked a solid race. A lot of horses were in trouble a long way out. I really, really hope Esprit de Large and Adam Wedge are okay.
114-day break. She's done it. Henry de Bromhead off the mark, but not with the one you thought. Notebook, G.
Yeah, very disappointing. She, I just think, was in the wrong position as the race developed and was never really happy. She never really looked very happy on him. I don't know, maybe he just didn't travel in the same way that he did. Maybe the full start.
Yeah.
Maybe
The full start.
Just took
We've
a
had
little
2
bit of
standing
fizz.
starts. It's not ideal, is it?
It doesn't bode well for these 24 winner handicaps later on.
Yeah. That view.
Had it again though, a bit like the Supreme there, where the front two were absolutely miles clear. So really tight finish, but actually those leaders were absolutely miles clear. And I think Rouge Viv maybe got third there, but they're walking across the line there for the places.
We lost Cashback, but the thing to say, thankfully, Esprit de Large lived to fight another day, as does Cashback as well. He was just far too keen for me. Al Dancer done for pace there, G. By the look of it, they'd surely be going up in trip with him, won't they?
Yeah, he tried his best, didn't he, to creep into it, Sam, on Al Dancer. But I just think he's not good enough, is he, in this highest grade? Mr. Fisher exposed him last time at Doncaster. Obviously been beaten by Put the Kettle On earlier in the season at Cheltenham.
It's interesting as well they run him without the hood though. Because a lot of his good novice hurdle form was with
I think
the
he
hood,
had been
wasn't
settling a bit better offensively.
Yeah.
Let's get the top 3 then. It's official now. Put the Kettle On. Our social tip, Mr. Brains, he will be absolutely dancing around. No cups of tea for that chap. Fakir Duderis into 3s before the off look, we can see there. And Rouge Vif, who Gav Sheehan gave a big shout to reach the frame. I thought Global Citizen was going to get it, jump in the last. Maybe hasn't quite got up the hill, Tinks.
Maybe hasn't quite got the hill. I just really hope in this race that the winner doesn't. I hope that she gets all the credit that she deserves, and people don't go to Notebook as to why he ran poorly. Fakir Duderis did the mistake, cost him. Esprit de Large fell. I really hope that the winner gets the credit she deserves.
Well, I think, listen, at the end of the day, what's he given up the £7 if it had been in Ireland? He'd have been having that weight differential.
The one thing I
wouldn't
can
he?
say tonight is there's going to be one hell of a party in Cheltenham, because the One for Luck Racing
mental.
Syndicate, and there's a lot of them now. There is going to be some party going on in Cheltenham tonight. I would like to be there. Let's hope that Mr. Keeley gets himself off that sofa of his and gets himself out with the One for Luck Racing Syndicate.
Well, I think the 2 tips he's given so far, but he was talking up Shishkin from an early stage, wasn't he? I think, but that tip there, Mara Bromley is going to need to go back into the diary room and talk about his sins, I think. There, Neil Hubbard, story of the race. Then, what was the Notebook high and low?
Yeah, so Notebook didn't really hit anything lower than what his SP was, really. He only went a little bit shorter. So, like, from the off, I think people were... Like, we talk about the false start, and, yeah, it did spike at around 7-2, we said, when the false start happened. But during the race, it didn't actually get much lower than what the SP was, of around 3-1 anyway. So, yeah, it was pretty, like... I mean, Put the Kettle On got on the front end, and that was sort of the story of the race, really.
It's funny. Could it be one of those situations, like you said earlier, and I find this sometimes, and I try not to write it if I think that's going to happen, that everyone's looked at the race, all the jockeys maybe looked at the race, and they've gone, oh, there's loads of pace in here.
Yeah.
And then as it is, maybe Put the Kettle On's just had a
I think Coleman.
time.
I think Coleman's been very, very clever there, because I think when he got there, the issue is when you're making the running, you've got to make it for yourself, not to be a lead for the rest. And if you make it for yourself, you've got to inconvenience the rest, you know, to use it to your best advantage. I think when Aidan's got there, he's obviously jumped well, he's obviously landed, filled. He showed that, the fact that he got a very good jump on a long stride at last and had enough petrol left to hold off the strong challenger Fakir Duderis.
He had a look turning in.
Yeah, confident. He's good.
I was just checking where Mark Walsh was on the inside.
Class
he had
ride.
a look. Unbelievable. So, okay, let's have a look through the story of the race then from the start, and then we'll talk about times. There's a story breaking about times, which I'm going to get to. Paul Keeley's having a little bit to do with it. Typical Kills, can't keep away from Twitter, can he? But we'll get to her in a bit. Put the Kettle On then. Beats Fakir Duderis, who, from a handicapping point of view, and if I'm writing up the race out as an analyst, which I've been doing for all the years, he's the horse that I'm basing this around. Rouge Vif, probably the ground, G for him, into third. He was ridden to pick up the pieces. He did that, but they want better ground for him. Is he a horse you'd take out the race?
He was beaten a long way, wasn't he? That would be, you would be thinking that those behind the first two are probably more handicap types than graded performers in the long run. And the winner and the second, you'd be hoping they're going to make up into top class chasers next season. But
are we talking about a vintage Arkle? You probably have to say, with the result as it is, it's a messy Arkle. Obviously, brewing up a storm. There was that incident, wasn't there, where he came down. Esprit de Large didn't finish.
Is it better than last year's?
Duke to the Nevers, yes, it's better than last year's. That's not going to take a lot of doing, is it? Last year's was a tragedy, wasn't it? Let's just
I
talk about the ground.
don't think we've seen the champion chaser there.
That's pretty much what I wanted. Neil Hubbard, just before I move on.
Yeah, I wasn't that put off by Rouge Vif. I think on better ground he might be quite interesting. Like he's won round. Where did he win before? Warwick. And you have to jump round there, and then at the top of the hill, he was into like 11-2 there. So he was travelling well in running, and yeah, maybe the ground, and he just perhaps didn't get home. So maybe better ground, maybe sharper track round Aintree, something like that. Might see a bit, but as G-Rod says, they were beaten miles, weren't they?
I'll tell you what. 2 races down, we've had some real drama, haven't we? Asterion Falange, to give you a recap of the first, if you're tuning in, if for some reason you haven't seen the Supreme, caused so much drama by going right. The standing start again in the Arkle, Notebook and Cashback were completely lit up. I'm sure Henry will be saying something about that, Henry de Brummel, his trainer, in his postscript. And I think Rouge Vif running on, maybe something there. Global Citizen, if I was looking for an eye catcher, and you do try and look outside the box, I said to you, Tinks, remember during the race, about 3 hours you're going to get into this. There's been lots of talk about him never being a Cheltenham horse, isn't there? And, you know, track records at Kempton and the likes of that. Back on a speed track, he could be interesting, couldn't he?
On a bit of spring ground, bit of nicer ground. He's going to be.
The Desert Orchid Chase at Kempton next Boxing Day. That'd be nice for him.
It was interesting as well when, like, if you take any clues from the market, that he was about 50 when the tapes eventually went up, and because of his position, he was immediately out to 70. So that says to you right away that, you know, when we're talking about put the kettle on, needs to be ridden, you know, you need to look after yourself. Well, with this, immediately 20 points bigger. So I think the market says what is key to him is being on the front end and being able to dictate.
Just interesting watching that VT of the replay. Fakadu Duri, when he made the mistake, he was only probably half a length down. He made the mistake, he came out the fence 2.5 lengths down, and then nearly by the time of landing over the last, he's back within a length.
You're suggesting that cost him?
I think it probably could have cost him. I think the winner was very good. I think it could have cost him, but I think up in trip is a huge force.
Yeah, do you think they wish they would have gone to the
marsh?
To the marsh? Because they were torn, weren't they?
Look, when you're walking into the number 2 rather than number 1, you often question.
And I guess with the ground, you know, the whole point of running in the Arkle is they wanted a soft, heavy ground Arkle, and that's basically what they got.
And they've ran extremely well.
Yeah, exactly. They got beat.
Perfect time to talk about the ground. Right, we've got Kills at the moment down at the track. If you remember, you work in the same department as him, G. He was saying if it's not heavy ground by race 1, it will be by race 2. Obviously, we'll have one on the hurdles, one on the chase. He's now saying, have they changed it to heavy yet? That was his question on Twitter, which I've just seen. A lot of Shrewdies are coming out saying, hang on a minute, for 4mm, there's not a lot of soft patches out there, are there? We are awaiting the official time, but are we really looking at ground that should have started on heavy here?
It appears that way, doesn't it?
There's a massive story there because there's a big market, Neil, of course, on Betfair. What will it start on? It was,
I think soft was
well favourite, wasn't it? So I don't know, soft, heavy in place. I don't know where you go with that. I think it has to be one classification, isn't it? But
I think it was soft.
Heavy was about 8-1 this time last week. So listen, there's a few stories there that will be.
All I'd say is it can, not defending the Clark courses, etc., but it can often walk a lot different to how it rides. You could walk a track sometimes and think, this is okay, this isn't too bad. And then you go out and ride on it on a much heavier animal than digging your foot in. And all of a sudden it rides an incredible amount deeper or tackier, like I touched on before.
So Rob, the producer's just said in my ear that it is 16 seconds above standard. We are looking in at slower, so that's above. Rob's saying, he's saying slower. That's above, Rob. That's above. So basically that means that we are looking at. We're talking about top class racing here. 16 seconds over. You'd be expecting that at something like Taunton, wouldn't you, in a slowly run cat and mouse race?
Yeah, it's very, very, very tested.
There's a big H out there, and no one's really mentioning it. When do they go heavy ground? Come on, we'll tell you first.
I wonder if they will.
Absolutely. Well, what we've got coming up next then, so of course we're going to the handicap, staying on the chase course. My goodness me, it's Ultima time coming up. So we're going into the real battlefield now. Please, no more standing starts. This is a good point for you now, Tinks. We're coming here. You're going back into the weighing room.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been involved in both races. Is there someone coming up from the Jockey Club saying, right, lads, what's going on?
They will have had a briefing before racing, and that would have been taken in. And these rules are exactly the same here today as they will be at Taunton next Monday. But the issue is, everybody's under so much pressure to get a good position. And a good position is paramount, as we've seen. This next race, 24 runners turning in from the 3 mile 1 start. When there's so many horses to get out the paddock, the jockeys will be wanting to leave the paddock straight away. So they'll be saying to their owners and trainers, I'll speak to you after. Let me get on. Be first to leave the paddock. Get out there. Get down there. Don't even get your girth checked. Probably don't even show them the fence. To get down there, to get into the position, if you want a prominent position near the inside, they will be bustling for it. And it's a case of, yeah, they're all wrong. No, not all wrong, but they're all at fault because it's a false start. Can you blame them? They're under so much pressure. The system, I think, is wrong that they shouldn't come back and have a standing start after one false start because a lot of betting people lose their bet because their horse gets a bad start and they weren't the wrongdoers at the start.
Yeah, I've got a bit. I'm with Tinks here. I can bash jockeys as much as anyone, but I think that's right. The system needs to change then.
I absolutely hate it from a punting perspective because it is just another variable that I'm considered before I place my bet. I'm not considering the fact that they might all have to line up in a straight line, and they're a bunch of thoroughbreds. They're all ready to go. Anything can happen. I've had bets in the past that I've been very confident they're going to win, and then they all line up in a start because they've had a full start, and then suddenly, just as they're about to go, the tape goes up, mine turns right, and then they all jump off, and mine goes off 5 lengths behind, and that's my money gone.
Just having a look at the replay there of that standing start, it looked like it was a ploy for Global Citizen actually to be held up. I think you weren't sure of that. Yeah, I think he was at the back. I mean, Bruin Upper Storm was already 2 lengths off. It looked again like it. We were expecting him to be held up, but he was a little bit further back. I think. Look, they all kind of got away with it there. But I would suggest that Cashback was definitely hampered from that. He's a keen sort anyway, wears a hood. He's been totally lit up front. Aidan Coleman, we're looking back at the replay now, he is never away from the first 2.
Pace is slackened now, though. I think they've come off the gas a bit. They've jumped 2, now they've jumped this. Now Aidan's fiddled that.
Notebook's keen there, isn't he? Just looking back in that. He's
just travelling strongly, isn't he? But Aidan's not pressurising to be where he is. And that's the key thing about making the running. If you're there for yourself, not there to lead the rest.
Here's a question. This was also Notebook's first trip to the track. We've been seeing him on, Leopardstown's been his playground, isn't it, so far? Much sharper track, we should say that. Flatter track. Gee, are we going to see this? What would we do now with Notebook?
Yeah, you'd be worried about bringing him over for entry, wouldn't you? Because he's come over here and things haven't worked out now. I would suspect the connections will be thinking, right, we'll stick at home. Maybe we'll find a nice race for him. Punch us down. There's that Ferry House meeting, isn't there, in a couple of weeks?
Yeah,
I don't know if there's a race for him there
again this season.
I don't think he'll be back in Britain, but
I don't think Gigginstown are the biggest fans of that meeting, as a whole, really, are they? I wouldn't imagine. So we've got to hope it's on, of course. That's what we're
just watching this VT back as well. Maria Banride travelled and jumped beautifully. Now, it'd be interested to see what happened to cause her fall, but she travelled and jumped beautifully, and going forwards in the future, she'll be one to keep on the right side of.
And this is another thing when you're assessing the form as well. You do have to sit there and go, well, the front have come miles clear. And yes, Rouge Vif has run well in third or fourth Global Citizen, but you've had a couple of fallers in there who were going well. Mare Banri, you had Esprit Delage, who was sort of in there pitching for a place and fell. And you think to yourself, well, had they stood up, maybe they would have finished ahead of them. And then these ones you're saying in third or fourth might have finished 5th or 6th.
Esprit Delage looked a 2.5 mile horse to me all the way through the race. Adam was just always at pains to just keep him competitive as opposed to basically wasn't travelling riding for a place. He was holding to keep tabs on him, just trying to keep tabs on him.
I'd be amazed just watching this back as well, lads. Just looking at there we go. So it was an independent error.
She just took off too early, like they can at that fence. She took off too early and paid the price. But she was still, it was a long way from home. But she was travelling incredibly well, and going to Aintree, you'd have to take her seriously.
She just seems to have left her back legs on the fence. But I actually thought that Mare Banri had brought down Bruin Upper Storm at the first time I looked at it. But Bruin Upper Storm's unseated rider independently, and that's not the first time, is it? We've seen him end up on the floor at Cheltenham, because we had that mishap in the novice race when he was going to win, wasn't he?
What Aidan's done here is
he's got
in front of Notebook, and he's got in front of Townend on Cashback, so he knows that Mark Walsh and the rest of them, in theory, they're going to have to press like they are now, or they're going to have to work hard to go around him. Look at Notebook now; he's having to work hard to get around the outside.
And listen, I'm fully signed up to the Fakir. He comes back onto the bridle turning in, but I was just watching that as you were talking, chaps. He's being chivied into the home straight, isn't he? And it was the same in the Supreme Novice Hurdle as well. He lost his position. I'll tell you what, Mark Walsh is going to be having nightmares about this horse, because he just presented him slightly wrong at the second last as well. You're right, Tinks. The ground he makes up going into the final fence.
He's back where he was.
He's a certainty to go up in trip.
Yeah.
I can remember Barry Geraghty once saying to me, "Look, if a horse is looking like it's sort of unlucky in running, it's often because it hasn't got the pace to hold its position." And no, I have to now concede with Fakir, having watched him in a Supreme and thinking probably wasn't the best ride, and in a bad position at that third last where you can get in a terrible position when it starts getting rough. I think that we are looking at a horse for Ryan Ayres next year, that sort of stuff.
I think so, but I don't think he's been unlucky there because he has come there after the last. He's hit the run-in, and he has got to within a sort of half length of the winner.
The winner's got her ears pricked. She's not doing much. She's waiting for the other horse. And as a jockey, that's a great sign when the ears prick in front. And again, for your in running players, when the ears are pricked, they're not doing much.
I think the winner's really good.
So let's
there you go. Nicely.
So let's wrap it up. Look, for me, put the kettle on. There was some love out there from our social selection of Mr. Brains again. Tip your hat off there. And look, she's avoided all the danger, but she looks straightforward. Sometimes we're going to gift horse in the mouth, aren't we? 2 races, 2 come clear, lots of drama. It's time for the first handicap of the meeting. Yes, the Ultima over the 3 miles. The chasers, let's have a look at the market, lads. Well, however you're feeling, there you go. Look, I mean, Shishkin, put the kettle on. I must admit, I've got a bit between my teeth now. I feel like I've left something on the table with that. Fakir do dairy. Where on earth are we going here, Neil Hubbard? Tell us about the market.
Yeah, so the market is led by Vindication. So he's 7, so that's 6-1 on the exchange. The conditionals next in at 8.2. Discorama, who's been placed at a couple of festivals here, is next at 9. Kildesat, 13.5. Same as No Comment. Same as Who Dares Wins. Mr. Malarkey, 14.5. It's a market that is wide open, as you can see on the screen, and there isn't an awful lot sort of jumping out at it as we speak, so it's pretty much wide open.
Graham Rodway, just as Neil was going on there about the market, I was interested to see whether there was going to be any price differentials in a horse that you really like in this, and that's Elwood for Gordon Elliott. Handicap debutant, first time cheap pieces, make the case.
Yeah, I mean, the trainer has a fantastic record when putting on first time cheap pieces. That automatically says that Elwood can't be 30 odd to 1 like he is trading on Betfair. But nevertheless, he has some solid graded form coming into the race in Ireland, and that has been a good angle in recent years, following horses coming into Cheltenham handicaps that have been showing form in graded races in Ireland. And that's because the Irish racing scene, just particularly jump racing scene, obviously is much stronger than the British racing scene in general. And their graded races are strong. And this one was run up against the likes of Carefully Selected, who obviously is red hot favourite for the last race. And last time behind Irish Grand National Hope, Captain CJ. Now the problem for this horse is that it has a habit of belting the odd fence.
4 races so far only over.
It's a novice. So that is a big worry in a big field like this. But cheap pieces first time, big field, go a decent pace. Could that affect? Could he jump better with the headgear on? At the prices, I'm going to take a chance. And obviously there's nobody better than Gordon Elliott ready in one for a handicap, is there, at Cheltenham?
Sod's Law is one of the biggest things in betting land, isn't it? And having gone for 2 favourites, you very rarely pump favourites out. Our trading post expert has now kind of gone, well, all right, the pressure's off me. I've done with Brains a little bit, unlike Mr. Brains. And this could well happen, couldn't it, I think? Elwood could well.
So in terms of this race, if you look at the Supreme, whereby Shishkin and Abracadabras came from quite far back, sort of midfield, and came through. If you take the Arkle, where the winner was up there throughout and Fakir was pretty prominent, in terms of a race like this, bearing in mind the ground, Andrew, how would you see this panning out?
It could be a false start again for one. Everybody wants to get that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th position, that handy lead, get a good start. This start is particularly tricky because you're starting basically in the home straight and then you jump one fence and then you're immediately on the turns. If you're caught out 5 or 6 deep, you're then going around the whole top bend on the outside, and therefore you're giving away a lot of ground. Horse I really like the look of before the races look testing was Discorama of Paul Nolan's. He's got good course form.
What's wrong with him if it gets testing?
Nothing. I think that improves his chance. I think that improves his chance. That's why I liked him before it got testing, so I like him even more now. He's got good course form.
Nutted in the 4 miler last year.
Exactly, and that was a very good run. He's got, like I say, course form. Horses that prove that the act on Cheltenham is key for me. He won't mind the ground. He's got to put a disappointing run over hurdles behind him, but I kind of feel that was a prep and then they've had a wind operation, and he wears a tongue tie for the first time. So he's got plenty going for him.
My only worry with Discorama is that I know the owners quite well, both of them, and I spoke to them about 2 weeks ago, and I asked them about Discorama. Where's he going to go at Cheltenham?
Andrew Gamble, of course, Paisley Park.
And they had no idea. They just said to me, well, don't know what's going to happen to Discorama. I was like, oh, you're not going Irish Grand National? No idea. And then he turns up here. So
whether Paul Nolan's just been very shrewd and keeping his cards close to his chest.
Well, he must have been. Listen, it would be great to see Paul Nolan back in the winners' enclosure. He's got 2 chunk latest exhibition, of course, on the Friday in the Albert Bartlett Well Fancy. Look, I'll tell you why I like this horse. Wind operation, ran over hurdles last time quite clearly, thinking that they were on a pretty good mark. And having looked like they might try to make him into a proper graded chaser, which they had every right to do at the start of the season. If you remember, he ran second to Champagne Classic at Wexford. I think after that, they realised that they had to go down the handicap route.
And you have to have your 3 runs to qualify to run in a handicap chase.
There's another massive story on Discorama, which I've been mentioning a couple of times over the weekend with friends and mates who've been talking to me. What on earth has happened to Brian Cooper? I mean, this was a serious fall from grace. He has come back thanks to Paul Nolan, his resurgence as well. The two of them has been good. We're talking about Don Cossacks right here, G. This is he's got loads of. There was that. Do you remember when David Russell got injured about 10 years ago now, wasn't it? Was it 10 years ago? I can't remember. Someone will tell us what year it was. But Brian mopped it all up, then got the top job at Jigginstown, displaced Davey, and then I don't know what happened, but he just went totally out of fashion.
Yeah, injuries, wasn't it? He did a bad injury, didn't he? And I just think it's like any sportsman. I mean, you see it in football a lot. It takes some time, doesn't it, to get back to where you were after a bad injury.
I think his mentality got knocked a lot. I watched him on some short price favourites last season, and it's fair to say, I think probably Brian might be the first person to say he had a bit of a shocker last season, I think. So, no, I don't know. But that is a big story there, waiting to brew. And if you talk to some of the sages of the Racing Post, Gerald Delamere, Alistair Down and the likes, Graham Dench, they'll all tell you that these big handicaps are won by a story horse, none other than the National. Of course, there's got to be a story there. Neil Hubbard, what's the story of your tipping with this race?
Yeah, so I did actually come to the studio today thinking the Conditional was probably the horse for me. He ran a really good race in the Ladbrokes Trophy, sort of backed that up in the Classic Chase, albeit probably not staying, but he's got course form and I was really quite sweet on him. I'm probably going to change the bet now, though, based on the ground and what we're seeing there. And the horse I'm going to jump ship to is Big River. So he was 4th in this last year. He was 5th in the Scottish National. His prep race at Kelso he won. And he runs here from just a £1 higher mark than last year. So with conditions in his favour, I think I'm going to jump ship to Big River.
What price is he now?
So Big River is 27 on the exchange.
I reckon that you would get at least double that if you were playing him in round.
Well, he ran on really strong last year, didn't he?
Last year, he was one of the biggest eye catchers of the festival.
Lads, there's another bit of breaking news here. No Richard Johnson here on no comment. A horse that was placed in, I think, or hit the frame in the 3 festivals. He's a horrible horse if you backed him, and like in the last couple of years, because he just doesn't win. But Aidan Coleman, now, of course, who rides for McManus, a lot of his British horses when Geraghty isn't here in the British shores. He now gets on for Richard Johnson. I hope Richard is all right. Of course, rush back for the Cheltenham Festival. So again, look, all the narratives are starting.
That is something we could do, though, with Big River. If he's 27s,
right.
then we could look to put in an in-running price on him at, say, 40, something like that, see if we get matched and see how the race unfolds,
He is a funny horse. I mean, he absolutely flew home from miles back last year. And then I backed him first time, I think it was first time, in a 3 mile, 6 furlong long distance race in November. Yeah. And he is small field, and I thought, well, this would be a deal for him. And then he just spat the dummy out, never appeared to be going at any stage, and was beaten from about 4 fences. And I thought, well, this is just a funny old horse. He's got loads of ability, but I'm not sure he's got it up there.
No, and I think that's why at the price, he's 27. We're not talking about a 5-1 poke in a small field, are we?
Let us hope that Racing Post ambassador Richard Johnson is still in one piece for the rest of the festival. Fingers crossed for you, Dickie, out there. Let's check out what Paul Keeley thinks about this race.
Vindication heads the market for the Ultima Handicap Chase, and you can certainly see why, given how good he looked when he scored at Ascot on his return. My only problem with him is that his only run left-handed last year came in the JLT at Cheltenham, and he went out to his right at most of the fences and he went through a few. It looks like he wants a right-handed track. He might be Gold Cup class if it was the other way round, but I have to worry about him. He is £9 worse off for a nose with Kildesart, who finished 1 place ahead of him in the JOT last season, and Kildesart just bounced back to form at Kempton last time when they're 5th behind Mr. Malarkey in a valuable handicap chase. He sort of lost his way early this season, but that was when Ben Pauling was in really, really bad form, and things seem to be going a little bit better now. He likes this track. He's won the novice handicap chase on trials day, and obviously was 4th in the JLT, and he stays really well because he won over 3 mile at Aintree last year. Indeed, he's only £2 higher than when he won there now because he lost his form this season. I think he'll run a really, really big race, and I'll just put a quick word in for Activial, who may have been last of 6 behind Native River in the Demon Chase at Newbury last time, but he actually went well for a long way there. He's been 2nd in a Coral Cup, and he was 6th in this race last year off a £6 higher mark. He's got a chance at a price.
Paul Keels, straight from the diary room, the Racing Post farm down at the track. How do you think Keels is going to be feeling going into this with Kildesart? 2 horses I want to mention then. Keels gives a mention to Kildesart. Obviously, plenty of track form, won at Aintree last year. And Vindication. Come to the top weight first. G, I want to go to you with this. He's 159. I did all the stats, just looked for the horses. I think the T'other one in 2010, or maybe it was that year or the year before, 158. So Vindication is the classiest horse to run in this race in the last decade. Chance?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, favourites chance. Yes, he has got a lot of weight, but remember last season he went off an odds-on favourite almost, a very short price for the Scilly Isles Novice Chase to beat Defi Desoy and Lost in Translation, and he couldn't cope with them. But he still ran very well in 3rd, despite not really jumping that well, and that distance would have been well short of his best. And he stayed on very strongly. He wasn't beaten that far by him. I think he went off 11 to 10 to win that race or something ridiculous. So that shows you the level of ability this horse has got. And then he obviously finished 5th behind them in the Marsh Chase as it is now last season.
Now, I backed him in that, and this is what worries me about Vindication. Tinks, maybe you can come in on this. He never. I don't think he looked like the track at any stage to me. I was on him, so I was watching him the whole race. And I could tell I was beaten, I think, about halfway stage. Tinks,
to me that day, to me that day he just didn't show up as much. I think he could be a class horse in the handicap. He could be a grade. He could be definitely graded class and above. It's just 11-12 on his back. He's got to give weight all round to 23 rivals, and it's going to be a big ask on this ground. He's a very, very high quality horse, but you just think he's very, very competitive, and something with a lighter weight, like you mentioned the conditional, like you've mentioned Big River, Cobra de Mai could be an improver now in a handicap. Things like that, Actival could be an improver. You know, things like that have had form, good form, and have now sneaked down the weights and are just slightly more competitively weighted.
Okay, we've got a YouTube comment on that Tinkler tactical bombshell. Let's have a look at what we've got. I'm waiting this to come up on the screen, I think. Rob, our producer, has told me Activial in the next £6 lower than last year. Get it home, Johnny. Get it home, Johnny. Is that your moniker? Activial in the last. Okay, G, let's talk about Activial. Keeley gave a mention to that as well. I must admit, when I was doing my stats and looking at Kevin Morley's excellent 10-year dreads, we are lucky, G, that we get them weeks in advance, don't we? But they're in your paper every single day. They're on the website. Kevin keeps it. He has to go by statistical records. Sometimes he does lean a little way of his own tips, but Activial was one that ticked boxes. Will he get home?
I'm not convinced he will.
Heavy ground.
Yeah, testing ground, and I know that he was contesting a hot race last time out. He didn't show much, did he? At Newbury, well held. I know it was a much stronger race, beaten by a Native River.
Do you think he had one eye on this though?
Maybe.
They know he's going to get in, aren't they?
Maybe. But
having poo put the kettle on as well. This is they're now doubling up probably.
You've got to be careful here.
Yeah, exactly.
All the YouTubers are going to have
He's
to win.
50s on the exchange. So
is that right? Okay, so we're about to see that coming down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Tinks, another horse that ticks the boxes. Not sure about Activial then, but all the best luck. I'm sure he'll travel well. Is Atlanta Blaze. And
my mate.
Yeah. Tinks, tell us why we're coming to you on this horse.
My mate.
Painful memories?
Very painful memories, yeah. I fell off the front of her at Doncaster and she broke my jaw, cheekbone and eye socket in one clean kick.
Can you get us the picture up? We can probably show the cameras, all right? It's a perler. It looks like he's gone 10 rounds and a couple of bounces.
It's not a good image. When the surgeon said to my wife, do you want me to operate on him? And she said, what's the point?
My wife wouldn't have even turned up, Tinks, so I'd take that. All right, so fair enough. But you know this horse. Okay. last year she fell in the 4 miler, but she ran well to.
It was just a mile too far, and she ran very well. She's got very tired. She's usually a very good jumper, albeit I've managed to deck her on one occasion and fall off on another. But she can be a good jumper. She is well higher in the weights than she once was. I think she went up £36. In the meantime, I've tinkered with a wind, which was the reason for the improvement first time to second.
As Henry Daly said in the paper today, that was his big comment.
Yeah, but whether she can keep improving, I'm not sure. Is she a good each way bet? She probably is. What price is she?
On a Blaze.
Atlanta Blaze, yeah.
Yeah, she was around 50s, I think, when we just looked there.
For a horse who's ran well at the course.
Yeah, 50.
What price place, Neil? You can see where I'm thinking of going with this.
Yeah, are we going 4 place, 5 place, 6 place? All options, but we'll have a look at the traditional 4 place market.
Yeah.
Here, Atlanta Blaze is 9, so 8 to 1 to finish in the first 4.
Gee, are we tempted by that? I mean, there's Elwood, look at the top as well. He's pretty solid for a place, isn't he? You can see that Big River, since Neil mentioned that, he's coming pretty solid for a place as well. Who Dares Wins? We'll get to him in a minute. Fascinating little horse. Can we see Atlanta Ablaze? Have you ever been with this mare, G?
Yeah, I used to follow her probably when Tinks was riding her, actually. She always liked sort of heavy ground, didn't she? Did she win a couple of races?
She did. I think that was more, she was a big fish in a small pond as opposed to loving the ground, if I'm honest.
Small fields, would that be an issue?
I think she prefers a small field. This just could be a bit rough for her now, if I'm honest. I would personally rather be with a horse that's got like solid form, like Activia was third in the... Was he in third in the Coral Cup, I believe he was.
Okay.
Something like Vintage Clouds could run well at a big price. Ryan Maney, you said this race could be a story race. Well, he's back from retirement after such a long time. It could be one for him.
Love it. Okay, Neil, they're down at the start, they're circling around. We're all getting a bit nervous about the standing starts. I mean, Neil, what's the story of the race gamble-wise?
Not a lot. Perhaps Discorama is into 6 to 1 now.
Is he clear fav now?
No. Vindication is still like solid at the top of the market, but he's just the other side of 7 to 1. And
Cheltenham Festival is still waiting for its first favourite after 2 races. We should say that, and the punters are not afraid to get stuck in to one that they fancy. So class is just outing. I made a comment yesterday. I thought Discorama was certain to go off favourite. Doesn't look like it's going to be the case.
A little bit of money for Elwood. Into 25 to 1 from bigger than 30.
We always like to see the late money, don't we?
The Sod's Law horse, we'll be calling him.
Just touching on Elwood, people might wonder why Davy Russell's not riding him for Gordon, but he simply wouldn't do 10 stone 6.
I have been told, stop the press, not to bang the table this time. So if you've been watching and you've been getting a clouting, you know me, I like to get revved up during the race. Honestly, my wife's delighted I'm in here with you all this week, I think, and my dog certainly is as well. But I'm going to try not to bang. But this race, I must say, from a personal point of view, I backed a couple in it. Who Dares Wins? I wanted to talk about him, chaps. Comes into it having won the Pendle.
Yeah.
And they've said they had a range of options. He could have gone anywhere, RSA. He's a small horse, isn't he? I asked Gav Sheehan whether he'd like to ride that sort of horse or not. I'd be worried about him getting slightly lost, thinks.
Just look at him there. You can see the size of him compared to the condition on his outside. He is a small horse. If he finds rhythm early, just hope the cheek pieces help him do that. They obviously feel they need to keep his mind on the job.
Who Dares Wins? Handicap debutant, 4th in the Cesaro. It's classy animal.
I thought he had a good chance from a form perspective, but I'm not entirely sure that he wants a stiff test of stamina like this.
He ran really well in the Coral Cup, didn't he, a couple of seasons ago, and he looked like he was going to win coming to the last and just bottomed up the hill. So, okay, let's remind our selections. Discorama, Andrew.
Discorama for Tinks.
Elwood.
Sod's Law for Graham.
And Big River.
Neil has jumped ship, but you can do that. Back more than one in a race as well. Let's hope you're having a good one out there. Good luck for the Ultima coming up. They are walking in. We're all a little bit nervous at this point.
This will be a go. He'll let them go earlier. What he should do, he'll let them go shortly.
That's perfect.
Just look at the way the starter's flag is flying there. There must be fairly strong headwind there, would you say?
That's behind. Is that into them or behind them? I will check that. It just looks like, I don't know, it's hard to tell, isn't it, from there? But Vindication is bang up there. Mr. Malarkey, another horse. We're off and we're running. And this time they're away. They're away. Happy days. Activial then up there with Vindication for the lead. Cogri, who absolutely loves the gaff. He's a stout stayer. They are all over the first safely. Quarenta out the back.
Yeah, bad mistake from Quarenta. But this is what I was talking about, the pace. You see the pressure from the outside, like Killstart and things. They're having to press to get a handy position, whereas the horses on the inside, like midfield inner, are having a nice time.
Vintage Clouds is up there. We didn't give him a mention, did we? Placed in the race, last couple of years. Just a mark, I thought. Ryan Mania obviously mentioned by Tinks, but he's got himself into a nice position.
Yeah, real dour stayer, isn't he, Vintage Clouds? Seems to go well on heavy ground, so conditions will suit him. And the question is whether he's going to be fast enough. But he's certainly holding a good position early on.
Big River's got a good slot.
Yeah, he
down
does.
like 7th, 8th down the inside. He's, usually you see him. I hope he can keep that slot. Discarama's dropped right in.
I just wonder if he might throw the dummy out at some point, Big River, but we'll see how he goes.
Cepage has got a nice situation there again.
Oh,
Charlie Deutsch.
last one. Oh, yours has gone.
That's mine. That's
Elwood's
Elwood
gone.
has fallen.
Gee. Elwood has gone.
This
Quarenta
can't
has
get
gone
any
as well.
worse,
Who
can
made a
it?
mistake?
Yeah,
So,
Quarenta has
oh,
gone,
gee, you're going to be.
I did say he had a habit of belting
we
the odd
booked you
fence.
for this show now, G, aren't you? Absolutely.
You'll be happy with Discarama. He's travelling well. He's 3/4 back in the field there.
And Antwerp Play's got a lovely little sit there, hasn't
Yeah,
he?
she's got nice position. I'd say she's got more room there than it looks, because, like I say, often around here horses jump off to the right, so she's following Cogri, who's going to
Mistake
continue
Discarama
forcing.
there, chaps, at the third, just to jump in. Kildesart's a little bit more prominent than I thought. Mr. Malarkey isn't. You remember in the Racing Post chase, as we used to call it, at Kempton last time, the third prep for him this season, he absolutely bolted up, didn't he? But was he flattered that day, G, when he was up front? And does he like Cheltenham, 4th in the RSA, beaten a long way?
Yeah, beaten a long way, but it was a very strong RSA, wasn't it, last year? And I always think in these handicaps at Cheltenham, by the time you get to about this stage in the race, if you're playing him running, you've already got a good idea of who's going to be the contenders, because if you're out the back, it's very difficult.
Aidan Coleman got a
involved.
nasty fall there off no comment.
Oh, the highs and the lows. That's 2 falls in a row for no comment. If you're on JP's runner there, Richard Johnson, of course, in the medics room as we speak. News come on Aidan Coleman. Neil Hubbard, let's go to you. What is going on that exchange?
Yeah, Vindication and Discarama are joint favourites at the minute at around 9-2, so they're pretty well clear of the rest as it stands. Vintage Clouds is into 20s, and you can see why, because he's on the front end. He's ran in this race for the last 3 years.
Let's just talk about Discarama, Neil, because he's pulling for his head at the moment in midfield, isn't he? He's a bit too keen. Neil, what price? Just
9-2.
9-2.
I don't think he's too keen. I think it's important in the position he's in that he travels where he is. The horse that you mentioned that we needed to get fluency earlier, Who Dares Wins of Alan King's, he's actually found himself in a nice position and he's jumping well.
Yes, something interesting that I want to mention before we get to the next fence of Who Dares Wins. Gav Sheehan, who I referenced from What a Shout when I chatted to him about this horse and would he like to ride him, he said Kingy likes his horses ridden one way against the paint in midfield.
Yeah.
He's not quite got the paint, but he's just pretty
No,
close
but
to
I
it.
think if he had the paint and it didn't go right, you're then reliant upon everything to go right for you. Whereas if you didn't travel with a little bit of room, you always have the option to go out. So a smaller horse like him, he had to reach for that fence. I'm very happy with Discarama. I must
One
say.
circuit done. Cepage has found himself in front. Vindication still bang there. Conditional's got in a nice toe. Vintage Cloud still up there. Soupy Soups is making a bit of ground. Let's just look for the other one.
McCallie still hasn't
Looks
made a
like
bit of
Cogri's been pulled up, we should say, as well. He's never in a rhythm. Twiston Davies' horse. Let's all call it then at this stage. Oh, I think Vindication might just pull this out the fire. Atlanta Blaze to run on for a place, Tinks.
I'm liking the conditional, Who Dares Wins and Discarama.
G.
I like Kildesart.
Kildesart. He's gone wide on Kildesart, hasn't he? So he's just given him a good view. Neil Hubbard, who wins?
I think Discarama, perhaps. He's travelling
Long way
really
to go,
nicely,
isn't it?
but
Mr. Malarkey just given a bit of a shove there, leading fancy. Does he like Cheltenham?
actually the conditional's going really nicely there, isn't he? Behind the
In
first
fact,
4
there
or
are a
5.
few coming
Yeah.
in. Big River's just sat quietly out the back, Neil Hubbard. What price are we looking at Big River now?
Still 25s, but I guess that might be what you would have expected.
This
'cause he
is
was a long
very
way off. But
Derek
yeah,
Fox, Grand National.
creepy.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that if you see any Lucinda Russell horses and Derek Fox out the back. Let's have a look at Burbank. He's still just creeping in, maybe, just out the back. But at the moment, the story of the race is prominent races, chaps.
At the moment, the ones travelling to the fore are going well, but there is so far to go. And obviously, there's the ditch on the hill, which caused all the problems in the Arkle to get over. Atlanta Blaze made a mistake there. Soupy Suits made a mistake there. Discarama, you just like him to have continued to travel a bit better and be a fraction closer.
Cobra Demise here. Harry Skelton, Dan Skelton. He is horse G that's got some pretty good form on his day. He's
Yep.
just creeping on the inside.
Yeah, he's creeping up there just behind Who Dares Wins in midfield, and he is one of the better handicapped runners in the race if he can.
Activio went
return to
there,
his
did he?
best.
He pulled up.
Okay, Activio pulled up as well. Is that Townsend on the outside? I can see coming into contention all of a sudden with the white blaze.
Yeah.
Looks like it to me.
It's an interesting route, isn't it?
Neil, come on, mark it. What we doing in running?
Yeah, the conditional's gone favourite now at 4-1. Although pretty similar to Vindication, to be honest, and not much between Discarama. They're sort of the 3 at the minute,
I'll
although
tell you what.
Cepage is then next in there.
Discarama coming off the bridle now. Atlanta Blaze is creeping, but is she too far back? So, Cepage, we're coming up to the third last. Cepage awash with sweat. Going still very well for Charlie Deutsch. Is he too high in the handicap?
Does he stay? That's the
Does
question.
he stay?
Does he stay?
Right next door. class horse of the race. He's taken to Cheltenham better than I thought. Vindication, they're over, fine. Kildesart made an error there. He can whack a few. The conditional there, they're struggling to get into this.
He's going nicely though, isn't he?
Here comes Discorama. What price now? He's back on the bridle.
Yeah, 9-2 Discorama.
We know he stays. Vintage Cloud doing filling his lungs again.
Is that Big River tacking onto the back of them there?
Come on, boys, call it.
It is, yeah.
I'm going to be banging desks against unless someone starts shouting.
I still like Discorama. Go on, Cooper.
Come on, Discorama, get it up. If we had to call it now, stop the clock. Vindication's got to be the one to beat. The conditional. Brendan Powell waiting in, switches to the inside.
Oh, bad mistake by Vindication.
At the second, Sepage is still banging.
Go on, Cooper.
You've got Big River's coming into this, Neil Hubbard.
Yeah, he's.
Call this, Big River. He's
Go on, Cooper.
Come on, boys. Come on, Big River and Discorama. Come on,
Go on, Cooper.
I wanted to bang the desk of conditionals
Go on,
in front with
Cooper.
20 yards to go. Big River's absolutely flying. Discorama at the death as well. Kildesart's there. Can Kildesart put it out? It's going to be a big race on the nod for the conditional. Woo-hee. Wow, Neil Hubbard, you gave him a strong mention.
Yeah, changed my bet though, didn't I? Changed my bet though, didn't I? So
great shout with Big River though.
Yeah, he ran a perler, didn't he? He ran an absolute blinder.
Gee, did you bet one there? Because you were like, literally, you weren't saying anything. You were. It was like you were on one.
No, it's just the excitement of the finish. Yeah, I mean, I thought that Kildesart might pull that out near the line, but
wow.
Yeah, the winner stayed on well.
That's the errors for Kildesart. We saw it at Ascot last time, and that it looked like that was his prep run. First time cheap pieces. That 3 out. That's just what you see with him. I guess it's all roads to Aintree now if he can get there.
Yeah, and this, just from a jockey's point of view, and I know a winning rider is always a good ride, this is mega for little Brendan Powell now, because he's a class rider who doesn't get the opportunities he deserves because they're not there for every jockey in the weighing room. But this lad, he's proven now on the big stage, he's more than good enough.
That was massive finish, that, wasn't it? Wow. We're awaiting the official result. Conditional has seen off Kildesart. Big River was absolutely flying at the death. Well, something like the Scottish National now, Neil?
Yeah, well, he's fifthing it. Was he fifthing it last year? I
Yes.
think he went from here to that same race last year. So
yes, he
there's
was.
no reason to think he won't tread a similar path, I suppose.
He's obviously well suited by a big field, strong pace, where he can bury himself and come late, isn't he?
David Bridgewater nicks himself a Cheltenham handicap
steer clear
winner.
of him
John
in those
Bolster memories
small
of.
little fields.
I'll tell you what, and again, Bridgie, some character, isn't he?
Some character, and good, this is like good to see. There'll be some parties near Stow-on-the-Wold for the next week or two. But what a great race. Discorama ran great. Big
Vindication's run a blinder, isn't he? Just not, maybe just the weight and the stamina, G.
Yeah, and I still just think he has that little tendency just to go slightly right at his fences.
That's interesting.
And coming to the last, he's still bang there, and his class got him so far, but he's obviously got a lot of weight and just run out of it really last furlong, wasn't
Like he was given a stone and a half to the winner.
Lot on it.
Discorama, let's just have a quick word about him. From an in-running perspective, Neil, that must have been fascinating to watch because he looked like he was going to fall out the back of the telly. We saw him in the 4 miler, let's not forget, last year. He obviously looks like he wants a bit further, doesn't he, than even this test?
Yeah, I was just trying to note down. So he went off at around 11-2, which is what we thought. He only hit 11-4, but he was pretty much sub his starting price the whole way, really,
short,
without
11-4,
getting really short. But so the conditional hit 25-1 for £4 in running, which, considering he was pretty much up there throughout the whole race, is no bad thing. Kildesart hit a low of even money, pretty much a little bit bigger than even money.
Wow.
And my boy, Big River, actually hit 5-4 in running.
No!
For £90, yeah. So
wow. So there's a lot of laying off going on in running there.
Yeah, well, we would have been in a nice position had we taken some of that. But I think the winner was pretty good, wasn't he? He was always up there. He brings that solid...
he was down on his nose 2 out. That's why Tinks is shouting. Watch that back. He was down on his nose 2 out. Up until that point, he travelled like the best horse in the race, didn't he, I think?
Yeah, I think he just brings lots of, really solid handicap form from this year to the table, doesn't he? Like, he's running the Classic Chase, he's running the Ladbrokes Trophy, he ran in a course and distance, or in a handicap over the course, at least anyway, back at the turn of the year. So, I mean, it was all there, really, I suppose.
What a
makes you wonder why he jumped ship, really. But never mind.
What a finish that was. Wow. Absolute drama at its best. We've got the full result. Let's get it up on screen for you out there then. Where we go then. They're on top 5. Okay. And if you're looking at the SBs there, lads, not too many surprises really. The conditional laid out for this after that great one at Newbury in the Ladbrokes Trophy. Beats Kildesart. Keith Melrose of betting editor put that up at the post, as did Keeley. He's knocking on the door, Keels, isn't he? Discorama, myself and Tinks have been another place for us.
We're knocking on the door, aren't we?
Another place for us. First place loser, I suppose. Vindication, absolutely massive run. And in fifth for Neil Hubbard, a big shout. I'm sure a few people took a little bit of that 20s into 18s. Big River there in fifth. So, story of the race, lads. Class horse of the race, 3 out. Vindication looked just that, didn't he? Yeah. Cruising all the way. Where do we go with him now?
Well, I think that he's going to end up in graded company, isn't he? Because he's going to go up in the weights, would you say, for that?
Yeah.
He's going to go up again,
yes,
maybe £1 or £2, maybe a little bit, which is going to then force him above the 160 mark. It's going to be tough for him to win handicaps off that higher mark.
You're looking at the Betfair Bowl or something, then, or let's think about the other way around. Sandown, Punchestown, probably the one.
It certainly seems to be a little bit better going right-handed, doesn't he? Certainly the main bulk of his best form has come at Ascot, you'd say, really. So maybe there might be something for him there.
If you're a right-handed lover and you want to go into these staying races, it's left-handed all the way. Isn't it? We're talking about Betfair Bowls, talking about Cheltenham Gold Cups, talking about Grand Nationals.
I just see, as an analyst looking at this race, I just think that it's quite strong form. I mean, when they turned for home, all the class horses were there. Like Sepage was leading in, Vindication, Kildesart, Discorama. It's a 24-runner race. And 3 of the first 5 home have come from the top 7 in the weights. Just shows you how far class can take you in those big handicaps.
Kildesart and Vindication, both upsides each other in the Marsh last year, weren't they? So what we've really seen here is Cheltenham form, the Cheltenham factor, which some people say it doesn't matter. Keith Melrose made a big point in saying it's overrated. This, Big River coming back. Sepage loves the gaff, doesn't he? You called it quite right, G. Nod to you there. He didn't quite get up that hill, did he? He was awash with sweat, wasn't he? Venetia Williams' horse. But
he's a really tough horse, old Sepage, but 2 mile 5.
It's rock. So again, where'd you go with a horse like that? It's rock solid handicap form. The winner, surely he's got to be tempted by the Grand National next year now, hasn't he?
Yeah, it has to be on the cards, isn't it? You know, he's going to go up in the weights for this, but he's proven he's a class act. He's beaten, like we say, a graded performer there. His jumping can still improve, but his form in the Hennessy was crazy good. Just a trip you'd worry about that he didn't quite see it out in the Warwick Chase would be the only thing, and this seems to be his absolute optimum trip. But then on spring ground, which we haven't seen him on yet, he could be a different prospect altogether.
Wouldn't be 100 to 1 to come back and try this again.
No,
on tempo too, come back and win it again.
You also don't need to be a slogger to win a national now. It's a change race of some degree, and obviously it's a classy race now. It's a classier race than it ever was, and it's a faster race than it ever was.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The first time Tiger Roll won, he kept going through the top of the fences, didn't he? And Davy Russell knew second time around he's going to be able to get away with it. Okay, so we'll try and get a time for you, first and foremost. Look at my phone, see if I can see anything coming up. And we'll compare now the Arkle and the Ultima times. The story, of course, of the festival so far, RE the ground. Should it have started on heavy? A lot of people will be suggesting in print, let me tell you, this paper, that probably would have been the case. Kills is absolutely certain it should have been. A lot of time experts out there as well saying there's not a lot of soft for 4 millimetres of rain, only overnight. Of course, it's a Champion Hurdle coming up next. The big race of the day. We're still waiting for a Fav to win. What price will that make Epatante? Because let's face it, bookmakers will now be thinking, even though we had a fancied horse there, happy days. Bookies winning the race so far, chaps?
Definitely, yeah. It's a bookie's day, isn't it, so far? The first 2 hot pots, well beaten, Notebook and Asterion Forlonge.
How are you feeling? Let's get a line from. Let's get a line.
Well,
cameras are off. How are you feeling?
Let's just say I've had worse days, I'm sure, but I can't remember too many of them. So let's just hope that it gets better. Well, we got 4 races left. We got. So there's still a long way to go, and obviously we've got 3 days after this. You know, we don't have to
Marathon,
go blasting to get it back.
Marathon, not a sprint, is one of our mantras that we've been saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Highlight of the day so far. Highlight of the day, probably Shishkin.
For me, the filly in the Arkle. I thought she was just really, really good, tough on the day, jumped the best, travelled the best, and got a great ride. I thought she's a highlight for me.
I agree. Like, having watched it back, and we're trying to pick holes and think, oh, what happened to Notebook? What happened to Cashback? Blah, blah, blah. And you look at it and you go, well, she was just really good. And I think sometimes you just got to take your hat off to that and just say fair play.
G, hot Supreme. Are you with me on that?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal perspective, I'm not really sure there's been a highlight, but on the track, I mean, Shishkin was impressive enough. and you can't take anything away from that race either. I quite like the form of that race. I think it's going to work out.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so I'm hoping that Epatante takes the big one in the next. I'm on the fav, so it's listen. I've had 3 places, and I'm feeling. If only if Fakir Duderis had won the Arkle, I would be over the moon, really. But I think Discorama got me out of a bit of trouble there because that's pretty much covered my selections there and that. Shall we move on to the Champion Hurdle? Shall we move on?
Race of the day, let's do it. Race
of the day. Let's give it a load of big uns. Selection time then, I'll start. As I just said, Epatante. Do you know what? I went into the race looking at the Champion Hurdle thinking I'm going to get this. And then you look, first thing to say about this year's Champion Hurdle division, chaps, is it's probably, well, not one of the weakest only, but the most open. Jesse Harrington's comment on Super Sunday, who we're going to see a lot of love for, I think, for the panellists in a minute, basically said it's the most open renewal she could ever remember. Let's see if that's reflected in the market. Coming up on the screens right now. Draw a breath, Dave Olsen, Andrew Tinkler, Graham Rodway, and Neil Hubbard. We're looking at the race times actually, and yeah, that was to be expected slightly, chaps. I think, isn't it, with the Ultima being slightly slower, but we're looking at every ground. How is that going to affect Epatante? Look at that, she's the 9 to 4. Has she ever threatened Neil Hubbard to break the 2-1?
No, not really. But I mean, you've got to bear in mind that this time yesterday she was like 4.5. So this is quite a significant market move from where we were like 24 hours ago, really. So she's pretty solid at the top of that market now. If there's clear water between her and the rest there. So Silas Emery's next in there at 8.4. Pentland Hills is a big drifter, so he was 7 this time yesterday, so 6-1.
Cannot have him, can they?
No, so he's out to 9, 10-1 now. Super Sunday, 13.5, the same as Dava Star. Sharjah, Call Me Lord. I mean, it's a race, as you say, Dave, that's wide open, and you'd struggle to really put anybody off having a bet in this if they had a particular fancy, because I think you can make a case for most of them, really. Well,
okay, I've made my case. Epatante, Tinks.
Super Sunday camp for me. Horse who I think stays very well. He's a multiple Grade 1 winner. He's obviously got course form. And I think he's been forgotten about in the market. From a price perspective, I think he's been forgotten about in what, as we just discussed, is a very, very open race. But he ticks a lot more boxes.
Graham Rodway. Come on, Graham. This is it.
Well, I think, first off, it's fascinating to see what's going to happen to Epatante from this position in the market. Because I think, as we said earlier, every horse has got a price, really. And I think that she has kind of hit it. Can she really be any shorter than 9 to 4 on the exchange at the moment? However, she is of course owned by JP McManus,
birthday boy JP McManus,
who has been known to land the odd gamble here and there.
Yeah.
And you might think to yourself that if the money continues to pour in for Epatante and she gets shorter than 3, she's far shorter than she probably should be. Is there a reason for that? Is it because they really, really think that she's top class? And the bookmakers obviously I would say the bookmakers have got the better of it so far, and put the kettle on being obviously a fantastic result for them. And I thought she might drift because of that. You know, the bookmakers got a bit of money in their satchel, let's get after her. But she's not, she's very strong.
She doesn't hit a lot of trainers, does she? Jerry Fielden winner was last Jerry Fielden winner. That's a question I've asked without knowing the answer. The Jerry Fielden, of course, the handicap at the Ladbrokes Trophy. Rock and Ruby. Neil Hubbard back in for the stats there.
Maybe.
Well, let's get a look at some stats for the Champion Hurdle right now on screen. Okay, well, there are your stats, so that helps you point you in the right direction. Now, we're going to come to Neil now on this front. You're a Super Sunday fan before we go into...
Yeah, full disclosure. Yeah, he's one of my anti-post bets for the year. So, I'm with Andrew here with Super Sunday. Well, he's got festival form. So he's
Yes,
ran
he has.
pretty much every year over the last 4 or 5 years.
Talk about his profile. We talked about it at the start of the show.
Yeah, so he ran in the Bumper. Did he run in the Supreme, Coral Cup?
Won the Coral Cup.
Yeah, and the Stayers. So that's 4 or 5 years worth of festival form. So we know the occasion's not going to bother him too much. He won the Grade 1 at Aintree last year, beating Bouverdere. That was 2.5, obviously. Yeah, the trip is the unknown here, but it's a big field. You can be pretty much guaranteed they're going to go a pace. Look, would I back him now at
What
the
price
sort
is
of
he?
price? So he's 14 now. I don't know, maybe not. I'm sat on, like humble brag, I'm sat on slightly bigger prices. But yeah, I just think in a wide open champion hurdle, then he's probably got as good a chance as any in terms of running into a place and that. Yeah.
What's the lay fancy in this? What's the lay? Come on, let's have a look at that. Let's concentrate on getting one in this now. Then should we have a team get one?
Yeah,
Let's see if we can do this.
I'm
then.
happy to take suggestions. I mean, like Pentland Hills in running, you know, he's been beaten at 1.01. So the basement price on the exchange, 100 to 1 on. He was turned over at Haydock last time. In the international before that, he hit 1.6 and was turned over. We know he travels really well based on his Triumph.
Can we do it now? Can we get an in-running lay?
Yeah. So
Are we happy with this team?
He's going to travel strongly, and I think they'll ride him colder today. I think they'll ride him with more restraint.
They're
and I
definitely going to ride him colder.
Yeah, and I think just whether that will be the difference and how much improvement he needs to find is the key question for me.
Well, we won't be able to show the lay in running, so because you'll be watching us lunatics watching.
But I mean, like he's
this champion hurdle.
11.5 to lay here. Now I think we're all in agreement that's probably too big to lay based on just the way he's gone for a walk in the market. But that doesn't mean we can't take the price down a little bit. So like we could say that, you know, during the race, let's say he perhaps hits, I don't know, let's say 6, so that's 5 to 1.
I think he's going to go lower. Gee, come on in here. You must have an opinion on this horse.
Yeah, I don't like him at all, particularly on this ground.
So
because
lay.
I think he's the speed horse in the race. And the other one I don't like on the ground is Sharjah. I think Sharjah is a speed horse, and I think that this is going to be stamina test.
Okay.
So they would be the two that I was looking to get in running.
Neil?
Yeah, so I'm happy to lay Pentland Hills in running. Like we don't have to get as greedy as some of the prices he has hit. But if we think he's going to travel well, catch the eye, because I mean, like he could hit this sort of price and still be anchored out the back. Like as you say, you're going to ride him cold. Well, he could still be hard on the bridle and ridden cold and still hit a low price in running.
Let's talk about the other travellers in the race. Cours Sublime. Gee, I've heard you talk about this horse before, I'm sure. Cours Sublime travelled really well, Pentland Hills. In fact, you could make the argument in last year's Triumph, if you watch it back, Members Club, in your replays from last year, stop the clock, turning in, Cours Sublime was going absolutely beautifully.
Yeah, and
Quite get up that hill.
if you fancy Cours Sublime, then you're really banking on the wind up and the tongue tie, which they've stuck on here, making a huge difference, because I don't think he's good enough to win it. Otherwise, ground shouldn't be an issue for him, should he? Seems to go well enough on testing ground, would you say?
Oh yeah, I've got no problems with him on that, and he's had a pretty good season, hasn't he? Who is going to hit the shortest in running and not win?
Yeah.
Pentland?
That's basically what we're trying to...
That's what we're trying to ascertain, isn't it?
That's what we're trying to get to here.
I've got a feeling it might be Pentland. Although what worries me about that is that the pre-race drift suggests he might not even make it to 2L. Yeah. So
but that's
what about
fine
Not So Sleepy? What about him?
But that's Not So Sleepy. He's a front runner.
Exactly.
Again, back to the false start malarkey we had in the first 2 races. That happened to him in the Betfair hurdle at Newbury. He actually ran unbelievably well to finish as close as he did, and once it was all over, Johnny looked after him. He was an improving horse up until then, and I think you put a line through that. Is he up to this? I'd be surprised, but we've seen front runners like Rooster Booster and things over years gone by.
But he doesn't have to win, of course. He just needs to trade lower than what he currently is now.
He will trade lower.
14 made all in champion.
But it comes back to the standard.
Not So Sleeper will trade shorter in running, because he will get a freebie, and I would
Will he get a freebie? Cornerstone lad in there, they've said doesn't need to lead, but obviously the Bouverdere shock in the fighting fifth.
Yeah, but just from Cornerstone lad's point of view, he'll make it on his terms if he's within his comfort zone. But Newcastle on very heavy ground to a champion hurdle on albeit very soft ground. To me, whether he's just going to be pressing more buttons on the dashboard than need be, I'm not so sure whether he's
Petit Mouchoir, pace angle. Not So Sleepy, of the aforementioned pace angle. Gumball, pace angle potentially.
Cornerstone lad.
Cornerstone. So look.
So you're going to need to stay. So that points to Super Sunday. You're going to need to handle the ground. points to Super Sunday. It's a huge price.
Tinks, I think I can't have him. I should say that. The only reason being he's a 10-year-old. I just can't see his pattern. The main reason why I asked you tell us about his profile, from a bumper to a Coral Cup, to a Stayers.
I'm the same as Dave. I mean, that's it. My problem with the horse, I suppose, is I just look at it from a purely from an analyst's perspective, and I just think, well, 10-year-olds that have finished second in Stayers hurdles don't win champion hurdles.
I'm with you. So listen, we're hovering over a proper Pentland Hills in running lay, but let's just see if we can be persuaded by what Paul Keeley thinks.
The champion hurdle has to be one of the strangest renewals in recent years. There isn't a single horse you can't pick holes in, even favourite Epatante. She looked really, really good when she won the Christmas hurdle at Kempton, beating Silver Streak by 5 lengths. But the only time she's run a bad race in her life came in a big field at Cheltenham last year. There were excuses for her, according to Nicky Henderson, as she hadn't recovered so well from her flu jab, but at the same time she jumped terribly in the big field, and that worries me. Pentland Hills has twice been beaten by Ballianda this season, yet is half his price, and I can't really understand that. I think it's a race where you have to go for a couple of outsiders, and I've backed 2. One of them is Silver Streak, who was 3rd last year, beaten 15 lengths by Espoir Dallin, who would probably be odds on against this field. And he looks like he may have improved this year because he's run really well on soft ground. What he has as his advantage is a really, really good form in big fields. He's only been out the first 3 once when there's been 10 or more runners over hurdles. That's when he's completed. He did unseat once. And he has fantastic form at Cheltenham as well, because he's been second in the Greatwood, he's been second in an international hurdle. Talking to the international hurdle, Call Me Lord won that in December, beating Ballianda and Pentland Hills. He flopped at Sandown last time in a 4-runner race, but he wants a big field and a strong gallop. He's going to get that here because there are plenty of front runners. Cornerstone Lad will go forward, as will Not So Sleepy, as will Petit Mouchoir, and you can't believe it will be anything other than a strong run race. He stays way beyond 2 miles, and he does like a big field. So those are my 2 against the field.
So Paul's taken a flyer. Silver Streak, who definitely deserves a mention. Form closely ties in with Epatante, although he's thrashed by really at Kempton. He's been here and done it, and they've gone close in a Greatwood. Ground may be an issue for him. And Call Me Lord as well, who if he hadn't run at Sandown last time would be a lot shorter than he is in the market. I asked if we'd be in a little bit more clued up about what we're going to be doing after Paul said that. He said the one thing that does look absolutely nailed on is a pace burn-up cue an absolute crawl, but which can sometimes happen, G, can't it?
It happened in the Arkle, didn't it?
They do read the spotlights, these jockeys, you know.
We thought it was going to be a mad pace in the Arkle, and it wasn't.
And it wasn't. Okay, so listen, are we any closer? I think Pentland in running is where I'd like to go, probably.
We haven't mentioned Kios Emery yet.
No, we haven't.
He has to be obviously they've supplemented him for the race.
Now you're saying this, I'm just hearing in my ear. Rob is the producer is telling me that Mr. Brains has been back on. Now, don't forget, he's somehow put the kettle on.
Oh.
Okay, Brains, what are you going for? Chilos Emery's huge surprise, for me at least, to be switched back to hurdles. Bouvardere, of course. Willie is in the Mustang. Huge each-way chance. Okay, Graham, just picking up on what Tink said there. 5th in a Supreme. We were talking about it, Neil, earlier, weren't we? And that was the year of LeBake. God, one of the weirdest Supremes out there. Went from the front that day. Can't imagine they're going to do that here. Did he have a hard race at Gowran in the Red Mills?
I wouldn't be too worried about that, but I thought that his best piece of form is over fences, and obviously he's back over hurdles now.
It was looking like he was going to go champion chase, wasn't it?
It was looking that way. Now, he's obviously got loads and loads of ability, but having watched his run in the Red Mills, I didn't think he looked like a champion hurdler the way he jumped. Right. So in my eye, he was a little bit slow and a little bit out to the
behind
left.
in second, who reopposes.
But that was on the back of a fall, and that run will surely bring his confidence forward.
In a way, he reminds me a little bit of a few years back. Do you remember that horse called Valeramix?
Yes.
Who was arguably very unlucky not to win a champion hurdle and ill-fated, sadly, that day. But that horse was not a particularly fluent jumper, but had loads and loads of ability.
Is that all it might be?
It was.
I
remember coming away thinking, I was sure Valeramix would have won.
Everyone's got a Valeramix story, yeah.
And he was never the most fluent of jumpers, and he just had so much ability that he was able to get himself into that position. Could Kilos Emery do that?
If your hurdling's going to get exposed in any hurdle race of the entire season, this is surely it.
Yeah, they fly. Like, I've been lucky enough to ride in it a few times, and the intensity of it is enormous. Like, it's a strong pace from the outset, but there's just everybody's has their position. You're surrounded by good horses. Even the 50-1 shots are good horses in their own right, and the intensity of this race is quite incredible. You're going to need to travel, you're going to need to stay, you're going to be strong at the line. Will it draw the speed out of Epatante? It's going to be very interesting. Only they know how good she is. If she wins this, albeit an open race, on this ground, she's very, very good.
We say they. I think they have backed her like they did at Kempton. That was one of the gambles of the season, G?
It was a big move, wasn't it, at Kempton?
Massive.
You can't say she didn't deliver either. She was wildly impressive that day.
Take out the blip from last year where she was 9th, when a hot favourite for the mayor's race, which is coming up, of course, later on the card. She would be 1-1-1-1-1-1-1. And the reason why Henderson said that, Neil Hubbard, is because of the flu jab and his horses were not back. Did you see any fluctuations on Betfair, of course, when she was coughing? Is that why she went 4-1?
Yeah, so she did drift out a little bit then, but I mean, it was only sort of briefly that she sort of went bigger than the sort of prices she's been trading now. She's still pretty solid at the top of the market now at 9-4. It's pretty stable, to be honest. Not a great deal going on. Maybe a little bit of money around for Dava Star, who's just headed ahead of Super Sunday at the prices. But, you know, we're talking not very much here.
Let's talk about Dava Star. One of the stories of it's the story bet. One of the stories he would be of the entire year. A remarkable novice hurdler, G, owned by a number 22, SSB number 22 syndicate, Irish Lottery winners, I believe, and has pretty much confounded all experts, nearly beat Honeysuckle in the Irish Champion Hurdle last time at Leopardstown. Now, the Irish Champion Hurdler's not in this. Dava Star, tipped up by some shrewdies out there, for an absolute genius in Gav Cromwell, who won the race last year, with Espoir Dalen, who was a 16-1 shot, same sort of price. Are they going to go, why weren't we running in here with Honeysuckle? Can he possibly shake him up?
I think he can. He looks, to my eyes, very tough and genuine. I haven't watched his race at Leopardstown. He was under pressure turning for home, and I thought he was going to fall out the back of the TV, and he really rallied home strongly against a horse in Honeysuckle, who was going down in trip and shouldn't have had any problem seeing out the distance. I can't believe Honeysuckle was stopping. So Dava Star was really finishing well. I can see him being suited by this uphill finish, and we were talking about horses who could lay in running. I mean, what about a horse you could back in running?
Yeah.
Dava Star, he would be my idea.
You'd be hovering.
Who I would be hovering to back, because coming down the hill, when they get racing on that downhill part, I could see him getting outpaced. But then when they hit that uphill finish, he is really going to be coming home well, because he did at Leopardstown last time. I really think this finish will suit him. I could be interested in him if he touches a big price in running.
He's actually another one with an eye on tomorrow with Envoy Alan, because obviously he was, third behind him in the Royal Bond, I think. So
this could be a shake-up for a lot of horses, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Epatante, just on the VT there, she's coping with preliminaries very, very well. Much better than she did when she bowled over last year. So
she wore earplugs at the start, I think, during Kempton, if not through the race. I'll check that.
And she's come through the most intense part of the prelims there as well.
Before we have a final look at the markets and we get mine of our selections, let's agree on our lay. I'm sensing that me and you are really keen on the Pentland Hills in running.
I'm quite happy to lay
Chaps,
Pentland in running.
do we have an opposition to that?
No, I'm happy to take him on, and I want to take Sharjah on as well.
I thought equally with Sharjah. And Super Sunday is my each-way positive play.
If I had a coin, I'd toss it. But Neil Hubbard, we're happy to go with you. So can we see the in?
Yeah, so I've actually keyed it in here on Pentland Hills. So I've put in for Pentland Hills at 5-1 in running. So that's 6 on the exchange for a fiver.
Yeah.
So for £5, when you're actually laying something on the exchange, you actually put in how much money you want to win, because of course, if the selection then goes and wins, you obviously have to pay out the winner of this. So if Pentland Hills does win, then we'll be on the hook for £25. That's our liability. However, we've got everything else running against us, because we're running for us to win that £5. But of course, this is in running, so we need to wait for the market to come to us. If the market, if he doesn't reach this low price, then the bet won't get matched, and it will just be void, and we'll get our money back.
We'd have to be pretty unlucky for Pentland not to go around about that price. I think he's one of the best jumpers in the race. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and he will travel. You would have thought.
Ping.
I mean, if we wanted to take it safer, then you could actually back him at the start and then lay him in running.
Pretty testing when he won the Triumph, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the slickness of his jumping is nearly what's cost him victory the last twice,
he's
because
getting
he's getting there too soon. He's travelling into the bridle too well. Today from the pace angle, hopefully that ball's wrong and there's not a pace collapse. and that they take him far enough. Otherwise, he'll be jumping, and Nico's going to have to take him back all the time. If he can land, fill, and he's just filling up his petrol tank all the time, when he gets to the bottom of the hill, it's not going to be as far up it if he's full of fuel.
I mean, that is the way to play it. I mean, you could, like I say, you could back him at the start, because we're all saying how open it is. I mean, would it be a massive surprise if he won it? Really? Not. I wouldn't say so. But we're all very confident in how he's going to travel in the race.
And we've all said what an open race it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Albeit Champion Hurdle. Everyone says.
So the safest thing might be to back him pre-play and then lay him in running on the assumption that he does hit one of these low prices.
We are going down to the start. So let's have a look. We'll chat amongst ourselves as we're sort of watching go down. Chaps, if you see anything that I don't, please do say. Silver Streak is the one that we can see at the moment on the circuit.
There's Pentland. Quite
How
relaxed.
does Pentland look to you?
He looks very well. If anything, he looks to be stripping fitter than he did do when he ran in the International. And I wasn't at Haydock when he ran, but I believe he's a hard enough horse to get fit, and probably because he is a racy type. Nicky is a genius with his 2 mile hurdlers. He wouldn't be sort of pressing buttons all the time in the early part of the season because you'd light him up too much. So when you're trying to contain a horse who can pull hard, you're trying to switch him off all the time, naturally you're not getting him as fit, so then you're relying upon your races to bring that core fitness. He's now had 2 runs on very soft ground. His jumping is slick. The key thing is the pace, as to how keen he is. If he pulls too hard early, he won't get up the hill. If they go quick enough that he settles and he jumps slick and follows them, all of a sudden 6-1 could be a big price turning in. It's all pace dependent.
And of course, the heavy ground we're expecting to really play its part. If it turns into a real grind, who would you not want to get into a dust up down the alley with? Who's the toughest in the race?
There's some tough ones in there, aren't there? We've already mentioned Darva Star, who's going to be staying on shortly, but Ballyandy, he is a real tough nut to crack.
Who beat Pentland Hills, of course, on the nod.
He did, and
at Haydock.
And in the International, when he was beaten a short head by Call Me Lord, he was under pressure turning for home and really put his head down and battle. And when he won the bumper here, again, you will not see a horse who looks more genuine in a finish than Ballyandy.
Well, that is remarkable, isn't it? It shows you how keeping these horses in training as they get older. Because we were talking before we came in to the studio, Neil, about Ballyandy. You remember, of course, champion bumper winner. He looked awful, didn't he, in his novice races? I mean, he was terrible in that Supreme. They tried him over fences. He couldn't jump a fence. But you have to say, if there's a benchmark course along with Silver Streak, and I suppose Super Sunday for the Irish, it's got to be Ballyandy. What sort of price is Ballyandy? I mean, lots of people, a dual course winner. He's got form with, Epatante and Pentland. What price?
Yeah, he's 30 on the exchange at the minute. I guess like a similar horse to throw into that mix would be Silver Streak as well. I mean, he was placed in it last year. He's come through the handicap route and stuff. He's a bit of a, I wouldn't say old-timer as such, but you know what you're going to get from him. He's going to be running on strongly as well, and he's got form in terms of being placed in this previously. So
they are jostling about at the start for the champion hurdle.
It's getting rough and ready down there.
Feature race.
Like every race has up until now, but this looks like the pace is going to be strong. Not so sleepy, he's up there and he's going to go hard.
Okay, so 2-1 Epatante, that's pretty much the benchmark, isn't it? And the market suggests that she's well clear of the rest. 7-1 bar, basically, with the SPs at the moment. Goodness gracious me. All right, lads, let's have a look at how they're landing up. Now, Not So Sleepy, unsurprisingly, has company for the lead. We call Gamble a pace angle. Looks like Darva Star wants to be up there. Maybe they're expecting a flat spot from him at some point. Cornerstone Lad, of course, you remember, stole a march in the fighting fifth when seeing off Bouvedere, remarkable race earlier in the season at Newmarket. They are up there, at the back.
Pelton Hill at the back. So, he's getting ridden cold like we thought. And
shall I hit go on this late in running bet then?
I can't believe you've not already done it, Neil. Get on with it, absolutely.
Charger looks like he's going to be ridden for luck as well.
And Petit Bourgeois, another pace angle up there. Call Me Lord looks like he's sitting midfield. Epatante not too far off them. That's quite interesting.
No, it's important you get a good start here to go down and jump the first well, and then you can find your position and muscle in a little bit, and then you can then see how quick they're going. If you jump off out of your ground and then they don't go that fast, or there's a pace collapse, and all of a sudden you're too far back.
The flag is up, and that is a headwind, Graham Rodway. No doubt about that. So, champion hurdle time. Get ready out there. Good luck with all your selections.
Would it be? No, please not.
Can't be. Come on, they're just coming in. We're just seeing if it's going to be an understanding start. Come on. Oh, you're kidding me. I mean, what was wrong with that, Tinks?
The issue is the rules are the rules, and they were cantering. Now people will be watching that from the TV monitors and throwing things at it, saying, "Why didn't they let them go?" But for the jockeys to have 100% trust within the starter and within the new jurisdictions, they can't do it, because once they let them go once, you lose that trust and that confidence within the starting.
Need to be
protocols.
consistent.
So the rules, sir, is an ass.
Unfortunately, the rules are there. This is wrong, though. I mean, we won't keep boring our listeners with it, but this is wrong that this now has to be a standing start, because it's just a
But you
mess.
can see now they're all lined up past the starting part. So
Yeah, they've got to get to that. The tape goes. We've got to get to almost where that orange piece is on the top.
Let's
They're all
think
ahead
about the
of it.
market then, chaps. Neil, who I mean, not so sleepy. What on earth has gone on to his odds? Remembering that Betfair.
Yeah, I mean, he's drifted slightly, but we're talking like 55 out to 60, so it's not like a huge difference. Epatante's still fine at 9-4. Pentland Hills and Super Sunday are now the same price.
The issue is here now, because this tape, they're so close to it. When it goes up, the horses will naturally sort of stand back on their hocks.
Not so sleepy does not look at all happy here, lads. Does he? Johnny Burt's keeping him wide.
It's a messy
It's an absolute
side on,
shambles of
pretty
a
much.
start.
Yeah.
So they're spread out already. And if you're on La Patriote, probably be one of the big outsiders, and Not So Sleepy, you expect to be front rank, and Gamble, they're not. Leading at the moment is Petit Mouchoir, confirmed pace runner, and Cornerstone Lab. We thought he'd be up there. Ballyandy sitting nicely as well. Darva Star a little bit keen, just in fourth position. Not So Sleepy pulling his way up into contention, unsurprisingly. Andrew Tinkler, let's look at some of the big guns.
I just think the big guns, you've got Barry Garrity, who's a bit keen there now, and Davy Russell. They're keeping the fancied horses, or what they think to the fore, are all keeping an eye on each other. So Barry's Robbie Power's keeping an eye on Barry Garrity, and Barry's obviously respecting the chances of Course Sublime.
The
Graham
market
Rodway.
the market really likes Darva Star. He's actually second favourite now.
Wow, but that's because he's...
He's got a lovely position, hasn't he? Would you say?
I was going to ask you how quick they're going.
yeah, I mean the start's really messed things up, hasn't it? Because Not So Sleepy, if you've backed Not So Sleepy here, then you've lost all your chance at the start, because really Not So Sleepy's chance was based on him going out and making all.
Yeah.
And yes, he's come through the field to now dispute second behind Petit Mouchoir. Don't appear to be going breakneck, but you know, that is the frustrating thing with these starts.
Yeah, now they've steadied it up a little bit. Now they're not going really, really quick, mind you. If you're in the middle of them and you're not going that well,
Super Sunday doesn't look to be enjoying this.
Yeah,
Neil.
he's getting busted along. Whether this half a mile down in distance is
the market's not
too short for him.
like not too fussed. He's still the same price as he was.
Right, yeah.
when
He can
started.
race slightly lazily is the key. Pentland Hills creeping down the inside. The issue with Pentland Hills is now if he jumps so well down here, that he'll end up stuck behind a wall of horses.
Catching my eye is Shilos Emery out the back. He seems to be travelling quite well. Call Me a Lord settled really well as well. I'm not sure Epatante was totally clever there, but let's have a look at Epatante just quickly, chaps. A little bit keen, a little bit green still, potentially, but Barry Garrity means business.
I think she's travelling very well, don't you, Graham?
Yeah, she seems to be going well to me. If I'd backed her, I wouldn't be worried at all.
Course Sublime, Neil, what price is he? He was a strong traveller.
Yeah, into 11-1. Epatante is now pretty solid at 2-1 now, so she has been nibbled in. So people are liking what they see so far.
Halfway stage in the champion hurdle.
She has missed a couple though.
Yeah.
Epatante, she just wasn't 100% clever there either.
Her technique would be to be a slick jumper and fiddle as opposed to stand off outside the wings. And so, albeit she might look like she's not jumping in fluently, she's also not wasting any time in the air. So
Super Sunday to me looks like the first that's going to be in trouble here
He's
when
just
they
been
really
flat
start
out for
pouring
long
on.
enough, yeah.
Now you have to expect that Petit Mouchoir is going to turn on the gas. He's got himself quite an easy lead here. In second, about 4 lengths off him, is Darva Star, still going well. Epatante, double handful now for Barry. Ballyandy's had the box seat throughout, hasn't he? All on the rail, going really, really well. Course Sublime. Now Chilos Emery's starting to go. Not So Sleepy going backwards through the field. Cornerstone Lag going backwards through the field. Right out the back, Pentland Hills as well.
Yeah.
Been told not to get there before the last hurdle by Nicky Henderson.
Is he stealing this on the leader? Is he trying to
Petit
steal it
Mouchoir,
here?
Rachel, she's definitely got a breather in a minute ago. Epatante's still travelling very
Look
well.
at Barry.
in my
He's
opinion.
desperate to get some cover behind Darvas. He's had to pull him out now. We come to... Is this 3 out, lads?
3 out.
She wasn't very clever there, Epatante, at all. She's going to have to... I'll tell you what, Barry Garrity's going to have to be his absolute best. Le Patriots making up ground on the outside. Chilos Emery's getting into it. Ballyandy not moved a muscle. Where's Pentland, Neil?
He is, sort of tacking onto the back of that, but he's out to 20s.
Yeah, he's on the Shishkin route, but he looks beat at the moment.
This is not good for our place late at all. Darva Star, we're coming around the home turn now, lads. Darva Star now under pressure, but he's
Super
making
Sunny's still
ground.
there. Go on,
Epatante
Super
absolutely cruising.
Go on, Super Sunday.
Will she get up the hill? Sharjah coming into it. Graham Rodway being ridden cold. This would be a massive surprise.
Hit the low button.
Okay, we're coming up to the final flight. It looks
Super
like
Sunny's gonna
Epatante
get
still on the bridle. She's got all the weight, lads. Here we go. Whose best jump wins it? Come on, Epatante. Get up there, Hill. Come on, get up there, Barry. Press it. The favourites in front. 200 yards. She's stealing away. Shah in the back. Aye, aye. Aye, aye, Dave Orton's got one on the board. Epatante, JP McManus, the birthday boys. Streaks home. Shah in second. Woo-hoo! That was exciting to watch, boys, wasn't it? And I have to say, I've had a little cheeky each way double down there as well. Happy days, JP McManus. Look, lads, I'll calm down a little bit if possible. We've seen the star of the race come to the front there, boys, right?
Best horse by far.
By far?
Some performance from the winner. Yeah, she travelled so well into that race. And coming to the last, you just had that little doubt over her. Will she get up the hill? And she stormed up it.
Boom, boom, boom! Happy days. That was absolutely superb, wasn't it? What I loved about that, we weren't sure because of last year, the doubters, the Cheltenham factor, which we saw from the Ultima, came to the fore. She had none of it. She flopped. Henderson's been proved right. Double for Henderson, we should say that.
And I think also, people forget, when she ran last year, she was only 5. Like, she's improved. Her horses keep improving through 4, 5, 6 and 7. She ran last year. She's obviously physically stronger, mentally better.
Yeah.
She's been in a great place. As soon as they put her away after the Christmas hurdle, 75 days ago, they've taken this race so seriously. Nicky Henderson has proven in years gone by he knows what it takes to win a champion hurdle, as he's done on numerous occasions, and she's absolutely bolted up.
I mean, I'm over the moon with that, as you could probably tell. But yeah, that's it's one I just came round to, and I just think that despite the fact that she was green, she fiddled, she got a little bit chopped at come. That's what makes it impressive for me.
And her technique, like I said, it's her hurdling technique. She's so slick.
Fascinating.
She's never going to stand outside the wings and make 2 lengths and out jump her rivals. But what she will do is fiddle away into the boards and land out at least with momentum and back into the bridle. And that's, again, going back to the Nicky Henderson thing, he trains pace into them so that she lands straight back into the bridle even if she does make a mistake. So she never loses her position, therefore.
We don't know what was third. I mean, she just fiddled that third last there looking.
Yeah, but look, she's straight back in. But she never lost her slot.
That's
Had
impressive.
something like Super Sunday, who 2.5 mile done that, he'd have lost. Someone else would have been in his position immediately. Because she's landing straight back into the bridle, she's able to get back into the position, and Barry's able to sit.
Yeah, for me, that's Barry Geraghty. It is absolute best. We are talking about a guy that's been on the scene for such a long time, and just now we're watching him coming into the home straight. It's at this point where you think, right, what's ahead of her? Petit Mouchoir, who's had the freebie up front. Dava's Star attacked. She's now just angles out. Super Sunday's bang in there. Chillis Emery's coming up for a slice of the action. Sharjah, you're thinking at this point, gee, oh my goodness, he's back.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time when if you're going for Sharjah in running, you've just got to stay with it and believe that the heavy ground will catch him out. But to be fair to Sharjah, he has finished off very, very strongly, but he has run into a top class mare right on her game.
Dava Star, given a good mention by shrewd judges, including Graham Rodway. A place bet there landed. Silas Emery was 4th. Super Sunday, chaps, let's have a quick mention about him. Didn't look like he enjoyed the way the race was run, Neil Hubbard, at all. To get in with his chance 2 out.
Yeah, I think the race probably panned out how you maybe thought it would do in terms of him just being a bit tap for toe when they turned for home there. He only hit as low as 11, so 10-1, which pretty much is his SP. So yeah, look, I don't think he's run a bad race. No, he's just not good enough / quick enough.
No,
really.
Correct. He could see what it went to stairs, Graham Rodway. 2 mile 4 at Aintree again.
He was right on it, wasn't he?
It's got to be perfect for Aintree hurdle, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they were well within their rights to have a go at this. He's ran really well, but we've just found out that, he probably is a 2.5
And with
miler,
Paisley Park in the stairs division looking a near on good thing at the moment, albeit you should never be afraid of one horse. I can see why they've come down this route, and when you get beat, you always think, oh, well, hindsight is a wonderful thing. If we all knew hindsight, none of us would make mistakes.
Probably got a little bit unlucky with the ground as well, didn't they? It was a big thing earlier in his career about him not liking heavy ground.
It's an interesting one on the ground, though, when you think about Sharjah. Because all the talk beforehand was like, he needs good ground. Like in the Supreme he ran in, it was like, oh, the ground's gone against him. Yeah. All of this sort of stuff. Well, based on the times and everything we're seeing, we're saying it could be heavy or soft heavy, and he's ran brilliantly.
He's another one of these funny horses, isn't he? I remember when he ran in the Irish Champion, was it last time? And like every judge on the panel on the podcast was with Sharjah, and I just said, you know, to me, Sarja is one of those horses you want to be with him when he's a good price, but when he's a short price, you want to be against him. And again, he's just shown there again, when you don't think he's going to come through, he does run an absolute stormer, but when he's fancied, he just doesn't seem to be able to produce the goods.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I've ever backed him, actually, ever. But it was too bad to be during the Irish Championship. Again, on What a Shout earlier in the year, we had Patrick in January, and we asked him about the ground, and he said perhaps people make a little bit. He's mustered on good ground, but he's not so bad. I think the one thing that we saw there was Sharjah, and if you go back to your quotes in the paper today, listen to what Patrick said in his interviews with us. I can do what I want now. I can. Whereas if I was a bit more fancied, having not run the Irish Champion, the pressure would be on me. And obviously Patrick gets a great tune out of this. We're talking about an amateur rider here.
Only by name though, isn't he? He's as good as most professionals.
Yeah, and that will give him a lot of confidence for carefully selected in the closer as well. Okay, let's talk about some disappointments in the race. Chilos Emery didn't quite get up the hill, Graham Rodway.
Yeah, he was a long way behind, wasn't he, early on? They were sort of back in the Pentland Hills area, and both of them really never got into the race. It was funny because we were saying they weren't going that fast, that strong, and Darvastar obviously was up there all the way. Epatante was nicely placed, but those in behind they never seemed to even threaten, did they? Apart from Sharjah, of course.
Yeah, so you
can upgrade Sharjah's performance.
First upgrade bell rung from the analysts. Okay, that's interesting. What about Ballyandy? Look, was there? I mean, he couldn't have had a better run through.
I think he's ran his race. I think he's ran
that's as good as he is.
To form. He's not getting any younger. What is he? 9 years old now. Yeah, he's 9 years old now.
Behind Epatante in the. Okay, so let's look at him from a benchmark perspective for the form. She has to have gone on again, doesn't she, from that Kempton form where the one of the gambles of the season. I don't know what she was on Christmas Day. She was about 7-2. SP, something like 6-4, something crazy, Graham, wasn't it? Huge gamble. When we see these McManus horses, they get backed. They are on. It's tiddlywinks for these guys. We should say there's a lot of money going on, but she is the real deal, isn't she?
She looks it, doesn't she?
She is the real deal. Now, knock on for form. You mentioned, Neil Hubbard, that if Darvastar runs a biggie, who's that going to boost?
Envoy Alan tomorrow. And he's run a cracker, hasn't he? He's run really well.
Huge. So we've had Abacadabras and Darvastar both seeing the backside of Envoy Allen.
I mean, where would Envoy Allen have finished if he'd have ran in that?
Oh, and that now is going to be a talking point, isn't it, of course? Was entered for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Darvastar hit 9-4 in running there. And I think you can see why. He had a lovely position all the way round. Sharjah hit 1.6, so hit 8-13.
Okay.
Epatante hit 5. I'm not totally sure if that was in running or just pre-race before the money started to come for her. But there's some really interesting ones. Like Pentland hit 6.6, so 11-2.
Oh, no.
So we were like 0.6 away from getting matched, but not too bad. Le Patriot went off at like BSP of 740 and hit 20s in running.
He did make a move, didn't he? Around about 4 hours.
Phenomenal. Chilos Emery 3.6. So 5-2. Super Sunday 11, as we talk about. Pete Mouchoir was 50s, pretty much BSP, hit 5-1.
Because he got the freebie, didn't he? He's run really well, actually. Pete.
So just some really interesting sort of takeaways there. Actually, another, like, if we want to look at, like, just going back to Pentland Hills a little bit, we were talking about Pentland Hills, we were talking about Course Sublime, that triumph form from last year. One's finished well beaten, the other's finished last. I don't know, it's a bit of a tenuous link maybe to the triumph, but, in terms of how hard it is for those horses to then step up into open company, it wasn't pretty for them today, really.
Well, it wasn't pretty, but boy, was it pretty for Here Come the Girls. We've had 2 mares that have taken 2 of the first 4 races on the opening day of the Cheltenham Festival. Was it a champion hurdle for the ages? Well, I think perhaps we can say potentially the winner will be a superstar. Talking of superstars, he's back, Alistair Down, and here he is, giving us some memories of his Cheltenham times.
With the Cheltenham Festival fast approaching, what better to do than to sit down with a man whose life and career has been intrinsically linked to the great meeting. He is award-winning journalist and broadcaster Alistair Down. And Alistair joins me here at the King's Head in Bledington, just a few miles from the racecourse, for a very special edition of Memory Lane. Alistair, thank you very much for coming to join me here.
Good to see you here in the King's Head, but they say I'm the second best customer. I shudder to think what the best customer spends.
So you come here quite frequently,
it's about 182 yards from my home, yeah.
And you are a man who is sort of known for your love and affection for the Cheltenham Festival. You've written a book Cheltenham et al.,
Yeah.
I believe. But where did that love for the festival begin? Where did it all start?
I think it originated early childhood. My dad was he was no expert. I grew up in suburban London, sort of pleasantly heeled, but I think the closest horse was in North Scars Parade. But he was a punter and he loved it. And he loved Cheltenham. And he and Mum would go off to the meeting and stay there. They stayed at Upton on 7, Upton under 7, sadly, in recent weeks, with some great friends. He'd been the escape manager at Colditz, would you believe? And he used to come back with tales of the meeting. The first time I think I watched a race with Dad, I think I was about 5, and I had the mumps. And I was at home from school, therefore, and Dad had got the mumps as well in his neck.
Gosh.
And was upstairs in bed, very rare for him to be ill. And he decided that, despite having been given the mumps by his horrible son, he would get up and watch the Gold Cup on television. I think he put it, as I walked down the stairs, the mumps descended about 2 foot as well. And he ended up with mumps where a man doesn't need mumps. And it was the only time that his love for me wavered, I think, in all his lifetime. But that was the first time I remember. But Cheltenham, in my teenage years at school, I had the key to a house a few miles from school, and I used to wangle somehow, or I just didn't turn up, for the 3 days and go and watch it in black and white up in this house near where the great Peter Caslick trained, Fairlawn in Kent. And I used to watch there on my own, loving every minute, listening to all those O'Sullivan commentaries. And I was much in love with it by the age of 13, 14. I mean, kind of, not obsessed, because that has a sort of unhealthy element to it. I just adored it and was dying to be there.
Okay. So, and what was it about the festival in particular? Because obviously you must have developed a love of racing generally.
I developed a love of racing by the age of 5, yes. Sitting on Dad's armchair, in the wing as he jumped up and down shouting at the telly, I would do the same. And all dads are heroes to their kids, and he was very much a hero to me right until his dying day. A meek, quiet, mild, humorous man with a genius for friendship. And I used to go and get in those days, the London Evening Standard had about 12 editions, one of which was entirely racing, the Midday Standard.
Right.
I go down go down the Saturday morning and get the Midday Standard from the local on my bike. Last time I rode a bicycle, last time I took any exercise. And we go through the form, and I was riveted by it. Cheltenham in particular, something about the change of atmosphere on the television, something about the arrival of masses of Irish. I was sort of 7, 8 Arkle's time. Saw him once at Sandown as a child. But I was just utterly enraptured by racing in general, jumping in particular, but specifically the festival.
Okay. And so at what point were you able to actually go
this will be my 45th Cheltenham without missing a day.
Wow.
I first went when I was 19, in that gap year, so-called, which people are meant to travel the world and do useful things and great works for other people in Africa. I didn't do any of that. I went racing. And by some extraordinary coincidence, I was offered the use of a box at Cheltenham, which was meant to contain 12 people, right on the winning post, owned by a family friend, couldn't go. And I filled this box of 12 with about 40 people, all around that age, all kind of racing mad. It was like the Black Hole Calcutta with more to drink. And it was a good day, so much so that I think 3 or 4 people woke up at 4 o'clock the following morning in a siding at Paddington.
Wow.
Yes, it was a good day.
Right.
And we had plenty of people coming in and giving us winners, and it was blissful. I've never raced in such style at Cheltenham since.
And so then, obviously, as you say, you've not missed a day since then.
No.
There must, the festival, there are incredible stories. You mentioned Arkle there, who was perhaps a little bit before the time you started going. Yeah. But talk about some of the horses in those sort of early days that really struck a chord with you.
Well, I think one of the things I loved, in those days, little yards did well at the meeting.
Okay.
Small stables. A guy with 15 horses in Wiltshire could go and win a Son of Lance or an RSA or whatever it's called, or a Joe Coral Farm and other attempts. small trainers, retired steel workers, whatever, they could go there, not with a level chance, but with a very good chance. And it wasn't the fiefdom of the big battalions that it is now. It isn't the fiefdom of the people with 60 runners, the Mullins, Elliott, Henderson, Nichols approach, which is fine. It's not a thing against it. But I loved the little yards who went there with a chance. And also, small yards started at premium price. And in those days, of course, you go down to the betting ring with your £3 or whatever it was, and somebody would have a horse at 12 to 1, and 3 rows along, it would be 16. So that's long gone. You used to shop around, and you could get value, or what you thought was value. And I loved the fact that the best laid plans could either be thumpingly successful or horrendously wrong. And you'd sit on horses for months thinking, that'll win the so-and-so at Cheltenham. And you would come into the last and fall over, or something like that. And I loved the fact that there was no hiding place for horse owner, trainer, jockey, or punter at the meeting. It's unforgiving, yet remains fabulous because it draws you back in. It never puts you off if things go wrong. You just say, and always the things that go wrong are better stories. I backed a horse that fell in the paddock once at Cheltenham.
Really?
A thing called Celtic Ball, and it was 89 or 90 in the Coral final, and it had marginal form, small trainer, and it went on 8 to 1 favourite for reasons I couldn't believe, and we'd backed it at 20 something. And the Queen Mother turned up in the paddock, and it went 4 foot up in the air and landed smack down on the walkway, and that was the end. Well, it ran, but ran back quick as I could. I think it's the only one I've actually backed that's lost it in the paddock.
Okay. That's the perpetual draw of it, isn't it? Is that you can win, you can lose, but you're involved, I suppose, and that's the key thing.
Yeah, it's been my great privilege to be involved, albeit peripherally as a writer and once upon a time as a broadcaster. But I think what I love about it is, to me, it's the last great racing democracy. I mean, Andrew Marr made a documentary about post-war Britain, and he shot some footage at Cheltenham, and to his surprise, he said there were as many nose studs as trilbies. I mean, it's not quite true, but it is much more of a democracy than people think. And everyone's got an opinion. The Duke stands next to the dustman, and I love all that. And I love the fact that it's the last meeting where people in large numbers stay away from the meeting. Obviously, the Irish are here for the duration, but people come from the north and from the far west, and Scotland and home counties, and they stay there. And they go to the same pubs every year, have the same arguments with the same other people they see once a year, and the same fights. And I love all that. I love the community of the meeting. And we're there, yes, we're there to watch the racing, watch great deeds, have a bet, but we also go there because we know that every year, 2 or 3 things, I wrote years ago, will happen that nourish the soul. They're just magical moments. And I can't find that anywhere else. And for atmosphere in sport, there's nothing to match it.
There is quite nothing to match. There's nothing to match this show either, lads, is there? Oh, so let's take a little bit of a breather. We've had a breather. Whew. Okay, how are we feeling?
Very good.
Champion hurdle down. I mean, I'm high now, as you can tell.
I am feeling relieved because after those first 3 results, I thought today might be a bloodbath for me punting-wise.
But we did agree on that, didn't we?
But luckily, Epatante has got me out of trouble and Dava Star each way, so that has replenished the funds somewhat.
Oh, see, you're back.
Yeah,
you're
I'm
back.
We have the last 3 winners now.
Right. Of course, we've got the Mayor's Race coming up, and the hot pot of the entire week in Benny de Jure is about to come up. Before we touch on the markets with Neil, Tinks, how's the experience racing Post Live and Exchange, Benny? I mean, you didn't know too much about Exchange.
I'm loving it and learning, which is great. You know, it's great to see it from the other side. Obviously, I'm so used to being very fortunate position to be riding there a lot, and was able to dine at the top table a couple of times, which was mega. But it's so interesting to see it from this side today, and like we touched upon, the other side tomorrow.
And tomorrow you're going there and having a couple of sherbets. I've seen him having a couple of sherbets, let me tell you. If you see him anywhere... We were talking about it just before we came on the show. I said, when you went down to the start, did you ever have a little look at the Guinness tent and all that sort of stuff?
We didn't look, but you know, it was...
you knew it was going on.
You're in the zone then, but tomorrow I'm sure I'll see plenty.
Oh, him and Paul Keeley are at odds on to be in the diary room together come Thursday. And Neil, welcome. You're here with me each day.
All 4 days.
You said we are warriors. Well, if we're in this sort of form on Thursday, I'll agree with you. Ultimates at that, but
We need to stop changing bets. Should have stuck with the conditional. But Big
you-
River ran okay.
It did. So yeah, that's a good point actually, Neil, isn't it? Last minute jitters.
Yeah, exactly.
You can look too much into these things.
Yeah, and probably be, well, I wouldn't say too much influenced by what you're seeing, because you need to be a little bit pragmatic and be, flexible and take new information on board. But at the same time, you need to stick to your guns a little bit as well. But all good.
All good. All right, well, let's see if she's still all good in the market. It's Benny de Dieu. What price will she be trading at, Neil Hubbard, right now in the Betfair market?
1.63, so around sort of like 4 to 6, really. So very solid. She was 8 to 11 this time yesterday, so there has been quite a significant amount of money that has moved her price in. So punters are definitely siding with her. Honeysuckle next, 3.95, which is around 3 to 1. And it really is a two-horse race. Stormy Island next, 14.5, and 30's all bigger the rest. But it looks a two-horse race, which is what we would have probably thought, and the market backs up that.
Breaking news, just quickly. Racing Post ambassador, champion jockey Richard Johnson has been stood down for the day. We'll see what the rest of the week holds for Richard, bearing in mind that bad injury which he came back for, challenging for the title. Stood down for the day, lad. So what more, Graham? He was due to ride in the novice handicap. We'll see who gets on that. Okay. Thoughts with Richard there. Okay, Benny de Dieu. You've heard what Neil's had to say about the price and what we're expecting. Is 4 to 6 a reflection of her chance, or should she be shorter?
That's about the right price, I think. When it was announced that Honeysuckle was going to run in the mare's hurdle, a good friend of mine phoned me up and said, I'm pretty sure this is evens the pair. And I was sitting there thinking, Benny de Dieu is just a class act. And they were much closer in the market than they are now. Now, Honeysuckle is out to around 3 to 1, is she?
3 to 1, yeah. Absolutely.
And, when you consider, he's not a bad judge, the guy I was talking to. He was saying around evens the pair. If you want to play the value angle, you might think the Honeysuckle's the value. But Benny is such a star, isn't she?
Well, I do think she's the value. And, each way thievery doesn't get any more dastardly than this, I don't think, does it? Look, we've seen Darva start, who nearly beat her in the Irish Champion, just placing the champion hurdle. Look, her best form is over this trip, isn't it? So they've gone for what they think, like they're doing with Epatante later in the week. They're not going to defect to the champion. We know that now. It's all about the Ryanair for him. They're doing this with Honeysuckle. She still has to prove herself slightly on a right-handed track, doesn't she? Because a lot of people were expecting more in the Irish Champion, Andrew Tinkler.
Yeah, her jumping left-handed has raised a few question marks. I think Benny de Dieu is standout here, in my opinion. Had she run in the champion hurdle, would she have been favourite with Epatante? Would have been very interesting to see where she would have been. But I think she would definitely have been joint favourite had she been there, and therefore I think she's a standout. Honeysuckle, I hate to be against her because she's done very little wrong in winning 6 consecutive races, but I just think Benny is a class apart and top notch.
Well, we know you're going for Benny. Before we go to Neil, is it a two-horse race?
I want to say yes, but there's a couple of things that keep jumping into my mind about Stormy Island.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about that for a place, aren't they?
She just looks better this season than she was last season.
Stablemate of Benny.
Yeah, she was beaten in this race last year, I think, behind Roxana.
Yes, she was.
When Benny de Dieu was going to absolutely water the track before she fell at the last. One of the worst punting experiences that was. I did have quite a chunk on Benny de Dieu that day because I thought she was a big certainty.
What price was she then?
And she was long odds on, but that hurt. That did that Benny de Dieu.
Everyone, didn't it?
Yeah, it probably hurt. It wouldn't hurt me as much as those people that were on any power, but it was a similar sort of thing. I can remember coming to the last, just clearly, vividly in my mind, and thinking to myself,
freakily similar.
Just please don't fall. And then, of course, as soon as it goes through your mind, it happens.
Harry Skelton's got not a dilemma on his hands here, but Roxana last year, who was sort of riding her for more luck and more for a place chance, and she she was the beneficiary of Benny's fall, but she had proven up until that point that she was giving Benny a run for her money at least, and obviously was the eventual winner. Now, something to believe, when you do that, the jockey of the winner goes, oh yeah, I would have won anyway, etc., etc. It's natural belief. But this year, does he still ride a pretty cold and banks on a mishap from Benny, or does he ride it more forcefully with a view to trying to beat Benny and therefore compromising his chance? It'd be fascinating to see how it's tactically.
Of course, her best form is over 3 miles at Aintree when she ran really close. She probably would have won that 3 mile race.
Santini as a novice, though, she pushed close, didn't she?
Yeah, she's very, very high class.
Oh, yeah.
And is she the slightly forgotten horse at the prices when they've been sucked into Honeysuckle and Benny de Dieu?
Neil, you've been sitting there patiently awaiting your turn, and are you just going to all in on Benny, or?
I think she'll win. I mean, if you look at Honeysuckle this year, she's won the Irish Champion and she's won a Hatton's Grace.
Yeah.
I mean, they're two of the most prestigious races in the jumps calendar. So you think just on that, you're like, well, she's surely got to have an outstanding chance here. If Benny de Dieu was in both of those races, though, she would have probably won them as well. And you shouldn't necessarily rate horses through the races they win. It's about the quality of those races as well. I think the favourite is solid. Would I back her at that price? Probably not. I can probably let it go. It is a 2-horse race for me. Roxana maybe for a place. Lady Buttons maybe for a place. Like Stormy Island, as G-Rod says there, maybe for a place. I think the favourite's just, it's not very exciting, I'm afraid, but she's solid. Isn't she?
What's the difference between the place chances of Lady Buttons compared to Roxana? Because Lady Buttons will definitely be ridden. She is always ridden patiently, and she doesn't get to the front too soon because she doesn't do a lot. Therefore, the way she's going to be ridden from purely a tactical point of view may give her a slightly better chance of being placed.
Who's that, Lady Buttons?
Lady Buttons, albeit she might not be quite as good a horse as Roxana.
Yeah, so Roxana is 2.88 to place, whereas Lady Buttons is 4.6. So
We'll come back to that, lads, because you've heard what we've got to think. The producers, Rob and Dan, are in my ear. Let's go back to the diary room, see what Paul Keeley thinks.
The big 2 in the Mare's Hurdle have frightened away the field, and we've only got 12 runners. It's no great surprise, really, given that Benny de Dieu and Honeysuckle look head and shoulders above the rest. Earlier on in the last couple of weeks, Benny de Dieu was around the 8 to 11 mark, and Honeysuckle was 6 to 4. I thought at that time that Benny de Dieu was the value, but she's shortened, and Honeysuckle is out to a big price, bigger than 3 to 1 with Betfair. In fact, she's 100 to 30. That to me looks a big price in what is a 2-runner race. You can even back her each way, and lose a little bit if she finishes second. It's very hard to see what else comes into the race, unless we have like what happened last year when Benny de Dieu fell at the last. Roxana picked up the pieces that day. She won. She's back again. But Stormy Island has been in very good form this season as well. In all honesty, though, those 2 are probably fighting it out for third, and Lady Buttons might run well at a big price too. But it's between the big 2. I think Benny de Dieu will probably win. I don't necessarily agree with the difference in price between them now, although all the money has been for Benny most recently.
So, another tick in the Benny box. He's getting lower in that chair, isn't he?
Is that a pre-recording, or is he just sat there having a little snooze in between each one?
I don't know when the
lower
boys.
and lower.
I don't know when Sam recorded that with him, our cameraman, but something's telling me he'd done his work by that point, Graham Rodwell, and he might have had a bit of claret.
I can't wait to see this at the end of the week. What is he going to look like?
You'll see him tomorrow You'll go up to him in the Guinness tent, and when he'll be like, "Who the hell are you?" and he'll be like, "You can tell him all about it." Trust me, he's terrible with face. Anyway, Benny de Dieu for Paul. Okay. So it's 3 for Benny.
Yep.
It's 1 for Honeysuckle here. I would have backed her if she was in the champion. In fact, I did. Let's have a look at the social. We've got another social tip coming in. Thanks for this. Who've we got? Frederick Costanzo. There's a name. Happy to be proven wrong, but I think Honeysuckle will give Benny a right race. Costanzo, you're my man. I'm with you. Finally, some love coming in as well. I got the 3s. I must admit, when I was just after that little Epatante touch, I have played it up each way on Honeysuckle because I'm happy to be second to what Willie Mullins thinks could be his greatest mare of all time.
Do you think she's a certainty to place?
I do, yeah. I think she will very nearly win.
No,
Yeah.
you see, I would be half tempted to oppose her for a place as well.
Now, look, I can understand that. I wanted, on these graphics that we were going to do when we were asked for our selections earlier, I suggested Notebook place lay. I was all dead against him, and that obviously worked out. I also didn't back Epatante each way single because I just didn't know whether she was going to get up the hill or not. An each way bet the old sage punters will quite rightly tell you is when you know that you're going to be bang there. You might not win, but everything else is ticking the right boxes. So I suppose that we know that Benny, despite the fall, likes Cheltenham. Would be on a hat trick in the race. Honeysuckle, no Cheltenham form, has now proved herself on a left-handed track. Who's the one, like we were looking at for Pentland Hills, going to Neil Hubbard first on this, that is going to go low on the SP? Could it be Lady Buttons, as Andrew was suggesting?
Well, we're looking at the pace angle here. I suppose Stormy Island likes to get on with it, doesn't she? So I guess that she could be the pace angle in the race. So could she... so Stormy Island is 14.5 now. Could she trade a bit lower in running, a bit shorter in running? Probably, depending on how long she can drag them along for, or stay there, of course. I mean, if she stays there, then she'll trade at the bottom price. But maybe her. I think she's maybe the obvious pace angle in it.
The market thinks this is a match, doesn't it? And I think I'm really looking forward to this tussle. Just looking at her going down to the start as well, lads. She doesn't half looking some.
She looks $1 million.
She really, really does look good. But then Stormy Island, I suppose, is clear third in, isn't she, for the each-way play? What about Elfie? There's been a bit of love for that as well, hasn't there, Graham, on the previews?
Yeah.
Willie Mullins' third string.
I backed this horse last time out when it won a Punchestown, I think it was. She was quite impressive. But for a time in that race, I didn't think I was going to be collecting. There was another horse in the race who was well fancied, who came to her and looked like he might give her a race. I think it was a she, sorry, might give her a race, and then Elfile just outstayed her. I just wonder if maybe stamina is her strong suit. We don't know a hell of a lot about her, of course, because she's still unexposed in comparison to the others who we know loads about. The problem you've got if you're playing this from trying to back one that's going to trade short in running, of course, is that it's dependent very much on how Benny de Jour travels. If Benny de Jour travels through this race,
there's not going to be much
then
activity.
Nothing else is going to trade short.
Yeah.
That's a good
point.
point.
The thing is, like last year's Stormy Island was second here, and she did touch even money in running. So if you wanted to, go down that angle, 2.08 she hit in running last year.
Whoa.
So at 14.5 now, you could probably take half that and lay that in running,
Depends
or
how
shorter.
greedy you want to get.
Yeah, it depends how greedy you want to get, and exactly. But so she has got previous of going low and not winning.
I'm getting some love in the air from Rob and Dan, our producers, saying that Paul Kelly's saying he's loving the show, loving the fact you're watching, Paul. Thanks very much for that. I've got to say, chaps, this has been a pleasure so far. It will be highly pleasurable if I turn you all over, though, in this race. I feel like it's just me against the lot here. Honestly, I'm a Watford supporter and I'm used to this sort of feeling. But I want to talk about tactics just quickly in the race. You'll notice that Henry de Promen has got a second string in here called Popong. Willie Mullins has got two in the race. I'm pretty sure that Popong, Graham Rodway, is in here potentially to be a pace angle, although I'm sure that the owners might have something to say about that.
Possibly, yeah. Well, we've not seen it from Henry de Bromhead in the past, have we? But we've certainly seen in the past there been sort of a bit of a Willie Mullins gang up on the hot favourite to try and get something beat. So,
well, only Dan Skelton doesn't actually have a second string in the race, because you could argue that Fergal O'Brien's got one for Cap Soleil, and you could also say that Phil Kirby's got one for Lady Buttons.
Yeah.
So the story of the mare's race, which obviously hasn't been talked about, is
tactics.
We are making sure this is going to be run to suit our mare. Yeah. You've got the great mare in there. How are you going to get a beat? Is this a little bit like Aidan O'Brien on the flat, where you've got something of John Gosden's and 5 of O'Brien's around it?
I just think also it's a grade one and they're all owned by different connections. I'd be surprised if they were there to... They definitely wouldn't be hindering each other's chances, but I'd be surprised if they were in purely and solely to make the race for a other. Just the way they're lining up down the start here now, Roxana looks like she's going to be ridden patiently down the inside, like Harry Skelton likes to ride his horses, and she to me is the big price. As a visual, Honeysuckle looks amazing, and as a visual, I think she looks slightly in better shape than Benny, but from a form perspective, Benny's the one to beat.
We are thinking that Desiree Girl likes to get on with it. At the moment, she's lining up out the back, Phil Kirby's horse, but she's been a definite front runner here. Let's talk about the market then, Neil. Are they? I assume the front two are shortening up against the rest.
Yeah, but slight drift on Benny now. So Benny's going back towards where she was yesterday at 8 to 11, and the money is for Honeysuckle.
She did look a right
I think
picture,
that's purely on the visual. She looked incredible cantering to the start. And if you've had your bet on Benny, then sit tight.
This has got to be the best mare after Apple's Jade, and probably has Benny arguably, certainly in that season when Apples wasn't quite herself. Has she ever come up against a mare like this?
No, probably not. But
But they haven't taken her
She's
on.
looking skinny to me all of a sudden, boys. I can sense some last-minute doubts. Neil Hubbard, the jumper of ships.
No. I'm staying the jumper of ships. No, I'm staying with Benny. Everything you say is true. I don't disagree with it. I just think that I'm quite happy to.
You'd have been in trouble in the Foreign Legion, Neil, wouldn't you? Let's face it.
No,
Desertion is not.
I've learnt my lesson.
Well, people do when they come into this studio. Let me tell you. Okay, lads. So listen, they're going down at the start. The flag is up. The wind is still blowing a hoolie, Graham Rodway.
Yeah, windy.
Yeah, so the heavy ground would be getting very gluey now.
Getting hard work, like I say, you touched upon a comment. A couple of horses have already reported to lose shoes, and that's what with the ground when it's like that, and it's not visually kicking up. It's very holding, and it comes very gluey. It's
Discorama was the chief, I think, that I saw that had lost a shoe.
It's hard work then, and it's just very, it just pulls you in, and it can be unflattering. It'd be a big test for them. Benny's a strong girl. She'll cope with it. Roxana for a place for me.
And we're off and running and straight into the lead. Robbie Puppy Power taking a spare for Willie Mullins on Stormy Island, a horse that does like to get on with it. Over there as well is Elfie setting a good pace. Benny is just sitting there very nice and happily. Lady Buttons in a more prominent
she's a bit keen.
position.
Bit keen, and she actually made a mistake there, which actually probably helped Tommy Dowson just settle her off a bit, because now when you turn this bend, you've got a long run to the next hurdle, and you're on the descent and the turn. So if you're lit up at this stage of the race, you'll be in danger of getting up the hill second time round.
It's funny though, but is that actually a thing? Because I always think if I've backed something that's keen, I always think, just make a mistake.
Yeah, sometimes when you're keen.
That's interesting.
No, sometimes when you're keen, you need to. You'd see a jockey
to knock them a bit,
just to jolt the momentum. If you absolutely stand outside the wings and you land with a lot of momentum, you then have gained a place rather than lose a place. You don't have to make a mistake, but just want slightly slower to just get the horse to just breathe and relax and we call spit the bridle out.
From an analyst point of view, if I'm writing horses now that are keen, certainly Stormy Island racing a bit too enthusiastically for my liking. I wouldn't see quite like Cashback that we saw in the Arkle. Honeysuckle, really enthusiastic, Graham.
Yeah, they're sort of stalking each other, aren't they? They're right next to each other. Honeysuckle, Benny de Duran stuck in the sandwich. The superstar sandwich is Lady Buttons. So
that is a superstar sandwich. Is he going to be stuck in any sandwich?
That's between Honeysuckle and Benny de Duran.
Honeysuckle to me just looks to be slightly on the left rein. Looking at Rachel's body language, her right rein is slightly loose, which means she's probably favouring to come out onto the go right-handed, and she's leading on her what we call the wrong leg. So she's leading on her outside leg rather than the inside leg. So in theory she's on the wrong leg, and she'll be lugging on Rachel's left arm, wanting to move right.
And that she has been up until Leopardstown last time been kept exclusively to right-handed tracks. So
meanwhile, Benny's a bit keen, but travelling very well around the inside.
You wouldn't have any problems with Benny at the moment. Roxana is like you mentioned before, Anne Tinks. Harry Skelton is thinking, well, if anything goes wrong up front.
I think he's thinking. Keep my powder dry enough. I think he obviously respects Benny as the one to beat, and he's riding around the inside.
I thought that Popong would be more prominent. I have to say, the second string of De Bromens, and was really surprised to see Desiree Girl right out the back at the moment. Cap Soleil, Paddy Brennan. Haven't mentioned Paddy at all yet on this show. He usually has a say at the festivals. An outsider, but a talented one at that. Now, there's a move here.
She's taking off.
Right around about sort of halfway stage, Rachel Blackmore is allowing Honeysuckle to get on with this a little bit. She's not happy with the Mullins battalion.
It wouldn't surprise me if she then goes forward and then comes in a bit, so that they have to work to go around her to then help have horses on her outside. Maybe her.
Let's have a look. She absolutely flew that one. Benny's just happily sitting there. Lady Buttons.
She's just skipping along. Lovely.
Lady Buttons. Look at the market then, Neil. Now you come in.
Yeah, pretty much as it was at the start, except for Stormy Island, who's out to like 22s now from 14s.
Yeah.
Which all happened when she got joined at the head of affairs.
So it looks like Rachel's trying to make Robbie Power go a bit quicker on Stormy Island.
She's gone and put a bit of pressure on the pace, so the pace quickens up, and then she can then slot in. So now it is Danny Mullins on the other runner, who now has to come on her outside to help her get round the bends and straighten her up. She's using her head because circumstances aren't quite going her way.
So we've got Benny de Duran sitting in stalking. If you are Paul Townend with Robbie Puppy Power on your stablemate and pace setter, I think we can say that. Are you saying at any stage, I'm right behind you?
No,
is this what you're just sitting there
praying
for the gap now? Because
the gap will come, like Barry said one day to you, that they come if you're travelling well, and that you get squashed because you're not travelling well.
The right horse will get out.
Benny de Duran will get through any gap she wants to.
So we're expecting Graham Rodway around about 3 out for this race to really ignite.
Yeah, and Honeysuckle is still in second, but Benny is really travelling well and jumping well.
This is going to be
fantastic. Right on Honeysuckle's tail now.
Lady Buttons just giving a little push along a little bit, so that's a sign the pace is finally injecting. Stormy Island's got herself into a really nice rhythm, hasn't she? Whether she'll get up the hill quite well, having pulled that hard, I don't know. Call it now, Neil Hubbard. What prices are they going in running?
Yeah, Benny's 2's on now, and Honeysuckle's out to bigger than 3. Well, she's 7-2 now.
Wow, that means that basically we could be looking at the superstar many people expect here, and she's just let Elfie go on her outside, hasn't she?
Elfie's come in a little bit now. Elfie's into 11s.
Okay, boys, we're coming to 3 out. Gone on the inside now, Rachel. Have to say, I wouldn't be over the moon with Honeysuckle's position here. Benny's pulled out now for the run. She jumped that well, though.
Honeysuckle's in
Benny's
trouble,
going to come around, and Benny will now do what Rachel's done to them and put her back in a pocket.
Will she get up the inside? Rachel Blackmore's absolutely stolen the inside. She's going to make Benny go here, lads. I tell you, Honeysuckle is absolutely going for it.
Down to the famous last.
He's not gone yet, but this is going to be a real question mark for Benny de Jure. What a move that was by Rachel Blackmore. Yeah. This looks like Epatante coming up to the last. Go on, girl. Get up there. Go. She's absolutely flown it. Up the hill she goes. Benny de Jure's in turbo drive. Will Honeysuckle get caught? Here comes Benny. This is going to be an absolute whisper of the line. Come on, Honeysuckle. Get up there, you good thing. Honeysuckle. Aye, aye. Woo-hoo-hoo. What a race that was. My goodness gracious me. Oh, man alive, man alive. First and foremost, Graham Robbe, going to come to your thoughts there. What on earth went on over that final bend? That was insane.
Yeah, I wonder if Paul Townend could have that one back, if he might just ride that slightly differently.
Tinkler coming in there.
I just thought Rachel was fantastic to, like I said, down the back straight. That was where she won the race. She went forwards and then slotted back in, so that horses had to come around her because she was going on, and it's race riding, it's jockey position, and she ended up getting the inside run, and then she's got first slip on Benny. Benny looked like class was going to come to the fore, but the winner had a very, very good, big heart and was very tough at the line.
Before we go to Neil for the dramatic, what on earth happened? Tell us the tale on the exchange. Was the moment when Puppy Power moved out and which is a stablemate of Benny de Jure's, was that the moment? Because Rachel's all of a sudden gone, aye, here we go, zipped on, nicked 2 lengths and just kept going.
She got a lovely run through, and that was the race-winning move, no doubt about it. But you've got to say that Benny did have a chance to come and get her.
Yeah, she did.
She did come round the outside.
She was massive at the last things, wasn't she?
Every chance to get her.
Big jump at the last. Here you see Robbie Power still going well, and Rachel gets a gap, takes it.
That is one classy mare, lads.
I think to hear just maybe Paul Townend, it appears to me, maybe got as though he was a little bit surprised by how quickly Honeysuckle picked up.
Yeah, now this is interesting because we're watching them just come into the last. You're looking at a horse that was looking at going to the stayers, and you're looking at a horse in front that was champion. Goshy, that was, tell you what.
That was a sign of not a tired horse.
But she's gone away from her. If you're a commenting running writer for the Racing Post, you're not allowed to say every chance unless they get within 3/4 of a length. Benny de Jure has had every single chance.
And to me, Honeysuckle wasn't on an unsimilar stride to what Benny de Jure was last year. Benny de Jure clipped the top and fell, maybe because she was tiring slightly. She's come out of Rachel's hands, Honeysuckle, landed with momentum and landed way out the other side. It meant she had plenty left.
Wow, Henry de Bromhead and Rachel de Blackmore in the big time. Happy days.
Credit to Henry de Bromhead, 2 winners, and she looked incredible cantering to the start as we touched
3 mares, 4 races down at the Cheltenham Festival. 3 mares have won. Neil Hubbard.
1.2 Benny de Jure, so 5's on in the run for over £1,000, which you can see why, because when they flew the last, Honeysuckle hit 14.5.
Let's have a look at the first 3. Let's remind ourselves who was third. I have no idea. I wasn't looking. Elfield, interesting. We'll come back to that. A lot of people would have been playing on the without markets, first front 2 and all that sort of stuff. So 3-1 after the Champion Hurdle about Honeysuckle. That was each way thievery at its best, wasn't it? So what price did Honeysuckle go? What was the biggest she went?
She hit 14.5.
Whoa!
So 13 and a bit to 1. Stormy Island hit a low of 6 to 1.
Mother of pearl.
And as we say, Benny de Jure hit 5's on, which is understandable, really. You can see why. In fact, throughout the entire race, Benny was favourite the whole way, really, until Rachel made that move off the home turn, and that's when everything changed. But when they were halfway up the home run, after the final fence, they were both trading at odds on. The market really couldn't decide, so it was really exciting.
I'm convinced coming off that final bend that Paul Townend thinks he's got them covered.
You think he's left something on the table?
On Benny. I think you're just sitting there thinking, I've got these covered. And then all of a sudden, Honeysuckle makes this move. She just makes such a great turn of pace. And all of a sudden, she's gone.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh no, she's gone. Now I've got to go.
So if we were in the the analysis room now and we were writing this race between us, I'd be arguing with you that the quicker horse has beaten the slower horse. So in other words, and that's hard to say about these two great mares, but the one that was going for the champion hurdle quickened, and the one that would have potentially gone to the stayers has been done for a bit of toe.
That turn of speed has made the difference. But I would argue that if Honeysuckle had had the run that Benny has had, and Benny has had the run that Honeysuckle has had, I think Benny de Dieu wins.
A different story. The inside run. Tinks, are we talking absolute analysis madness?
I think Honeysuckle has come to the table 3 years younger than Benny de Dieu and has shown an inferior turn of foot off the home bend. But is that a turn of foot or a touch of class? Like, she could just be a better horse marginally, and you can't take it away from her again. Like the winner earlier on of Henry de Bromhead's. Sometimes, often, because Benny was a short price favourite, they're going, oh, if this and if that, or what if and what that. To me, Honeysuckle, she got a great ride, but she was the best filly on the day.
Neil Hubbard, some of these crazy markets that we see, specialist markets, all that sort of thing. I guess a lot of people that have backed Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead to be top trainer and top jockey, they're going to be now thinking, well, that's one I wasn't necessarily expecting. A Plus Tard to come, a couple of other strong ones in the handicaps.
Yeah, they'll have quite a good chance for. I mean, she was pretty good last year for top jockey. I think
she had double, didn't she, last year?
She had two. Yeah, so I think she came tied third or something last year as well. So
more
more
of the same, story,
really.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. Massive story.
It'd be a great story.
Female rider to win top jock. Tinks.
It's a great story. She's absolutely top class. She's proven it like week in, week out. Not just on the big ones you see on TV, and when you're watching the weekend racing on a Saturday. You watch her going around some of those tracks in Ireland on a wet Monday or a dirty Tuesday. She's class. So she's absolutely class. She rides with a lot of finesse, but she's also very strong. And the support that she gets from the top Irish trainers, like they're no mugs, and they use her, like I say, day in, day out. And the fact that she challenged for a nearly Irish champion jockey last year shows how good she is.
Oh, we've just seen it there. That was a fantastic ride.
To not panic and watch it back on your race replays in your members section. You watch it back and watch it back. 3 out. You said, Neil, she touched 7-2. That's when, and you said, G, that I think she's in a bit of trouble here.
I thought she was in trouble. Yeah.
And from a jockey's perspective, you're thinking, I'm just going to have to suck it and see. Yes, the wave's open for her, but I don't know. I think we've seen two very, very classy mares. They pulled right clear from Elphil in third, who ran really well considering she looked like a bit of a pace angle for the Mullins camp. The other thing to the narrative now, Willie Mullins not perhaps having the day he was expecting?
Yeah, obviously coming in with Asterion Forlonge going off a hot favourite for the first race. And then Benny de Dieu really would have been his absolute banker of the week.
Yeah.
Getting turned over by Honeysuckle.
Do you think there will
having
be
a bad week? He's going to come back. He's going to have probably 6-7 winners still. Yeah. But he'll be disappointed.
We've seen it before, like, what was it, a couple of years ago on that Thursday when York Hill won, when Nichols Canyon won, and he hadn't had a winner up to that point, and then all of a sudden I think Ruby Road 4 maybe. Yeah. I'm not sure if they were all for.
You're right, that year. Just looking at the finish there, as we can see here on the monitor, Roxana was a bit disappointing there.
She was a bit disappointing, yeah. Just more look at the finish. I think often people can look when you're looking at form of races, it's click show finish, and you can watch the last two hurdles or the last three fences. To me, the story of that race was at the first hurdle down the back when Rachel put some pressure on the pace because she was caught a bit deep, and like I say, the horse was on the wrong leg and she looked to be hanging out slightly. She went forward, slotted in, and then Danny Mullins, in the same owner, the owner of the winner, was
just about to jump in there with that.
Trained by a different trainer. He then sort of covered her move and then came on her outer.
Really
Kenny Alexander, the owner of Honeysuckle and Elphil, you'll see his horses with Lucinda and Russell. Well, he's not that far off JP McManus for a bit of dough, and it's important for the game, isn't it, that he's made such an investment into his mares.
It's huge for the game because it's all about breeding, and the mares program has improved enormously, and it is now a top class program they've got.
Let's put our hat on pro or negative mares. Had this race not been here, Graham Rodway, where the top two would have gone, of course. Now, and that's what I was going to jump in on. Will now there be? I'll be amazed if Twitter's not saying should have run in this, should have run in that, especially for the runner-up.
Yeah, they'll be thinking we could have gone for the stayers.
£7. They could have taken £7 in both of those races, like Epatante did.
But you've got Paisley Park in the stayers. That's the problem.
Are we really running that scare from Paisley? I know I'm expecting him to win, I've got to say it. But
obviously now the question is, as you're saying, where would Honeysuckle have finished in the champion hurdle?
You have to think she would have won close.
She have been right there with Epatante. How good is Honeysuckle as compared to Epatante? Is she the best mare?
Oh.
She's won the mare's race at Cheltenham, but we're still asking ourselves questions. Is Honeysuckle the best mare in Britain and Ireland? Because there might be one better who's just won the champion hurdle.
This is why you've got to watch Racing Post live, because this is where you get the brains committee right after the race, real time, telling you exactly what it should be. You don't have to wait here till the print comes out. Neil Hubbard, would either one of those have made a ripple against Paisley Park or indeed Epatante?
Yes, I think Honeysuckle in the champion hurdle for sure. I think the one thing that we can be certain of, and I'm not sure how serious the chatter was pre-race, but the talk of Benny de Jure running in the champion, which Willie Mullins always seemed like not too keen on and quite dismissive. I think we've seen there why.
That was the Apples Jade thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You remember that a couple of years ago, which race,
Yeah, I think very definitively we've seen why Benny de Jure isn't a 2-miler there. Okay, it's only one race, but I mean, that's all we're dealing with here. So her stepping up in trip, presumably there's quite a nice allowance she'd get from Paisley Park. But I mean, it'd be good to see, wouldn't it? I'm not saying she would.
Annie Power got beaten in a stayers. Yeah, exactly. Maybe they got a taste
I think
of
going
that.
the other way, Honeysuckle back down in trip would be interesting. And maybe, I don't know if they'll fancy Aintree, but the 2.5 miler taking on the boys at Aintree would be interesting.
Well, and of course that has now put to bed the entire that worry about Honeysuckle not going left-handed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now we know she goes left-handed.
But wasn't it fascinating to hear Tinks through the race saying about the wrong leg? So potentially, is she going to be even better at Punchestown? Could we see even more coming from her?
Well, that was the tiny query. If you have to knock her form at all coming in, they've
got Manila Melody in the mare's race on Thursday. Again, one time she's raced left-handed, albeit against the Glancing Queen in what was a strong edition of the Aintree Bumper. That's the one time she got touched off, wasn't it?
And are we going to get that clash at Punchestown? Are we going to get Epatante versus Honeysuckle in the champion at Punchestown?
That is it.
Let's hope
Graham
so.
Rodway, you've had an epiphany. Of course, that is what you want to be looking at now, isn't it?
Because there is a mare's race at Punchestown.
But they've got to go for the biggie, haven't they?
Surely, we want the big clash.
That's what we want. We want the big clash. Price it up. Come on, price it up.
What I would say is I think both connections will be very sporting.
Epatante's got to be favourite, hasn't she, for the clash? Having won the biggie.
Oh, yeah, about four.
She's taken
to
the
six.
big jump. And
4 to 6 Epatante?
Woo! 4 to 6.
Over what? Over
2 miles around Punchestown?
I think Epatante would still have one more gear. Or half a gear. I was very impressed with Honeysuckle, but I was incredibly impressed with Epatante. Albeit we thought it was an open champion hurdle. I thought she was value for more.
And go back now to the Irish champion. And Neil, before I say that, you were looking. You weren't sure about this.
I was just thinking about what Graham said. But yeah, I'd have Epatante as favourite. 4 to 6 just immediately struck me as
being a bit skinny.
And thus.
Honeysuckle.
I'm not saying I fancy. I was just saying at
the
prices.
Yeah.
At our hypothetical prices, I fancy Honeysuckle.
Well, listen, there are traders up and down the land that are now having to go through all this. As in for knock-ons of form, let's have a little think about this. Who was disappointed? Because we've been seeing that in the previous race. It's a bit more difficult with the mares, isn't it? But
I thought Lady Buttons pulled a bit hard early and didn't really show up.
Did she have and we have one there, Tinks. Let me jump in because we've got Floressa, haven't we? Who was up against her and is a leading fancy for Thursday. Was that Doncaster race a little bit rough? Was it a bit of a tough race?
Could have
Because
been.
Lady Buttons should have run a bit better there, shouldn't she?
I thought she probably could have done, but then it's the first time pitching in against these big ones, and like I've touched on before, these Cheltenham races. Some people can say it's an open race, bar 2 and stuff. Try winning one.
I just think as well, like what we said about her being stuck in a superstar sandwich. She was maybe looked like she was a bit too
a superstar sandwich.
But if she was a bit too prominent, like if they'd have rode her a little bit more restrained, you might have seen her better before. I don't know. I was quite surprised by how prominent she was.
Maybe they underestimated how slow they were going to go early, and I think that was what Rachel Blackmore addressed brilliantly down the back. That she put pressure on it, then got herself into the A position that she could swoop off the bend, and the pace of the race early was key. And I think that race was potentially won over the first and second flight down the back straight.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that was the mares. Apples Jade runs in the stayers, of course, on Thursday. So will that be her last run? That wasn't quite the three-way clash. We had the big match-up. We've seen a couple of races, chaps, haven't we, where 2 have come clear. Only the Ultima, which we had a spread of the finish. It's been a story for that. The ground. Looks like it's getting a bit holding there, but the cream, as ever, Graham, is rising at Cheltenham.
Yeah, and certainly in that race, obviously. But the ground doesn't seem to have any detrimental effect to the racing, is it? It's still been a fantastic day, hasn't it? I mean, with some rousing finishes, and that being the best of the lot.
I tell you what, with just Rob, the producer's come in and said it's 5 minutes. That was slow by RP stand on 31. How much? How much, Rob, was that? 31 seconds. I mean, there was a headwind, of course, we should say that. We could see that at the start with the flag. But we are now talking about pudding-like ground,
It'll be getting harder. Like, it would almost be better if it had a shower of rain, just to loosen it up a little bit. And I can't
That's not coming, is it?
No, and I can't express enough how holding that will be, and the fact that horses are losing shoes. I know we touched on it just recently, but when it's like that, it's much harder. And when you're riding, and even if you're riding a better ground horse, you'd nearly want it to rain, weirdly, just half an hour before you ride, to loosen the ground up and make it looser. Pendant Hills, perfect example. I know he won on good to soft ground in the Triumph Hurdle last year, but it hammered down all morning. It was wet ground. He looked never at peace really on that ground today. Once the going got tough.
So do you think?
Forgive the pun, but
so
yeah.
if you're betting tomorrow, do you think that the ground is going to be better tomorrow, or is it going to be more testing tomorrow?
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking.
It looks very windy. I think it can dry incredibly, but if I'd like to think that another dry day, that the ground on the new course on Thursday and Friday won't be as testing as what this ground has been on the first 2 days.
Let's just have before we move on to the novice handicap, a fiendish puzzle for us to solve. Let's have a little think about that tomorrow then. Envoy Allen could have gone for the Supreme. They're thinking, it's drying. The bombshell from Gordon Elliott last week that didn't quite materialise. There's some shrewd judges I know that are talking he might just struggle to get up the hill, like some of them. Even though his form now looks absolutely Frankel-like top bother. What about in the Champion Chase as well? Does that favour Deffy over Shaken? Having the 2 mile 4, we're talking about a Marsh Chase winner.
Yeah.
He's going to like a proper stamina test.
Of course, yeah. I think Shaken Passoir on his first run this year just got tired.
Well, we know, yeah, I think that's the case.
He got tired. Deffy's got the form. It's
but
the same
if it's going to be more of a 2 mile 2 race, if you like, then Tix,
Yeah.
who does that?
I think Deffy.
You'd have to say Deffy, wouldn't you?
I think Deffy. And he's a stalker.
You're not convinced?
No.
Graham, Rob?
Deffy's a stalker, and he's going to follow. He's going to, I think Chacun Passoir. I'm pleased they're both in, because with Altior not running, it makes it a proper race still.
Of course, the thing with Deffy is when he won the juvenile, when he swept the juvenile board, he did win a lot of races on heavy ground. And he is a good horse on heavy ground. But when I look at him, I always think his main asset is that turn of pace.
The burst.
Now,
When he got beaten by Lost in Translation, they thought they deployed it a bit quick, didn't they? Yeah, good point.
Is that going to be quite as effective on really testing ground?
Neil Hubbard?
It's I mean, it's a bit of a moot point, but actually that sort of intermediate 2 mile 2 you're talking about would probably be perfect for Altior. But
Indeed.
I don't know. I'd probably be a Deffy de Soy man before this, and I don't know if anything has necessarily changed my opinion. But
if they try and take the pace out of Deffy de Soy's turn of foot, they've got to get it bang on between going too quick and not going quick enough. It's a very, very fine line.
So there are 2 fascinating races. Probably, I think, the 2 key races, anticipation-wise, for tomorrow. The ground, if it keeps drying, necessarily is not going to become that bit quicker, that bit more holding. What will that do in the 450 coming up? The Northern Trust Novices Handicap Chase, the listed race. Won last year, lads, if you remember, by Epatante, leading fancy for this year's Ryanair. Surely we're not going to see a well-handicapped horse like that again, Graham, are we, from a tipping perspective?
No.
Imperial Aura, not quite up. Nothing's going to blow it away like that, is it? Was it 19 lengths he won by something like that?
Yeah,
the form was toilet, but
not only was it 19 lengths, I mean, you could have called a Plutard the winner from the top of the hill. He was just going so much better than anything else.
He was 5-1 joint favourite pre-race for that last year. Let's have a look at the market this year, see if we can get a steer. We're expecting Imperial Aura to be something around that mark, are we? Ooh, into 4-1. Ooh,
yeah, 4-1. Galvin 7.4. Espoir de Guy 9.2, Hold the Note 11. I mean, if we want to talk about a little bit of connected form, related form, then Precious Cargo, the Nicky Henderson horse, 16.5 here, was third behind Rouge Viv last time in the Kingmaker at Warwick. Now, he didn't run, well, we were sort of having a debate about it, weren't it, earlier, about whether that was a good run or a bad run, but I mean, it's pretty weak because he was quite well beaten, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But,
only £7 covering the entire field in this handicap. Unlike the Ultimate, which had a nice weight range, this is unfortunately, one of the it's just so tricky. This, isn't it, Andrew Tinkler? Horses 0 to 145, getting a runner in it. They're not really plots these days, are they? Unless
they're
you've got
not.
something
But you've got obviously the jurisdictions are that you've got to have your free chase runs to qualify. So it's a very fine line between.
It's a conditions handicap.
You look at
really,
Hold a Note. Poor guy went up £12 for finishing second to at
2 for gold, wasn't it?
Yeah, at Warwick. Now I'd have fancied him, but up 12.
He wouldn't have got in if he
wouldn't have got in if he got. So it's such a fine line. I was looking at the likes of Galvin, could be a potential improver for Gordon Elliott and Davy Russell. He was one for me, and Beaksdown was one that was potentially meant to be a Grade 1 horse, but I don't think this was the plan. I think the plan was to start off in graded company, and he's now in a handicap because that didn't go well.
He was a useful hurdler last year, wasn't he?
He was. So listen, let's go down the line. This is how we're starting. We're starting to get a bit of order here on Racing Post Live, aren't we? Okay, so I've been told to lead the way. So, I have put Imperial Aura up. He got a Racing Post Racing of 152 for that run behind Simply the Bets, who are really fancying the plate on Thursday. And in third, of course, was the Chris Gordon horse.
On the Slopes.
On the Slopes, who could go very well in the Grand Annual on Friday. So I think we are looking at horses that were way ahead of their mark. When I was initially looking at the race, I hoped Champagne Platinum was going to make it. Anyone that's been listening to me on these What a Shout shows or indeed previews, I'm delighted that he's made the cut somehow for the Kim Muir instead. But I had a lot of anti-post shekels on him for this. So I'm going to try and get it back on Imperial Aura. Tinkler.
I think Galvin, off his handicap mark, enough 11-4, 6-year-old, probably improving. We've seen 2 6-year-olds win just recently, and to me, Galvin could be on the right side of the handicap. I love Hold a Note, but I just think up 12 was harsh.
Graham Rodway.
Imperial Aura for me, same as you.
Epatante, here we go. It's when we doubled down.
Yeah, let's hope that it's another good time for us. Like you say, that race last time at Cheltenham, where he was beaten by Simply the Bets, that is always a very good race. I think Kildesart ran in it the previous year and then went on to win or run well at the festival. And you can go back down the years. That race always throws up good festival form. And I watched the race again last night, and the front two, Simply the Bets and Imperial Aura, just leave On the Slopes behind from the last. Like, they are absolutely flying away from On the Slopes at the line. Now, On the Slopes came out and won at Kempton next time and absolutely bolted up at Kempton. So that form looks rock solid. And the added bonus here is we've got soft ground testing surface. I don't think that's going to be a problem for Imperial Aura at all, because he's got form over 3 mile 1 furlong. He was beaten by Pim over 3 mile 1. So the more of a stamina test this becomes, the more it's going to suit Imperial Aura. And he was actually closing down Simply the Bets near the line. He might have caught him with a little bit more longer trip. So the real strong headwind and the fact that this is going to be a test of stamina, I think will suit Imperial Aura.
I can tell you fancy him strongly. I fancy him strongly as well. Before we go to Neil Hubbard for his selection, let's see who else fancies him strongly.
The 6th race on the card is the Novice Handicap Chase, and I've been a big fan of Imperial Aura for a long while. He just looks like an improving horse, and I think he's going to prove a lot better than his mark. When he went last time on trials day, they didn't go fast enough for him, really, because he's a strong stayer at the trip. However, he did run second to Simply the Bets, who's a very good horse who had a bit of 2 mile speed and made the running, and the pair pulled 11 lengths clear of the third, who has since won very, very easily and will have a fair chance in the Grand Annual on Friday if he gets in. Imperial Aura, for me, is one of the bets of the meeting, but you have to say there are plenty of others in the race with a reasonable chance. Gordon Elliott's Galvin has been very, very well backed. The more I see of him, the more I look at him, I think he's a stayer and he wants further, and I'd have run him in the Ultima Handicap Chase. His dam did, after all, win the Durham National at Sedgefield, and I think he might be found out for a bit of speed. The big danger for me could be Beaksdown for Dan Skelton. He's running 3 novice chases this season, finished second or third in all of them, and the winners have all gone on to win Grade 2s. He comes back after a break wearing cheek pieces, and he could go well at a slightly bigger price than Imperial Aura.
Well, that caused a bit of debate in the studio, let me tell you, because that's 3 now for Imperial Aura. And Neil Hubbard, we want you to do our demonstration bet again for us, please. These haven't been going too well so far.
Well,
We've
the
hit
Pentland
crossbar, haven't we?
Yeah, the Pentland Hills one, we were a little bit unlucky because he didn't quite hit the mark that we
I'm
wanted.
amazed he got that low, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, well, I guess that was half the reason why we wanted to do it, because he always catches the eye like that. I guess the key to this is trying to work out where the pace is going to come from. So we know that Highest Sun likes to get onto it.
What odds
likes
is
to
he
get
at the
on with
moment,
it.
What about someone like, well,
55s he is, but
you have to think that Espada Guy's going to be up there, lads, don't you? It's a Venetia horse like we saw Cepage in the previous race.
He'll be up there. Champagne Mystery will be ridden handy. Watmore's an interesting horse. He often he dropped in last time over 3 miles, but over
Trainwreck?
over 2.5.
there's been a lot of money for Watmore. I know he was a reserve for this, but he was trading at around 40 on the exchange
I've not
yesterday,
heard
and now
he's
he's into
riding.
20.
Do we know who's riding him? Because
We
obviously
should see in a second, actually, coming up. I'll get that for you in a minute, lads.
So how do we want to play it then? So because I mean, like all three of you are fans of Imperial Aura, but are we expecting his price to be pretty much consistent through the race, or do we think he can go a bit bigger in running? Or
Graham run style?
crystal ball time here?
Yeah, I would say that he's going to be fairly prominent throughout.
Okay.
In which case, if they are prominent throughout, especially if they lead the market like Imperial Aura does, they always trade shorter pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if we were looking at 3.5, 3.4, 3.3.
Paint the Dream can get on with it, can't he, as well? He's a
So
big
we
nut.
could- so
what
we
we
could
want
look
is someone
to-
who's going to be up there that's going to get under his
Well,
SB.
what we
Come
could
on.
do,
Money where your mouth is now.
What we could do is look to back Imperial Aura now pre-race and then put in a little in-running lay on him, just because of the competitiveness of the race. Because if we know he's going to be up there early, we can be confident that the
We're
bet is
thinking
probably
he'll
going
be
to
there
match
too
early.
early.
I think if he trades, he's 4-1 in the field. If he trades it shorter to 4-1 in such a competitive race, you could take on things like the Plotting Shed and Champagne Mystery, but the 25s, 50-1, you're going to get much more value out of Imperial Aura, surely.
Tom O'Brien gets the ride now on
So what we'll
Watmore.
do
Tom
here then-
O'Brien replacing Richard Johnson on Watmore.
So what we'll do here is back Imperial Aura at 9-2 pre-race.
Yeah.
So that's on, and then because of the way we think the race is going to unwind, we will lay him in running. But we think, Graham, you were saying that we could probably get about
I reckon
5-2 sort of time.
I reckon there's a good chance he'll trade at least 5-2, maybe shorter.
Yeah,
but
I think that's fair, actually. Tinks?
I think that's fair.
So we'll go
And 2.5 to 1.
So what you can see there is that we're currently green on Imperial Aura for £22.50 and red for £5 because that's what our initial bet is. Should this all come to fruition and our 3.5 in running lay get matched, we'll still be green on Imperial Aura for £10, but we'll actually cancel off any loss in the race. What we're looking to do here is, in effect, create a risk-free bet on Imperial Aura by thinking, right, you guys think he will win the race, and the way the race is going to unfold, we think he will also hit this in running.
And what price is Galvin for a place bet if I was interested in him?
Let's have a look. We'll just edit this because I can't. The lay bet hasn't been matched yet because it's obviously not the price that we want to be laying at. So I'm just going to hit this keep button here, which means when the race goes in running, our bet will stay live in the market. So what was that, Andrew? You're saying to be
Galvin,
placed?
I just thought had a
He's an interesting horse, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an interesting horse. He's got the master David Russell on board.
Yeah, 2.48 to be placed with a 4 to be placed.
Sixth in the Ballymore last year.
Pretty much even money to be in. Even money in the 5 to be placed market.
Handicap debutant. Hasn't won over fences yet, has had the 3 qualifying runs. After that fall on his handicap debut, a little bit like what we were talking about with Discorama in the Ultima, I just get the feeling that you set out, don't you, to have a great... If you've got a horse, G, who's finished 6th, and you think is always going to be, in a Ballymore, is always going to be a better horse over fences, you're hoping he's going to be running in an RSA or a Marsh or something, aren't you?
You can forgive a horse a fall first time as long as they learn from it, and he's come out and he's finished 4th and 2nd, and his runs have been progressive. I just think he just could be sneaking in here off a nice weight.
He was one of these horses that, when they run that trials meeting every year, Gordon Elliott always enters sort of 3 or 4, just in the handicap, just to get an idea of what mark the British handicapper might allot them. And I always take a note of those horses that have been entered at the trials meeting, because then I know that Gordon Elliott has a handicap in mind for them at the festival, and Galvin was one of those.
Well, I did some interviewing with Elliot last week, and he said, please don't ask me about the handicaps because Eddie O'Leary and all that sort of thing, and I snuck in this Galvin because I wanted to know, and he didn't look over the moon at me when I asked him the question in amongst everything.
And the money's coming from now.
He has looked like a horse that's been waiting for this race. The ground would be a slight issue, I think. I don't think there's any much doubt he would like drying ground. Let's go to YouTube. We've got a comment on YouTube, and it's Jack Marsh. Got one on Daily Tiger and Champagne Court. Who else is with me on that one? Got one on Daily Tiger and Champagne Court. Well, I'll start. Champagne Court. We had Nick Schofield on the first ever show of What a Shout, and they said it was all about. If you remember, he won at Sandown on his chasing debut, having finished 2nd in the Silver Trophy at Chepstow. That's right. Well, we're getting there. And then he came to Trials Day, G, and he was 5th behind Of course, Simply the Bet's an Imperial Aura, and on the slopes, looking like the ground might have just blunted him slightly, but he was back off a break there. This has been the big target, and I know they do think he is of graded material. Is he a bit bigger than he should be?
They have always thought he was a good horse, and he ran in that race, which has thrown up loads of Cheltenham Festival winners, as we were saying earlier, behind the Imperial Aura, and he travelled very well coming down the hill. But he was immensely disappointing with his finishing effort. I mean, he really weakened badly.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
So is the ground a slight worry?
So either the ground is a slight worry, or he wasn't fully fit on that first run after November. Maybe they left a little bit to work on with this.
Just given his sire, his by a sire called Court Cave, who tend to want better ground, and obviously we're positive Imperial Aura, who's by Calanisi, the same sire as the Conditional, who obviously won earlier in the day.
Good
so
shouts.
sires is something I always look at, especially in the business I'm in now. And just been by Court Cave, it would just concern me that the ground would be against him.
I think, Jack, on that front, that Nick Schofield mentioned something about the bit of ground. I wouldn't put you off him at all. What about his Daily Tiger, talking about horses coming back off a break? Not seen him since he was third in the Grade 3 at Cork. Handicap debutant Noel Mead, capable of shaking up a handicap.
Always famous for not having Cheltenham winners, wasn't he? Do you remember all those years ago when he used to be
to dominate the? Yeah, it was a big thing, G. You're right. I don't know if younger viewers out there, it used to be the thing, didn't it? Dominate, come to Cheltenham, couldn't get them over the line.
Noel Mead would never have a winner there. But in some ways nowadays, his horses go under the radar a little bit in the market, particularly in Ireland, because he plays second fiddle behind Gordon Elliott and Willie Mullins, but he still bangs in plenty of winners.
That's evoking Cheltenham memories, isn't it? Let's think about this. Of course, the winners he has had. One of the reasons why I got into racing, and a serious thing, was because Sausalito Bay. Do you remember he won the Supreme? Do you remember who he turned over in that race? Jim Cullity didn't get great press.
Best mate.
It was best mate. It was best mate. And he also, talking about turning over superstars, future Gold Cup horse, he won with, was it Mr. Nosey?
Yeah,
In the
maybe.
when it was called the Sun Alliance, when the Ballymore was called the Sun Alliance. Can you remember who he beat that year? It was Denman.
Was it?
Denman
Yeah.
went off an absolute warm order, yeah. And
I
so
do remember
he
that.
has
a habit of not winning the races you think, Archibald, etc. But can
Daily
surprise.
Tiger's in this, and he's been campaigned at shorter trips up until now, and obviously he steps up in trip. Now people would see that as a positive or negative, but whether they've been keeping their cards closer to the chest and he actually wants this 2.5, you'd think that something like the Grand Annual would have been the shout had it had 2 miles been his optimum trip.
What do we make of Plotting Shed? Because this is 33, 40, 50 to 1, something like that.
Was
And
he
I
favourite
thought
this race?
he had a
I backed
chance.
him last year, I think.
What
Was he
was
running
it?
this last year?
I backed him when he was under Davy Russell and Elliott. He jumped terribly, but I mean, this would be another story.
But
wouldn't it?
if you take his run at Plumpton last time out, literally, now obviously it's not always wise to do so. He's got a huge chance. I mean,
Remind me who he
he
beat there,
absolutely
Jim.
thrashed Who Dares Wins, who came out and won next time and didn't run badly earlier in the Ultima. And not only did he thrash him, he was giving him £5. And watch that race back, and the Plotting Shed is cruising at turning for home.
He can just over race. I think sometimes, in my opinion, he can just do it too hard from the front. Plumpton, you often get a smaller field, and if you over race, you can get away down that hill and jump those 3 well, and you can always put the race to bed. You do that down the hill here, you've still got to get back up another one. So
That's my only worry with him. Is obviously testing ground, really testing ground. Will he do too much? But at 50 odd to 1 or whatever
He's
he is,
90s on the 95.
So Neil, we've heard our selections. We'll get a reminder and a recap in a minute, but tell us yours.
I actually fancy, despite the £12 rise, I'm actually quite sweet on Hold the Note.
good chance. Yeah.
I thought that Connections won it with Mr. Whittaker
Yeah.
in 2018. He was second in a Grade 2 last time at Warwick. The winners come out and was second in the Reynoldstown behind Copperhead. The third was fourth behind Mr. Malarkey in that Kempton race. The fifth was second in the Towton. I just think it's a really strong piece of form. And he hit like 1.6 in running there.
Now that's the
before.
interesting thing.
And so this drop back in trip.
My worry about him having back 2 for gold in that Warwick race, I don't think he went past.
Yeah.
So he could be a horse that goes low, couldn't he, as well?
I just really fancy it because before that as well, he ran in that really useful handicap chase on Boxing Day that Comanche Red won, I think. And he got pulled up because something fell in front of him, and so they just pulled stumps on him immediately. Okay. But he was travelling really nicely down that back straight. I quite sweet on him, really.
They're turning around. They're turning around.
Galvin, there's been money for Galvin. He looks like he's short.
proper gamble now.
He's joined.
He's almost fine.
Him and Imperial Order are pretty much
for Ronnie Bartlett of Simon Sig fame, of course. Okay, so 4-1 the field. Pretty much we're expecting the SBs to be, but Galvin is challenging hard. Shorter than you
joint
thought he'd be,
favourites.
G.
Yeah, he's a lot shorter than I thought he'd be. Obviously,
Joint favs.
the Elliott battalions, they're not off the mark yet, are they?
No, indeed. Near miss in the first with Abacadabra. Still went blinded, didn't he?
No Gordon Elliott winners, no Willie Mullins winners.
Right, lads, I'm feeling this. I am feeling this. Just, of course, one non-runner in this. Mellow Benners was confirmed yesterday. It's fierce, it is fast and furious. Let's see who's lining up at the front, Tinks.
Champagne Mystery on the inside. You've also got Champagne Court is up there. Watmore's going to take a prominent role. He dropped in last time around Kempton and he looked like he got the 3 miles but ridden patiently, so aggressive over this trip would suit him. I'm not sure he wants the ground this soft. Beakstown looks like he's getting a good start, but from this start everybody wants to get a good start because you've got 3 fences in a row, and then like on the hurdle course where Lady Buttons was keen, you then circle around and you're on the descent for a long time.
Let's hope this is like the Ultima, the one race that hasn't been started from a standstill so far. That's also going to be another narrative, isn't it, at the end of the day? We should say that no jockeys so far have been reported for being in trouble with that.
What will happen here is the pressure will come from the outside because they've all got to get round this outside rail to get onto the track. So the horses on the inside are there. So the ones on the outside end up cantering like the horse on the outside. And Precious Cargo will cause a false start at the moment because he's having to make ground to come around the outside. It's be a standing start again. And they're off.
He's let them go. He's let them go, Tinks. That was a surprise. But Espoir de Guy did not get a good start. Real anti-post fancy. I'm not sure why he's out the back so much under Charlie Deutsch. Have to have a look back at the start. But up front, Champagne Mystery, as expected, a horse that can take a big keen. Second to Grianatine. Grand Annual fancy next time. Champagne Court, is that up there as well, Tinks?
He was up there. Galvin made a bad mistake at the first. Champagne Court's up there, upside Champagne Mystery, so easy to get mixed up between the two champagnes. But once they've jumped these 3 and they get round the bend and they almost at the Grand Annual start, then they'll start steadying things up. And
yeah, the market doesn't like...
lost 2 there.
Whoa!
Night in Dubai has gone.
Connor Schumacher down, Dan Skelton. I'm not sure who else we lost there. We'll get the guys to maybe see if we can get this.
Jarvis play.
Don't forget, guys, we are back tomorrow. We're back for all of the days at Cheltenham Festival. It's been brilliant today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, Twitter. However you're watching this, please tune in again tomorrow. We're loving it. And we hope you are too on Racing Post Live as we get back to the 450 and see the drama unfolding up front. Imperial Aura, lads, how's our place late running bet going?
Yeah, we haven't hit the mark yet. He's still at the same price as he was when we started, about 5.5. Galvin.
But gee, you've got to be happy with this, right?
Yeah, he's in a great position, Imperial Aura, just where I was hoping he might be, just in behind the leaders, and he should stay well.
They don't look like they've gone very quick, Tinks, despite the fact they're strung out.
They're just steadying up now. So Jerry has obviously been keen of it, and he's obviously set his horse alight to get a good start, and now he's just trying to just steady the ship a little bit, especially with his stablemate on the outside. The last thing you want to do is be taking on your own stablemate.
Neil Hubbard, hold the note. A horse we're expecting to go low in running at some stage. On the outside, a little bit keen?
A little bit keen, but I'm happy enough with him, really. He seems to have ended up on that outside. Earlier on, he was a lot more central, but okay with him, really.
We called an error from Galvin at the first, Tinks, and Elliot did say in print this morning, a little bit worried about his inexperience. Just the 3 runs and an F next to his name. How's he jumping now?
He's jumping better now. He's got to the outside of Beakstown and was jumping across him a little bit, and he's got himself a nice position. He just wouldn't, when this pace slackens a little bit and when he quickens, he just would hope he's in the right position. But Davy's an absolute master around here, and he'll ride him with lots of confidence.
And look who's got herself into a rather nice position again. Graham Rodway, Trainwreck, who's been talked up for this. Henry de Bromhead, Rachel Blackmore going for a quick double. Perfect position, isn't it?
Yeah, the informed Rachel Blackmore, who obviously pulled off that magnificent move last race with Honeysuckle to win the race. Yeah,
Beakstown,
she's got a nice place.
Where's Beakstown?
He's down the inside in the orange. He's going well. Travelling around. Galvin's right behind him.
They look like they've slowed it up, lads, to me. They look like they've slowed it up. Where's Daily Tiger for Jack out there? He's at the back, Jack, at the moment, ridden with the trip in mind. He's not really asked him a question yet. What's that in the Michuka, in the Jones colours? The Sublime colours, that's catching my eye a little bit out there.
Yeah, that's going very well. Donald McInerney, one of the best claiming riders in Ireland this season. So Galvin was a little bit short of room there, but you also wouldn't want him to be winging fences at this stage because he'd be landing too competitively in the race.
Where are we at the moment with Imperial Aura?
They're jumping into the... Precious Cargo's having a nice
there
time.
from Imperial Aura. Was that a mistake or was it...
Galvin made another bad mistake, but he's getting put off by Beaksdown slightly. He was jumping out to his right.
Highest sun for Colin Tizard going in snatches. Tizard needs to get bounced back, doesn't he, after that disappointment of Fiddlers on the Roof. Out the back of the Cotswolds, there was a bit of money for him. He's fiddling them. Paint the Dream looks like he's in a bit of trouble. What about the Plotting Shed, Robbo? What do you think?
Right at the back.
Yeah, he's right at the back. This is how I thought they might try and ride him.
Okay.
Try and switch him off.
Pick up the pieces type right. Just making ground now as Espoir de Guy. Look, tailor-made for this when he won it December at Ascot. Not been seen since, but you expect these Venetia horses to be up there, don't you? But he's circling the field, Rodders.
Yeah, he's coming through nicely, but I'm very happy with our position on Imperial Aura.
What price are we going, Neil?
5.8, bigger than he was when he started.
That's because they've crawled, surely.
Galvin's favourite at 4.7.
Okay, right, we're warming up now, lads. Tinks, this is a key part of the race.
Key part of the race, and Galvin needs to get a good jump here, and he also needs to get out of a bit of traffic. But I think Davey's happy with his. Haffy's got plenty of horse underneath him. Beaksdown has travelled very impressively.
David Bass just starting to get a little bit jiggy now on Imperial Aura, pulled him out for a run. Beaksdown's absolutely cruising. Precious Cargo leads, though, into this tricky third last. They come up. Precious Cargo not great. Imperial Aura's fine. Champagne Mystery wasn't great there. Trainwreck not great. They hold the note all of a sudden coming off. Daily Tiger is making a bit of ground from the back, as is Highest Sun. Galvin not moved an inch, lads.
We're matched on Imperial Aura. We're matched on Imperial Aura.
We're matched on Imperial Aura. Ring the bell. Will Davy Russell get the run? He's trying to be kept in there by Sean Flanagan. What at the moment? Here comes Imperial, though. He's hit the front, lads. Come on!
Come on, Galvin!
It's between him and Galvin by the looks of it. Daily Tiger's running the storm. Go on, Imperial. Get on up there. Come on then. Go on then, Davy Bass. It's between Galvin and Imperial. A Beaksdown giving it the run as well. Hold the note. Try. Come on then. Over the last, Davy Bass. Come on then, Imperial. Keeley is not low in the seat anymore. He's going for it. Come on, boys. The bookmakers are taking an absolute basting here. Galvin running on for second. Not a chance. Hold the note running on in third. Beaksdown and one more. But this is Gamble landing. Happy days, boys. Congratulations. They won't be happy with me clapping my hands like that or banging the desk, but we will make an exception. Neil Hubbard.
All good.
Fantastic.
All good. So we got our lay matched, and we got obviously our pre-match, our pre-race bet landed as well. So yeah, we had a risk-free bet on Imperial Aura.
Wasn't that beautiful?
Risk-free profit.
It had to happen at some point during the show, didn't it?
And Galvin ran unreal.
Galvin has run a stormer. We'll dissect the form straight away afterwards. David Bass looks absolutely over the moon. A little bit disappointed, of course, earlier with Vindication. It was so near but so far for him, I suppose, coming up the running. They have had faith in this horse from the start, Graham Rodway. The trip was right, the drying ground was right. He was always in the right place.
Yeah, that was everything that you wanted. If you'd backed Imperial Aura, after he got through those first three tricky fences and turned around that bend and he was in second or third, you knew that if he hit the front, it was going to take a very, very good performance to come and beat him because he stays so well.
And unlike last year, you have to say that the form looks pretty solid, doesn't it? We're talking about Watmore, you gave a good mention to, Tinks. He's run on to make the frame, probably looking like a horse that probably stuck between trips, but he brings that Racing Post chase form into it. Hold the note, graded form at Warwick. He's kept on up the hill despite coming under pressure a long way out. Galvin, inexperience, I think we have to say, is costing the two. Again, have come clear, but Beaksdown, bang there as well in fifth. Solid form. Are we looking at a horse that could take the step up to the Ryanair next year? Tinkler?
Yes. 7 years old.
Yes.
Yep, I think so.
Well, we're not going to say no, are we? I haven't seen Gamble there. Happy days. The coffers are bulging all of a sudden. Neil Hubbard, come to you for the story of the race exchange-wise.
Yeah, so Galvin hit 1.5 in running, so 2's on in the run, and Imperial Aura hit a high of 7.6 during the race. So not sure exactly when, because he was always up there. But yeah, I guess it will be when Galvin hit 1.5, obviously.
Would the body language of a jockey like Davy Russell affect the market a lot?
Yeah.
But he's a very quiet rider, rides with a lot of confidence, and he's obviously nursed that horse round. That's his style of riding anyway. But because the horse has the odd jumping issue and it's its first time in a very competitive handicap, he's going to ride quietly. Therefore, he could visually look like he's got a lot more horse underneath him than he has. Does that have an effect on the market?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those race reading skills are where you can really have an advantage if you're playing him running. If you know those sorts of little things, things, then that won't always necessarily be factored into the market if you have got a view on it, and that's where you can take advantage of it for sure.
I find quite often that if I'm betting in running on races, then jockeys that have got particularly quiet styles like Davy Russell, if I see them jump off in front, I know they're going to be trying to save and save and save and save. So I know that horse is probably going to trade shorter in the round.
And one thing we knew, having seen him here on trials day, he's a strong stayer. So conceding first run was probably always likely, wasn't it? But getting him back is just proven too much for Galvin. There's a big day in Galvin, no doubt, and that trip might be interesting as well on some sound surface when we might get that. Let's get the result then up on screen of the Northern Trust Company Novices Handicap Chase to 450. We're flying now, aren't we, on the first day, the penultimate race before the end. Our final race here on the show, we should say, Imperial Aura. Team Gamble, Galvin in second, Hold the Note third, Watmore fourth, and Beakstown for Team Skelton. Hit the crossbar a little bit today, back in fifth. Whew! Dust has settling then, lads. That was a really dramatic race to watch, wasn't it?
And a good race to watch, and I like it when instead of class horses come to the fore, it's a handicap. But when you're looking at what potentially could be a graded horse come to the fore in a handicap and be backed up by form horses, i.e. Watmore's running a race in post. Galvin's obviously an improver. The more experience he gets, I mean, he could go on and win a Punchestown handicap, no problem, on the back of that. So, really good race.
Year in, year out, these races, handicaps in particular over fences, and we might see it in the 4 miler, now 6 miler or whatever it is. After this, when we look at our replays, you want to be up there, Graham, don't you?
Yeah, not only because obviously you miss any trouble, and in huge field handicaps like this around Cheltenham, then if you're a hostage to fortune if you're coming from a little way back, and that's the beauty of being on a horse like Imperial Aura, who obviously got a little bit of tactical speed, enough tactical speed to hold in there, but stays so well.
Precious Cargo came down at the last, but happy to say Nico and Precious Cargo quickly up. Let's talk about some of the potential disappointments in the race. Trainwreck didn't get home, did he? I was expecting him to be having more of a say there. Daily Tiger, for Jack, our YouTube comment, he actually ran well, didn't he? He had to work hard to get him into contention, but he was there 3 out, still there turning for home. Trip, would they be thinking, right, 2 mile handicap there, Aintree?
They could well be thinking that, or given his connections, Albion Kickinstown, that they've obviously made hay with Tiger Roll, but they tend to keep their cards close to the chest in the Aintree department and save him for Punchestown, so he could go there for a handicap. But what I do think is a lot of winners will come out of that race. I think it was highly competitive. Yeah,
a lot more competitive than last year. I think we are definitely all agreeing on that. Champagne Court ground.
Yeah, sounds look that way, and Tink's made a great point about the sire. He's not always to give up on. He has got loads of ability, but he might be more dangerous if we get to Aintree and if we get to the bigger spring meetings, maybe somewhere like that.
Even I was going to say even Ayr, where you're going to get. Obviously, we're in a winter this year that has been very, very wet, but it has to dry at some point, and up at Ayr it can dry in a day. So.
Happy scenes for David Bass and Kim Bailey then. And Dave Bass, as he said in the paper today, he's only there 1 day.
And this walk he's got in now is just the best feeling in the world.
Mate, you've done it twice.
You're very lucky, but it's the best. You own the audience. That is what you get up for in the morning. That's what you sit in the bath for, sweating. That's what that's what you want to do when you want to be a jockey. So to walk in on the biggest stage, it's I can't even explain how good it is. It must be like the same as scoring the final goal in Wembley. And
what about Paul Keeley, Graham? This is going to be evil, isn't it? This is going to be potentially record stuff we're talking about here.
Yeah, he's going to be happy boy, isn't he, Keeley?
Yeah, and all through the next winter, and even if he's getting everything wrong, through the flat campaign...
Forget the couch. He'll be on a throne next time we see him.
The diary room chair, Paul, will be absolute... If we get him back in the diary room after that, of course, which is what we're calling his Racing Post farm room. Down there, he is on track for us all week, Paul, giving us some absolute pearls. Lads, okay, so we've come to the end of our races for the day, but we can now dissect exactly what we think. First of all, it's been an absolute pleasure. I thank you very much for that. We're not wrapping up quite yet. We've got plenty to talk about still. But yeah, you've enjoyed yourself, Tinks?
Loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me.
You head into the first day, don't you, of the Cheltenham Festival, and you think, this was totally different for you, by the way, isn't it? 100%. Last year you were on, 2 years ago you were there, and here you are, and have you seen things that you probably would never see before, would you?
Yeah, I think when you're a jockey, you're always digesting form and you're watching every race and you're always looking at form. Seeing it from the other side, how analysts look at it, I've really enjoyed that side of it. And even doing the odd Cheltenham preview with the likes of Sam Turner and people, really seeing how they digest form and how they analyse things in their own mind. Where from a jockey's point of view, sometimes we can just go on purely the individual or its preference of track or preference of ground, when actually form is form at the end of the day, and it's getting the balance between the two.
Well, you've been a star, Tinks, and we'll have you back any time. Rob Waite?
Yeah, been a great
Slow
day.
start.
A great day in the end. I must admit, after the first 3 races, I thought I was going to be walking out here with my tail between my legs.
Still have you at half time. I thought you're going to be like Neil and jumping into the lake. Never mind shit.
It never fails to amaze me as a punter. You know how you can have such a terrible few races, and then all of a sudden 1 or 2 races can make the day for you.
Neil Hubbard, first of 4 days for you. We've got Neil for the rest of the meeting. How's it gone?
I thought it was really enjoyable. For all of the sort of chatter around the ground and stuff, if you look, I was just noting down the winners. Shishkin, probably put the kettle on, it was a surprise, but Shishkin, the conditional, Epatante, Honeysuckle, Imperial Aura, it's pretty much what you might have thought if you were coming in here. So for everything about the ground and how it's been riding and stuff, the fancied sort of horses, I know Shishkin drifted and stuff, but actually like the form horses or the talking horses or the right horses, whatever you want to call it, sort of come to the fore so far.
There was a lot of anti-post business on Shishkin, wasn't there? I think we can say that. So it's been a gettable day, hasn't it?
Yeah.
With the highs and lows. It's going to change throughout the week. Let's talk about people that will... Okay, let's get a line on the last, actually. We're not going to preview the last for you live, but we will get a line on it. Are we with Carefully Selected? Are we with something completely different? Andrew Tinkler.
I just think with the price his jumping has to be a concern, and with the stable just having a winner and Vindication running so well, Newtide for me is a very likeable character, and I like him a lot. He's got also top Mr. B. O'Neill. If he's not a name you recognise, he's top notch from the Irish point-to-point scene, and there'd be very little better.
Yes, and just touching on that, riders in this race is all important, isn't it? Really, you can get the odd surprise if you like, but Barry O'Neill would have had his pick of the rides, a lot of rides away from
pretty much. I obviously Patrick's riding for Willie, but you've got Jamie Codd, who is top class, Derek O'Connor, Barry O'Neill. They're the top lads in Ireland, and they're farming point-to-points weekend in, weekend out. So they would pretty much get the pick of these rides, because there is only one Cheltenham, and whilst these yards do have amateurs working the yard, there is only one Cheltenham, and they tend to go for the top lads.
He's a big boy, Newtide. Talking about big boys, Mr. Rob Way.
Carefully Selected has obviously got the best chance, no doubt about it, but the price is rotten there for everyone to see. I wouldn't be saying there can be a huge amount of value in Carefully Selected going around here at that sort of price. 3 miles, 6 furlongs, bunch of fences to face, big field. I thought it was worth taking a chance on the one that he beat last time, which was Forza Milan. James Nash, I think his name is, Irish trainer. Derek O'Connor booked, so one of the best in the business. We've seen this before. I can't name the horse exactly, but something looks right about this horse. You know, as a tipster sometimes, you just go, that just looks right. I can't tell you why. I can't really tell you why. It just looks right. That horse has just got the right profile of a horse that I would look for in this race.
Half brother to One for Arthur.
So should stay well, and has been brought along slowly with this race in mind. I think you're going to see an improved performance from Forza Milan. Hopefully he can reverse the form with Carefully Selected from Nace last time, but he's an each way price if you want to bet against the favourite anyway. So even if he were to run to a similar level to what he did to Carefully Selected last time, and Carefully Selected go and win, you would say that Forza Milan has to be close to him.
Having listened to that, Neil Hubbard, are you jumping ship or?
Well, I'm in the same ship in terms of taking on Carefully Selected with the horse who's officially the best one in it on official ratings, which is Lord de Meny. Okay, a lot of his form has been achieved on flat tracks around Haydock, but he's been doing that over 3.5 miles on heavy ground. So when it comes to ground, tick, trip, tick, I don't know. In terms of just trying to take on the favourite, I'm quite happy to...
And doing what you just did with the winner there, Imperial Aura, he is a front runner who wears his heart on his sleeve, and he if now the price is looking at that screen, he is one who could trade an awful lot shorter in running. And
did anyone honestly think that
Absolutely.
Carefully Selected would be hitting that with what? Well, I don't know, we've got like 15 minutes to the race, haven't we, or something like that. 20 minutes to the race. Did Graham Robbo, I'll come to you quickly. Did you really think he'd be touching, what's that, 5-4, 11 to 10?
No, I thought we'd be looking around 9-4, 2-1. I thought he might drift, especially considering it's not been the greatest of days for Willie Mullins so far. He's had 2 hot pots beaten already, but obviously the Irish boys are going in again, try and head down, and let's stick with another favourite. Let's hope that he gets the business done.
But I suppose, the gettable results, which we were saying, Imperial's just landed it. They've just basically had a 4-1 favourite going in. The bookies are now, all of a sudden, after the first 3 races, they're now taking cover. Happy days.
And sometimes this race in the past has been a bit of a war zone with a bigger field, and obviously because of that, they've dropped the trip down a little bit. Albeit that said, I think the favourites jumping won't come under quite as much pressure, even though the trip is shorter, because with a smaller field, sometimes this attracts 20 runners, and therefore and 7 of them or 8 of them shouldn't be there, and they're just getting away.
Yeah, could this be like the Triumph? Remember when they brought the Fred Winter in, and that changed the nature of the Triumph hurdle?
It could just be a case of he could be able to go around on the bridle to a point, but I'm just concerned about his jumping.
Tactical masterclasses we've had here in the studio. From the chaps, Tinks, good luck for the rest of the week. Enjoy it. Good luck tomorrow if you bump into Keels in the Guinness Village. Give us a winner later on in the week. Anything, just very quickly.
I think Solo has got a great chance in the Triumph.
That'll do you. Graham Rodway, I will probably see you in the office taking out your pearls, but a winner, please.
I like Concertista, who's running in the Mares Novices Hurdle, finished 2nd in the race.
As a maiden.
Last season, and he's still a maiden this year, so he's able to run again, finished 3rd behind Black Tears in a hot race at Leopardstown last time.
Neil Hubbard, thank you very much for today.
Absolute pleasure. We'll see
Giving
you
us all
tomorrow.
your technical wizardry and also a couple of big shouts as well. See you tomorrow, Neil. That's it for myself, Dave Orton. Wow, the first day of Cheltenham Festival. It is done. Racing Post Live in conjunction with the Betfair Exchange. Don't forget, keep commenting on this if you're watching a replays or whatever you're doing on our YouTube channel, Facebook. We absolutely love it. Let us know you're there. We'll give you a shout tomorrow. Until then, champion chase time. Be lucky.